Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description. Koby's Choice, Paradise by Sword of the Gods Axe Hand. Morgan single-handedly shattered Koby's faith in the Marines, breaking his dreams. If a pirate is the first one to ever show you kindness in a world run by a corrupt justice, who do you follow? Well, the future king of the pirates, of course, luffyxharem. I don't own anything. Adios. I am really sorry for neglecting his channel. From now, I will be constant in this channel also.
Naamii. Her name was the only thing the navigator registered before the wooden doors all but exploded. Shards of wood lanced inward from above Nami and Chopper, a particularly large one soaring through the air to stab the bear rug in the chest. The picture zombies cried out in panic as a fist sped out almost too fast to see to punch the first one that had talked in the face, her frame torn off the wall and her form flying past a shocked Mary to crash into the wall by the stairs. Hilden shrieked and took wing, vanishing into the darkness of the hallway behind him, crying, "Bodyguard, bodyguard." Time seemed to halt as the newcomer skidded to a stop, his arm snapping back to its proper length and the pink tinge in his skin fading along with the steam in the air. He lifted his bowed head, cold eyes scanning the room for threats through the shadow of his hat. "Captain Luffy," Mary yelled, dashing over to hug the rubber man around the waist. Luffy's icy gaze broke, a smile coming to his face as one of his hands patted the klabouterman on the head between her horns. "Hey, Mary," the captain muttered, idly noting that Nami and Chopper were behind him and that Usopp was on the chandelier with only one candle. "Is everyone alright?" "Yeah." The little fairy smiled, looking up at the team captain. "Mrs. Nami was attacked by a pervert while we were in the baths, but I hit the guy real hard and he went away, and there were these zombies that attacked us in the graveyard out there, but Uncle Usopp wouldn't let me fight them." Mary pouted cutely. "Zombies, huh?" Luffy chuckled, not laughing only because he was keeping an eye on the monsters around the room. He was also definitely not amused at the information about the pervert. He had enough on his plate dealing with Sanji and now Frankie. "So that's what they are. I thought they were just some stupid old guys with serious injuries." "I know, right?" Mary agreed. "That's what I thought they were at first, too." "Luffy," Usopp yelled, flinging his last candle at a pig's head that threw a second sword at him. "Help!" With a single stretch of his arm, the team pulled the sniper from his precarious perch none too gently. Usopp landed with a soft OOMF. "Who is this?" a picture zombie hissed, eyeing the behatted pirate. Luffy fixed the thing with a glare as he pulled off his hat and dropped it on his lover's head. "Nami, watch my hat," he muttered. Stepping forward, the rubber man cracked his knuckles audibly and stared down the murderous decorations. The bear rug zombie, having finally managed to put out the fire, seemed undeterred from the giant splinter in its chest and lunged with a battle cry. Luffy didn't even blink, shifting just out of the way of the bear's claw-like paper. Grabbing its head, Luffy hurled the living undead rug upward toward the chandelier where the zombie's thin body was stabbed multiple times by the hanging item. The bear roared in anger, flailing around to try to pull itself off to no avail but to only dig itself deeper. "You'll pay for that," the female picture hissed, lunging forward with claws outstretched. Luffy glanced her way with a cold look, causing the beam to slow with second thoughts. Mary capitalized on the zombie's indecision, rushing forward to beat her back into her portrait with her wooden hammer. The zombie seemed to pass out with several lumps on her head. "We seem to have some intruders," a low voice commented, the words echoing through the mansion with the clack, clack, clack of wooden sandals. The words seemed to come from the hallway Hilden had fled into. "I guess it's my job to expel them, yo-ho-ho-ho." That laugh, Chopper gasped. "Brook?" Nami asked. The figure slowly moved into viewing distance, and it was not Brook. The creature was another zombie, but this one stood in a much more regal pose, walking forward with no noise but that from its shoes. Its yellow-greenish skin was mostly covered by an embellished white kimono with a blue scarf, and a katana in a black and red sheath rested at its side. The zombie stared at the pirates. Though it did not have eyes, her gray hair styled into a topknot. And, though the zombie did not have lips, Nami thought it was smiling. "That is not Brook," Mary muttered uneasily. "That is definitely not Brook." "Indeed, I am not," the zombie agreed, the other zombies shrinking back into their frames and away from the undead samurai. "My name is Ryama, but that will be no concern of yours soon. Yo-ho-ho," drawing its blade, the zombie charged. "This is the strangest island I've ever visited," Robin muttered as the group trudged forward, deep footprints in the path marking their captain's trail. Coby roared every few minutes, trying to ward away anything that was smart enough to be a threat. Each time he did, however, Grace would roll over on his back and smack him in the side before grumbling and going back to sleep. Every time after that, Jin would quietly laugh at Coby and make whipping sounds, receiving nothing more than an irritated glare from the Triceratops in return. Negative. Negative. Something chanted, the sound bouncing through the trees. Negative, negative. Who's there? Zoro demanded, a hand falling to grab the hilt of Wado Ichimonji. The strange chanting continued and out of the trees floated a ghost exactly like the one that had been on the Sunny. It drifted around the group, laughing and replicating until 4 identical spirits circled the pirates. Amy thrust her umbrella at one as it floated by her, but it did nothing but pass through the ghost without resistance. They ain't solid, Frankie observed. Still, I want to try something. Fresh fire. A stream of flames erupted from the cyborg's mouth, engulfing one of the ghosts. The ghost in question did not move and, when the flames dissipated, was shown to be unharmed. The spirit dove forward, passing through the shipwright's chest. Frankie dropped to all fours. I'm worthless, the cyborg moaned. I'm not super today. Nothing I've done this week is super. Nothing I've ever done is super. I'm not even fit to be a dog food can. Geez, Frankie, Jin muttered. I know your attack didn't work, but isn't that a little excessive? Another ghost flew down, this one passing through the lightning man. He fell beside his friend. What am I saying? I'm not even worthy to power a nightlight. Kya ha ha ha. Amy laughed, bringing her parasol down to whack both of the depressed pirates on the back of their heads. Get up, you morons. A ghost flew through her. My chocolate is as sweet as my sense of humor, Amy whined. It'll never be famous. Grace would be better off without me. Negative. Negative. The ghosts continued to chant before laughing. Horo 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 horo. It appears these spirits have the ability to make you depressed if they touch you, Robin analyzed. Yet they cannot be touched. The ghosts each stuck out a long, pink tongue before flying off toward the castle. The pirates turned their attention to their sad companions.
I'm not carrying them, Coby muttered. Yo-ho-ho-ho. Despite the loud laugh, Ryuma was anything but playful. Upon the monster's initial attack, Luffy had shoved all of his crew members to the ground. The zombie samurai faded into view behind them, not moving. A few seconds later, the entrance doors that Luffy had busted through split, cut in half diagonally. Seeing that the pirates had avoided its strike, the zombie turned and inspected them in a new light.
How did you do that? The zombie questioned. Do what? Luffy responded, jumping to his feet. Dodge, Ryuma answered. I was moving too fast to see. I dunno, Luffy shrugged, bouncing on the balls of his feet in a fighting stance. I just kinda knew. You knew? You knew? We have never before met and you are already anticipating my attacks. If the zombie had lips, it would have smirked. The only thing that would make this better would be if you were a swordsman. The samurai lunged forward, this time visibly, to try to stab at the pirate. In response, Luffy brought his left leg up in a crescent kickdle, hitting the flat of the blade to redirect it to the side, while his right arm snapped forward to sock the zombie in the face. The undead backed away, avoiding the captain's fist. Get him! The other zombies cheered as if it was some sort of spectacle. Show that pirate who's boss. Shut up, Nami ordered, whipping out her clean attack and whacking a portrait zombie with the electrical end. There was a crack, a quick whiff of ozone, and the zombie went down with smoke rising from its mouth. It did not, however, disintegrate like the other one in the graveyard had. The rest of the undead shirked away from the ginger. What a terrifying creature, the pighead moaned. Mary threw her hammer at it, hitting the pig in the snout. It oinked his displeasure, its frame falling to the floor where it landed face first. The rest of its body, like that of a tiny pig, wiggled in an attempt to right itself without success. That's a really nice sword, Luffy thought aloud, not really worried about the fact that words telling him about his opponent's next moves were worming their way into his brain. Our swordsman is looking for a new one. A swordsman, you say? Ryuma stopped mid-swing, the table falling apart behind it. Its eyes would have glinted if it had any. Where is this swordsman you speak of? On the way here, Luffy answered, not really sure how he knew, but certain that Zoro and the others were in a group about halfway to the mansion. He's got green hair and 3 earrings. His name is Roronoa Zoro. Despite how strong Ryuma felt, Luffy was sure that the pirate hunter would come out on top out of the two of them. It was a win-win. A strong zombie gets taken out and Zoro gets a new sword. Just as Luffy had expected, not knowing how but knowing all the same, Ryuma sheathed his blade. I will come for you later, the zombie stated, turning toward the remains of the door. For now, I will go challenge your swordsman. Ryuma exited the mansion with an even gait. Thank Goda, Usopp cried, having forgotten about the other zombies now that the strongest one was gone. We aren't done with you yet, a picture zombie with a blonde bowl cut yelled, lunging out of its frame and causing Usopp to jump. Luffy cracked his knuckles again. Nami, Usopp, Chopper, Mary. Back me up. We've got some dead guys to beat up. Oh look, Jin muttered, rolling his eyes. A graveyard, how cliché. The soil is churned, Robin observed, using a sprouted arm to feel the dirt above one of the graves. Either these graves are fresh, or those buried aren't always buried. Zombies? Coby asked, receiving a nod from the woman. I never expected to be fighting zombies. Neither did I, Amy commented with a shake of her head. Though they were not talking loud enough to wake the true dead, the undead were a different story. A hand thrust itself out of the grave Robin had been inspecting, grabbing her arm before it scattered into flower petals. The zombie pulled the rest of its body from the ground as its brethren followed from their own graves. Zoro, Sanji, Jin, Coby and Robin looked on with blank looks. The dead coming back to life is so not super, Frankie muttered, pulling the flesh-like covering off of his right hand. Grace continued to quietly snore from Coby's back, blissfully unaware of the undead. Coby, Amy hissed. As much as I hate to say it, take my sister and get out of here. Her paints won't do anything on these zombies and I don't want her around to fight when she's defenseless. But don't argue with me. Throwing his eyes back at the blonde, Coby took off back the way they had come, Grace still snoozing on his back. Why the hell did you do that? Zoro demanded, Kitetsu 3 slicing through 2 zombies as they came within range. The undead that avoided the attack jumped back in surprise as their companions groveled in the dirt, clutching at their split bodies. Coby could have just watched and we don't know what's on this island.
Shut up. I wasn't thinking. Using her umbrella as a club, Amy swung at a zombie that got too close for comfort, the undead being batted away like a human-shaped baseball.
Let's just deal with these guys and call them back, Jin suggested, his tonfa knocking the heads off of zombies almost idly. I mean, really. The only thing these guys have going for them is their numbers. Hey, some of the undead called out as if to chastise the pirate. That hurts our feelings. Zombies have feeling? Frankie questioned. Rorinoa Zoro? A voice called from the other side of the graveyard. Are you here? I'm looking for you. Do you know anyone on this island? Robin asked, noting that the zombies were backing away to create a path. Zoro shook his head. No I don't. Your captain told me you were a swordsman, the voice continued. Ryama striding into the moonlight. I'm looking for a challenge. My name is Ryama. Yo-ho-ho-ho. This should be far enough, Coby panted, leaning his side on a sturdy-looking tree. The graveyard was just out of viewing range, but any loud noises should still reach him. Carefully, the young man shrunk down into his human mode, being careful not to drop his female cargo. Grace, he muttered, shaking her shoulder. Grace, wake up. Slowly, the young woman opened her eyes, blushing as a very close Coby came into focus. She scooted away awkwardly and pulled herself up. Where are we? She asked, eyeing the forest around them. I'm not really sure, Coby admitted, stepping up to stand beside the redhead. The others are in a graveyard filled with zombies and your sister told me to take you and run. Grace threw a sideways glance at the zone. Hey, you know how much your sister scares me. I ran without question. So now we're lost. We aren't too far, the swordsman answered. Just a couple minutes trot away. Amy didn't think your mood paint would work on dead corpses. My black paint would, Grace muttered. Why does she still treat me like I'm a kid? She's just worried about you. Something to the right of the duo snapped, causing Coby and Grace to instantly snap to fighting stances. Who's there? The bushes rustled. Look at this, a feminine voice cooed as its progenitor seemed to float out of the foliage. Several animal-like zombies followed. 2 little playthings. They aren't that cute, but maybe the cute ones will come to me for them. I think I'll add you 2 to my garden. Horo 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 horo. That was fun, Luffy yawned, stretching his muscles. Every zombie in the room was beaten and down, their forms littering the floor. Now where to go? I say we go back to the ship and leave right now, Nami suggested, whacking a portrait zombie that was crawling towards her. Luffy's hat remained on her head. Seconded, Usopp cried. But that's no fun, Luffy and Mary whined in sync before turning to each other. Jinx, double jinx. Guys, Nami scolded, punching both Luffy and Mary over the head, thankfully avoiding the fairy's horns. She also ignored Usopp's shout about not hitting Mary and Luffy grumbling about abusive relationships. We don't have time for this. I, for one, don't want our crew to have to fight another warlord. But we had to help Brook, Luffy pointed out. He's Nakama. No he's not, Usopp and Chopper denied. He's scary. I say we go this way, Luffy cheered, heading up the stairs from which Ryama had come. There's something big on this path. I can feel it. Mary hurried after the captain and, fearful of being left behind, the other 3 followed. My name is Ryama. Yo-ho-ho. The swordsman lunged forward in a blur of speed, only the distance between the 2 swordsmen giving Zoro the time needed to draw his 2 blades. Living eyes locked onto empty sockets as a shockwave burst from the blades. The sudden air pressure tearing the ground beneath the warriors asunder and blowing both pirates and zombies away. Zoro and Ryama jumped away from each other, sizing each other up. You are not like your captain, Ryama commented, yet you still blocked my attack. You said your name was Ryama, correct? Zoro questioned, reaching for his headband. Could it be that you are the legendary swordsman of Wano? I am, the zombie confirmed as the living man finished tying his headband. It was with this blade that I killed a mighty dragon. This is Shisui, one of the 21 Uwazimono. You don't see a sword like this every day. Oh, Zoro raised an eyebrow. Is it my turn to boast? Would you see before you are the Wado Ichimonji and Kidetsu 3, two of the famous Uwazimono blades like your Shisui. Though I am proficient with both 1 and 2 sword styles, I am a user of my own 3 sword style, so I'll be taking your Shisui as my own. I welcome you to try, the zombie responded, gesturing at the living warrior. The two gazed at each other for a second before they both blurred forward, the ground all but vanishing where they met in a flurry of strikes. They separated once more, breathing a little heavier and each peppered with superficial cuts. You are skilled, Zoro stated, gravestones and trees falling to pieces behind him. You as well, Ryama admitted, the fence and some zombies behind the general getting shredded to ribbons. Without moving, the undead warrior stabbed forward, causing an arrow of pink air pressure to race for Zoro. In response, the green-haired pirate raised his swords to send his own flying slash to meet the first. Pink and blue seemed to battle for dominance until both exploded. This guy is a whole lot stronger than the other zombies, Amy commented from the sidelines. Should we help? Jin asked, not quite sure if they should be attacking or not. No, Robin answered. He wouldn't want any help in a fight like this. Mosshead, Sanji muttered with an eye roll. Back on the battlefield, the two competitors raced toward each other for a third time. The shockwave produced outdoing both of the previous. Frankie, Robin, and Amy were able to keep their footing due to either their devil fruit powers or their weight. But Jin and Sanji didn't have the same luck and were picked up by the winds. They vanished into the trees. Yo-ho-ho-ho, Ryama cackled, his blade straining against both of Zoro's. It's been a long time since I faced a worthy adversary. Zoro didn't seem to care about the zombie's comment. He pulled back, putting distance between himself and his undead opponent. Falling into a low stance, Zoro crossed his swords in front of him. The samurai hummed. What is this energy you are building? Could it be that you know the uses of pure willpower? I was unable to test this technique in my last fight since my opponent surrendered, Zoro answered. I wish to see its effects on a swordsman of your caliber. Yo-ho-ho. Let's see it, then. The pirate's eyes narrowed in concentration. His gaze locked on Ryama as the zombie raised Shisui into a defensive position. Demon aura, Zoro growled, his arms only twitching as 2 other pairs seemed to materialize from his shoulders. 2 more faces seemed to sprout from the sides of his head, each new manifestation bearing its own sword save for the heads, Asura. Yo-ho! That is quite scary indeed, the zombie acknowledged. But can it defend? Ryama blurred forward in a show of speed, appearing in the air before his opponent almost instantly. Only one arm came up to catch the samurai's blade, both swords ringing with the blow. Your illusions are physical? The zombie gasped quietly, his eye sockets widening as gravity began to pull him to the ground. As soon as his wooden sandals made contact, Ryama backed away only an inch before his arm seemed to vanish. Zoro responded in kind, his whole body moving as each of his 6 swords intercepted every one of his enemy's stabs. Yes! Ryama cheered, 2 of Zoro's swords catching the zombie's Shisui in a cross block. I have not had a fight like this since I passed through Fishman Island when I was alive. Show me more, show me your conviction. Zoro's eyes hardened, faint black wisps of energy beginning to circle his blades unnoticed in the darkness. He threw all 6 of his arms out, shoving the zombie's sword upward before driving forward with 3 Wado Ichimonji in a triple horizontal slash. Ryama jumped, landing on the top sword for only a moment and leaping over the living swordsman in a flip. One of Zoro's Kitetsu 3 whipped up behind his head, catching Shisui before it could slice his head in 2. The blades scraped against each other as Ryama completed his spin and landed in a crouch. Without a moment's hesitation, Zoro spun with 3 Wado Ichimonji and 3 Kitetsu 3. Ryama brought Shisui up to block once more, but the force of the 6-fold strike sent him skidding away with his sandals carving twin trenches in the ground beneath him. Ryama smirked, or he would have if he had lips. I think I'll try something I saw another do long ago, Zoro said, placing his weight slightly backwards and the tips of his swords touching in the center. Octopus pot stance. Fireworks. He lunged forward, trying to push Ryama's sword to the side so his body would be open. The zombie, however, was able to flow around the attacks, stepping backwards until the living pirate slowed to a stop. So you have faced an octopus fishman swordsman in combat, Ryama observed. To defeat one is truly a feat. Zoro panted, sweat dripping down his forehead as his illusionary arms began to waver. The green-haired man snarled, trying to hold his apparent transformation in vain. His demon aura fell apart. What the hell was that? Frankie gasped. Beside him, Amy tried to form a coherent sentence. I've no idea, Robin responded, not taking her eyes off of the swordsman. It was certainly effective while it lasted. Damn it, Zoro cursed. Not long enough. Go, bodyguard. The zombies cheered from outside the duel. emboldened by the fall of the pirate's demonic technique. "Shut up, you pathetic morons." The undead swordsman shot back before his eye sockets found his foe. "You are truly a worthy opponent, Roronoa Zoro. I have never seen many of the abilities you possess without the use of a devil fruit." "I aim to hold the title of world's greatest swordsman," Zoro responded, bringing his two weapons up. "You should have expected no less." "I see," Ryuma nodded. "Then shall we finish this duel here and now? I am afraid that I am late for tea." The zombie rushed forward. Time seemed to slow for the Straw Hat's first mate as he slid both of his blades back into the speeding toward him. But to Zoro's eyes, he appeared to be moving at a snail's pace. Zoro's grip found the hilt of Wado Ichimonji as he closed his eyes and his breathing slowed. He stood relaxed.
And then it happened. There was no fanfare or loud cry. One moment Ryuma was rushing towards his opponent and then the two had passed each other at an almost leisurely pace. Zoro slowly resheathed Wado Ichimonji as the ground behind him split in two and a long, shallow cut opened across his right cheek into his ear which now had a separation between the top and bottom.
"One sword style," the green-haired man whispered as his beloved sword clicked back into place, blood oozing from his cheek and ear. "Death Lion Song." Ryuma made no sounds as a gash cut its way up across his body. Nor did he speak when said cut spontaneously began burning, an eerie blue flame growing to cover his body. The zombie turned. "You have bested me," he announced, resheathing Shisui and holding it out toward his foe. "The treasure of Wano has chosen its new master. It will rejoice in your grip. Treat it well." From one swordsman to another, Zoro nodded, taking the legendary sword. "You have my word." "Yo-ho-ho-ho." Ryuma smirked as well as he was able before turning his head up and opening his mouth. A black blob freed itself from his body just as the blue flames began to truly eat away at the skin. The powerful zombie burned to ash just as the bells of Thriller Bark began to chime with the coming of midnight. "Well, shit," one of the graveyard's zombies cursed. "Looks like we aren't going to have our nightly dance party." Zoro, Frankie, Robin, and Amy turned their attention on the group of undead, an unsettling gleam coming to their eyes. "I repeat. Well, shit." Horo 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 horo, Perona laughed, floating before her loyal animal zombies as the risky Squirrel brothers carried along a coffin. The sounds of battle could be heard coming from the graveyard off to the left, but who cared about those rotting, not cute zombies? She had two more playthings to play with until the others came for them. Maybe she could try to break them until their crew showed up. Then she could take the cute ones for herself. Perona looked to fit the part of a pink gothic princess. She stood, or floated, at Grace's height with pink curls that fell to her waist and big, black eyes. Her clothing was pink and white including a pink jacket over a white with black designs shirt and red boots that nearly reached her knees. A pink skirt sat over her white and black striped leggings and a pink gothic crown sat on her head. "How will I do this?" Perona mused to herself, floating up the stairs as the animals climbed. "Should I try to win their loyalty or break them with my negative hollows and question them about that cute deer and girl with the horns? I can't let Moria get to them before I'm done. They'd burn to ash and that wouldn't be cute at all." She reached the entrance to her section of the castle, her faithful servant, Kamashi, waiting for her at the door. "Welcome back, Mistress Perona," Kamashi rumbled in a deep bass. "Shut up, Kamashi," Perona snapped, floating by. "You aren't cute when you talk." The teddy bear-like zombie muttered an apology and hurried after his mistress. "Now listen, Kamashi. I have two more playthings, but I want them as they are. Chain them up in my room for me. Be careful, though. The boy has devil fruit powers like me, so make sure he's in seed prism stone chains. Understood?" "Yes, Ms. Air," Kamashi cut himself off and just nodded. "Good. You're learning. Now get to it. I'll be back in a few minutes after raiding the pirate's ship." Perona phased through a wall, ending the conversation. Kamashi heaved a sigh and directed the risky brothers to bring the coffin to Perona's chambers. The zombie squirrels did as bid, dropping the container along a wall on the opposite side of the bed. Not really having fingers of his own, the larger zombie directed the smaller ones to open the coffin, revealing Coby and Grace tucked in neatly, and chained them up. Nodding to himself once the two were properly chained to both the wall and each other, Kamashi waddled over to Perona's bedside and patiently waited for her soul to return. Resting on the bed was Perona's body, lying limp over the sheets with her head on a fluffy pillow. The body itself was completely independent of the soul wandering the island if the consistent rise and fall of her chest was of any indication. After about 7 minutes of silence, the male devil fruit user started to squirm. With a groan, the rosette pulled himself into a sitting position and tried to rub his eyes. The shackles around his wrists rattled, raising Grace's arms up. "Usopp," Coby moaned, still half asleep. "Not again." Yawning, the young man pawed at the chains to try to get them off, believing that the sniper had chained him and the painter together like he had once before reaching Water 7 as a joke. He had also chained Sanji and Zoro together, but that had nearly cost him his life. When Coby was unsuccessful at removing the restraints, he began to wake up and view his surrounding. They were in a pink bedroom decorated with creepy furnishings. The floor was covered in a green carpet that looked like grass, and a doorway on the left adjacent wall was framed by two teddy bear statues, the one on the right pink and the other blue with purple bones. A giant patchwork teddy bear with a doctor's mask over its mouth stood next to a red, four-poster bed on which laid the sleeping form of the woman that had captured them. Raising his hands, Coby went for his swords, but managed to do nothing but smack himself with the chains, weakening himself in the process, and pull the unconscious Grace closer by her wrists. The young man slumped, most of his energy sapped by both the time, it being sometime around midnight, and the sea prism stone. Kamashi watched without moving. Damn it, Coby cursed, his eyes drooping. He forced himself to remain awake. He was stronger than some stupid chains. Beside him, Grace began to stir. "I'm back," Perona called, phasing through the wall she had left from. The Straw Hats had a lot of money on their ship. Not really treasure, but we raided their food stores as well. Kamashi moved to answer before rethinking, only nodding to the spirit woman. Perona floated over to her body and slowly sunk down into it. With a tired yawn, Perona, no longer a lone spirit, rose up from the bed and stood on her own 2 feet. Despite Coby trying to stay quiet, Grace's entrance into consciousness alerted the woman to their presence. "Look, Kamashi," Perona cooed, "my playthings have woken up." She walked over to the 2 pirates and bent down so she was just above eye level to them. Reaching out, she cupped Koby's chin in one of her hands. The male grunted in response and jerked out of her grasp. The woman hummed. "This one's got spunk. We'll see how long that lasts." Horo 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 horo. Horo 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 horo. Negative hollow. Woo! Luffy cheered, Mary right behind him as they ran through the hallways of Thriller Bark, punching zombies as they passed. Nami, Usopp, and Chopper followed at a slower pace, having given up on trying to slow them down long ago. Luffy skidded to a halt at the next intersection, Mary's momentum shoving her into his back. The captain ignored the little fairy as his head turned to the left and right, scanning the 2 paths available to them. Nodding, her turned toward the rightmost path. "There are people that way," he said, pointing. "I can feel it." "Not that I'm questioning you, Luffy," Usopp began, "but you aren't even a little bit skeptical about this new 6th sense of yours? And shouldn't we be trying to, I don't know, avoid people?" "Of course not," Mary laughed, answering for the otherwise preoccupied captain. "Don't be stupid, Uncle Usopp. Bahahaha." "Come on," Luffy urged, starting down the path he had chosen, but at a considerably slower pace than before. "We'll listen in, and then attack." Sighing, the trio coward had no choice but to comply. Usopp and Chopper grabbed each other while Nami latched onto Luffy's back. They approached a turn and settled against the wall. Now hold on a moment," Hogback's voice stuttered. "See, can we just talk about this?" "No," a familiar, even voice replied. "Your master took my shadow, I want it back." But killing me won't help you," Hogback cried. Peeking around the corner, Luffy, Nami, and Mary saw the good doctor being held at sword point by a skeleton. Hogback had pressed himself against the wall as far as his girth would allow while Brook stood almost nonchalantly in the middle of the hallway, his sword cane resting on the doctor's jugular. 2 bodies lay unmoving on the floor on either side of the living skeleton. The first was shrouded in the shadows of the hallway, but the glow of a nearby lantern casted its light over the face of the second, showing her dead, blank eyes. It appeared that Sindri would never throw another plate. "No, it would not," Brook admitted. "But it would stop the creation of any more zombies. At least for a year or 2 until Moria finds some new quack as crazy as you are." "Why is Brook threatening Dr. Hogback?" Chopper asked, hiding backwards. Luckily, the 2 men down the corridor were too focused on each other to notice. "From what it sounds like," Nami answered, "Hogback is the one that's been making the zombies on the island. And he's working for the guy that stole Brook's shadow." "Listen, Hogback," Brook growled, stopping the Straw Hats' conversation. "I'm not a fan of killing, but that doesn't mean I won't. I'm a pirate, after all. But I'm also a reasonable man. Give me one good reason why I should let you live." "B-B because I'm a doctor," Hogback cried. "I've saved countless lives. I've conquered death like the disease it is." "At the expense of dooming your victims to lives of misery," Brook responded. At that moment, he looked and sounded nothing like the fun-loving skeleton that the Straw Hats had had dinner with just a couple hours before. "No one can truly conquer death, Hogback. We all die eventually." Light flashed off of Brook's sword and crimson liquid hung in the air for a single moment. Hogback's hands flew to his throat, clawing at the flesh in a vain attempt to stem the flow of red. The good doctor fell to his knees before slumping over and gurgling once more. Within seconds, he was as still as Sindri beside him. The Straw Hat's eyes widened, Usopp's hand over Chopper's mouth and Mary's around his waist being the only things keeping the reindeer from running out to confront the skeleton. Around the corner, Brook sighed heavily and wiped his blade clean on the late doctor's clothing. Luffy almost winced. He'd felt Hogback's death. No, more than that, he'd heard it. It must be done, Brook intoned, sheathing his sword. If I am to travel with those wonderful people I met, then I must get my shadow back. Even if I defeat my zombie, I cannot leave until Moria is stopped. I will not allow anyone else to fall to the same curse, as I only pray the souls of the dead may rest in peace by the time I'm done. Bells chimed from somewhere above, signaling the coming of midnight. Brook looked up. The night hunt is beginning, he muttered. I hope those pirates heeded my words and fled. He turned and started down the hallway, humming what sounded like a slow funeral dirge. So focused on his goal was the skeleton that he did not notice as a black blob slithered along the floor before coming to rest under his feet. His shadow had returned. Brook's form faded into the darkness at the end of the hallway, his sad singing dying away a minute later. The pirates remained as motionless as the bodies on the floor until all traces of the skeleton had gone. It was Usopp that broke the silence. Luffy, he hissed. You can't still want that thing on the crew, do you? I do, the captain nodded, deadly serious. Now was not a time for his usual, boisterous attitude. Why? Chopper wailed. He just killed Dr. Hogback in cold blood, he's a monster. I killed a man named Don Krieg before recruiting Sanji and Jin. Luffy responded as he turned his eyes on the other devil fruit user, his gaze hardening at the thought of that man. He hadn't thought about Krieg in months. I probably killed dozens during our rampage through Enies lobby to save Robin. Am I a monster? No, Jin killed Eneru back on Skypia. And he killed countless people before I recruited him. Is he a monster? No, Zoro used to be a bounty hunter and he wasn't known for leaving his enemies alive. And he and Robin worked together to kill that priest and his bird. Are they monsters? No, Coby killed the Afro guy back in Drum Kingdom. And he probably killed that bull guy at Enies lobby, is he? I get it, Chopper yelled, tears leaking from his eyes. I get it, okay. We're pirates, but... Chopper slumped. I don't know. I looked up to Dr. Hogback. The world isn't black and white, Luffy said gently, bending down to rest a hand on the reindeer's shoulder. I've seen people burn others alive because they thought they were eyesores or were paid to do so. I saw a man shoot my brother because he could and knew he wouldn't be punished. I've seen someone, a villain who had done many horrible things, begin questioning his life due to the actions of his enemy. We've heard the story of the law, the absolute justice that some Marines believe in, sacrifice innocence without question for no real gain. Tell me, Chopper, what are we? What are we? The crew, what are we? We're friends, Chopper answered. We're family, we're nakama. We're outlaws, Luffy corrected. We're villains. We're wanted by the world because of our actions or our knowledge. To the world, we're evil. But we aren't evil, Chopper cried. So, Chopper was silent. He had no answer. Nami, Usopp, and Mary stared at their captain in shock. We do what we want because we don't care about the consequences, but sometimes, those consequences come for us. We wanted Robin, so we went and took her back. Now, every one of us is wanted by the world. We went against their justice, so we're evil to them. Luffy sighed. Sometimes we have to kill. To protect our friends, or our beliefs, or our dreams. Maybe we could do it without killing, but is that morality worth the chance that our old enemies will come back stronger? To me, it's not. That is the life we have chosen and those are the consequences. Something palpable seemed to hang in the air, weighing down on the pirates. They'd always looked up to Luffy as their captain and leader, but that feeling made him seem like a true king. Like the king. I will be the king of the pirates, Luffy continued, as if the declaration were already a true fact, but I'm not the only one with that dream. We'll meet others that want the title too, and we might have to kill them so they don't kill us or those who we care about. So, Chopper, do you stand with us? Are you willing to kill for the sake of your friends? Nodded hesitantly. The heavy presence would allow him to move no faster. As suddenly as it had appeared, the feeling vanished. The three who had watched gasped, releasing breaths they hadn't realized they were holding. Come on, guys, Luffy ordered. We're going to go kick Moria's ass. Damn the consequences. Turning his gaze upward, Luffy and company took off, looking for a staircase. Out of the shadows behind them came Hilden, still as pale as a sheet. He stared at the body of Hogback before sighing heavily. Master Moria isn't going to like this. Master Moria, Hilden cried, flying into his master's chambers. Master Moria. Landing on a spire above, Hilden waited impatiently for the Shadow Man to acknowledge him. Coffins lined the walls, each containing a zombie body just waiting for a shadow. I'm not exactly sure what race Moria was. He stood, or really, sat, at almost 15 feet with a neck that filled almost 6 feet of that and seemed to be stitched like a shoelace in the front. His skin was as pale as a vampire and purple hair grew out from his ovalar head along with 2 devil horns. Pointed ears poked out from the sides of his head and his pupils were black as night. He was dressed in yellow and orange pants and a belt as well as a dark dress shirt. A dark coat hung to his legs and large shoes covered his feet. This better be good, Hilden, Moria yawned in a higher-pitched voice. I was napping. Master Moria. Terrible news. Well, spit it out. Hogback is dead. Moria paused. The warlord hissed. Was it the Straw Hats? No, Master, Hilden answered. The humming swordsman has returned, and he is not showing mercy like he did last time. It sounds like he intends to join the Straw Hats if he gets his shadow back. This will set back my plans. Unless… Yes, that could work. Hilden, Hogback told me that the Straw Hats have a doctor with them, an animal with a human devil fruit. I want you to contact the spider mice and put out a priority on his capture along with Straw Hat Luffy and Pirate Hunter Zoro. Then, bring me Hogback's body. Also, go tell Absalom to raise the rest of the zombie generals, understood? Yes, Master. Hilden bowed quickly before taking wing, departing and setting course for Tarar and the spider monkey. Ki-shi-shi-shi. Moria laughed. Now things are getting interesting. If the Straw Hats can do this much damage against me, imagine how much they can do for me. Ki-shi-shi-shi. Master Moria. A trio of small zombies called, running into the room. 2 large zombies followed them, each carrying a coffin sealed shut with webbing. Shouts of dismay and anger could be heard coming from the coffins. We've come with 2 of the Straw Hats. The zombie trio continued. We couldn't identify one of them, but the other is the electric devil worth 100 million. The contents of one of the coffins grumbled something about stupid lightning powers, wolfmen, and bad sketch artists. It seems the electric devil can't use his powers right now, the trio finished. Very good, Moria exclaimed. Fire up the spotlight, ki-shi-shi-shi, ki-shi-shi-shi. Now tell me what I want to know, Perona demanded. Who are those 2 cute pirates on your crew, the ones with the horns? You won't get anything about us, Coby stated for what felt like the 5th time. Negative hollow. Coby gasped, his self-esteem at an all-time low. I don't even deserve to be a cabin boy on Alvida's ship. I should just die. Don't talk like that, Coby, Grace yelled beside him. You're better than that. Negative hollow. Who am I kidding? Grace whined. My artwork is shit. It'll never be famous. Don't say that, Grace, your artwork is amazing. TCH, Perona scoffed, dropping her arms. What a pain. I knew these 2 would need some breaking, but I didn't know they would reinforce each other. She smirked, 2 ghosts budding from the palms of her hands. But they can't do that if they're both depressed. Negative hollow. I want to die and become a coral, Grace moaned. Then I'd at least be colorful. I want to be a clam, Coby sobbed, losing sight of the surroundings as a combination of exhaustion, sea prism stone, and the effects of the mental torture belt. I'm not worthy of the Straw Hats. I'm too weak to uphold justice. I'll never get her to like me. What? Perona questioned. She'd never heard that one before. What? Grace asked, her head snapping toward the pink-haired male. Coby, still depressed, continued. I'm a freak of nature. Who could ever love a zone like me? You moron, Grace snapped, slapping the rosette as hard as she could with the restraints on, the sudden pain enough to snap him out of his funk. Ow, Coby cried. What was that for? Don't talk about yourself like that. You're a great guy, Coby. You're nice and sweet and… She trailed off, her cheeks taking on a rosy hue as she turned away from the boy. And I like you, she muttered. Kamashi, she hissed. What are they doing? Kamashi said nothing, gesturing vaguely. What? More vague gestures. Just spit it out, Kamashi. The bear zombie stuttered. I'm not fully certain, but I think this is what Master Absalom would call flirting. It's the thing Lola is always trying to do to Master Absalom, but he doesn't like it. Perona moaned. Gross. That's not cute at all. Kamashi, call the Risky Brothers. I don't want these 2 anymore. The answers I want aren't worth listening to that. They can go to Master Moria. The zombie nodded and waddled out of the room. Perona turned back to the young pirates. Coby muttered, his own cheeks aflame at what he thought he'd heard her say. What did you? Nothing, Grace denied quickly. I said that the whole crew likes you. Coby and Grace, both their faces a deeper shade of pink than Coby's hair, slowly made eye contact. Without any verbal cue, the 2 began leaning in. Special hollow. Ghost rap. Snap boom. There's something wrong, Luffy muttered to himself, stopping in the middle of an intersection. I can't tell what, but someone's in trouble. Maybe it's us, Usopp hissed. Did you think about that? Luffy didn't answer, his head twisting this way and that as he glanced toward all the different auras he was sensing, he frowned. I can't feel Sanji or Jin. I can't find Coby or Grace either. They're all gone, Chopper cried. It's not that, Luffy shook his head. I can tell that they're alive, but it's like snuffing out a candle in a dark room. They're still there, but I just can't see them. Oh great, Usopp whined. We're screwed, aren't we? It's not that bad, Uncle Usopp. Mary piped up. We'll get through this. Go, Luffy, Nami urged. Go find them. What about us? Usopp yelled. We'll be fine, Mary insisted, pulling Chopper into a one-handed hug. Isn't that right, Dr. Chopper? Even if you say something like that, Chopper danced. It won't make me take your side, you jerk. I trust you guys, Luffy nodded, locking eyes with each member of the group. When he got to Nami, he reached out and pulled her into a kiss that lasted a good bit longer than it needed to. Gross, Chopper and Mary whined, human stuff. Be careful, Luffy whispered, pecking his wife on the lips once more before they separated. Nami reached up, replacing his treasured hat back on the captain's head. You, too, the navigator whispered back. Picking a direction, Luffy took off in search of their missing members. The now quartet turned toward the other path, Nami, Usopp, and Mary pulling out their weapons in case they ran into any more zombies. No undead presented themselves, however, despite the passage of several minutes and half a dozen corridors. I don't like this, Usopp whined. When do you like anything? Nami snarked, getting a snicker out of Mary. And to think you wanted to go alone to start your journey. Hey, the sniper tried to deny. Things are different back in the East Blue. Bahahaha. Mary bleated softly. Oh, come on, Usopp complained. Back me up here, Chopper. Chopper. The trio turned around, but their fourth companion was gone. No scuffs or sounds anywhere to be found. I think we know that happened to the others, Mary muttered. I sure hope we find everyone before the sun rises and kills them all. Mary, Usopp gasped. That's it, Nami declared, ignoring the bit of Robin's personality that just came out of the Klabouterman. We're going back to the Sunny. Can you tell which way, Mary? The fairy shook her head. This whole island is a ship. I can't pinpoint the Sunny at this distance. Then we'll try retracing our steps. Turning back the way they had come from, the group hurried as fast as they dared, making it back to outside Hogback's lab where the skeletal musician had off the mad scientist. None of the bodies were there. Only a darker red patch on the bright red carpet showed that anything had happened earlier in the night. I don't like this, Usopp muttered again. This time, I agree with you, Nami whispered. Hold on, Mary put in. I hear something coming this way. Coo, a pigeon? Usopp questioned, lowering his kabuto. The sound of footsteps echoed along the corridor, growing slowly louder until the light shone on their originator. It wasn't quite a person. The being was a zombie with the torso, legs, and arms of a lean human, but the head and shoulders of a giant pigeon. Tattooed on its bare chest was 946, in bold lettering, and its only clothing, a pair of raggedy yellow pants, sat on its hips, leaving its feet bare. Bandages wrapped around both of its arms and its stomach. Resting in its hands were a pair of regular tonfa, the right one of which was slowly building momentum. With a very non-threatening battle coo, the zombie lunged forward. The pirates scrambled out of the way, the tonfa continuing on its path to crash into the floor where they had been standing. The tiles gave way, turning to rubble under the force. The zombie turned toward Usopp and Nami and charged once more. Exploding star. Usopp tried, the pigeon man twisting out of the way of the attack which cracked the hallway wall from the force. The sniper screamed and threw himself to the side, the tonfa that had been coming his way missing by a hair's breadth. Hey, bird brain! Nami yelled, the sound causing the zombie to turn toward her. Eat this, Thunderball. The pigeon zombie stared at the small attack floating towards it, cocking its head to the side in confusion for a second. The ball came within range, threatening to discharge on its beak. That was, until the monster opened its mouth, revealing a complete set of human teeth, and ate it. The birdman shuddered after ingesting the navigator's attack, the electricity getting redirected through its arms and into the tonfa where it was dispersed into the surrounding air. Other than a few ruffled feathers, the zombie was no worse for wear. Do you think we found Jin? Mary questioned, sidestepping toward Nami and Usopp. The zombie regarded the pirates silently, cocking its head to the side. What now? Usopp hissed, pulling a shell out of his bag. There's no way that's actually Jin, Nami whispered. It's probably a zombie with his shadow like that Ryama swordsman. The zombie lunged forward, ending the pirates' conversation. Mary rolled to the left while Nami dove to the right, leaving Usopp stuck in the middle. The zombie bore down on him. Uncle Usopp, Mary yelled, worried that the sniper would fall at close range. Her fears, however well-grounded they may have been, were unnecessary. The tonfa the zombie wielded came down quickly, aiming to crush the long-nosed teen with a double overhand strike. Usopp cowered back and raised his hand. The pink shell he held met both tonfa, all of their momentum absorbed instantly. The pigeon man tilted its head and attacked again, but Usopp met each attack blow for blow, absorbing each one with the dial in his hand. Finally, the zombie stepped back, utterly confused. Take this, Usopp cried, rushing forward despite his shaking legs. He brought the shell up, the apex clicking against the zombie's chest. Impact. With the cumulative force of all the attacks beforehand, the zombie was thrown backwards, Usopp flying the other way as Newton's second law came into effect. Nami and Mary lunged to catch the sniper while the undead had no such companions. Jin's zombie slammed into the far wall, smashing through and kicking up a dust cloud that hid it from view. Ow! Usopp gasped, clutching his arm. Oh wow, OW. Something like that won't keep you down for long, Nami warned, grabbing the sniper by his good arm and hauling him to his feet. Let's go while it's distracted. Right. Earlier, so let's take stock here, Frankie muttered, he and his group wandering around the base of the castle. We don't know where Straw Hat is or if he caught up to the others. Cook Bro and Devil Bro are Mia. And Dino Bro and Paint Sis aren't picking up. The only upside here is that our resident samurai slayer has a new sword. Amy blinked. Where's Zoro? Oh, you got to be shitting me. Foo, Robin chuckled. Were you not aware of Mr. Swordsman's sense of direction? I'd heard it was super bad, but he was literally following us. Don't worry about him, Amy waved off, he'll be fine. Are you sure? Frankly wondered aloud. Positive, Amy answered. Anyway, we have bigger things to worry about. She pointed ahead of them. Namely whatever the hell those things are and why that skeleton from before is fighting them. I think they're supposed to be animals, Frankie commented. I think they're king of cute, Robin admitted. The trio slowly entered through the archway into the garden. Ahead of them was Brook, his cane sword out, defending himself from the zombies of Perona's Wonder Garden. Suddenly, a shockwave rocked the building above. Mistress Perona. The zombie animals cried, turning with worry toward where some of the S to come undone. Why'd I get the sudden feeling that I need to strangle Pinky? Amy wondered aloud. Yo-ho-ho, Brook laughed. Eat this, quickly. The skeleton flicked something into the open mouths of the zombies around him, said undead falling to the ground and convulsing. Black blobs rose from their mouths. Go on, Brook cheered. Return to your masters like mine did before. The blobs seemed to heed his orders, fully separating from the corpses and flying off into the night. Never mind, the blonde shook her head before stomping into the garden. What the hell is going on here? What did you do? Oh dear, Brook cried, jumping in impressive height in fear. You nearly scared me out of my skin. Not that I have skin anymore. Yo-ho-ho, skull joke. Mr. Skeleton, Robin said, stepping forward before Amy could attack the undead musician. I believe Miss Valentine here asked you a question? Oh, yes, Brook blinked, or he would have if he had eyes, my apologies. I thought you all had turned tail and sailed away like I had asked you to. While you're here though, if it's not too much trouble, could you beautiful ladies please show my your panties? Absolutely not, you undead psycho, Amy screamed, punching the skeleton into a tree with an increased mass punch. Yo-ho-ho-ho, that one rattled my brain. Not that I have a brain anymore, skull joke. Ahem, Robin coughed. The question? Oh, yes. Brook straightened, wiping himself off. Anywho, what you just saw was me purifying these zombies. Purify? Frankie questioned. With what? Salt. Salt? The pirates parroted. Indeed, Brook nodded. I learned of their weakness 5 years ago when my shadow was stolen from me. Now, however, my shadow has returned. I take it you all had something to do with that? Our swordsman did, Robin affirmed. There was a zombie swordsman that shared your laugh. Ryama, I believe. Then I must thank him when we meet again, the skeleton exclaimed, spinning slowly while balanced on one leg. Imagine my surprise when I'd entered the moonlight to find my shadow beneath my feet once more. I would have cried tears of joy if I still had eyes. But we saw you crying during dinner, Amy muttered. Robin set a hand on the other woman's shoulder, silently telling her to ignore that while their cyborg shipwright cried enough for all four of them. Mistress Perona. A voice called. We're back. What happened here? Another voice exclaimed. The group of four turned to find a trio of penguins, each one wearing a hat and the last of which had a bulldog's face. Those are some super freaky zombies, Frankie shouted. Indeed, Brook agreed. They're scary, but you were just fighting them, Amy scoffed. You pirates have ruined the sanctity of Mistress Perona's Wonder Garden, the first penguin growled. As such, we, the penguin duo, shall kill you. Penguin trio. The Dogan put in a familiar voice. We're a trio now, I'm the new guy. Was that? I think so, Frankie, Amy agreed. That was Sanji's voice. Oh dear, Robin sighed dramatically, raising a hand to her cheek. It seems Mr. Cook has been turned into a brainwashed, undead dog penguin. How will he reach the stove now? Robin. The other two straw hats exclaimed. Enough of this, penguin number 2 yelled. He rushed forward faster than his stubby legs should have allowed. Flipper cocked back to attack. Coming within striking distance in the span of a second, his flipper met Frankie's metal forearm, sending the cyborg skidding back several inches. The penguin bounced off of the ground as soon as he touched it, launching himself at Amy. Don't you dare, the Sanji Dogan shouted, appearing between his comrade and the blonde. The zombie's foot snapped up, catching penguin number 2 by surprise and hurling it away with a strike to the beak. What are you doing, rookie? Penguin number 1 cried as number 2 rolled to a stop. Those women are our enemies. I don't know why, Sanji's zombie answered, but for some reason, I can't let you hit either of these women. Foo, Robin chuckled. Using the shock of the Sanji zombie's declaration on the others, she sprouted 4 limbs for each of the other 2 zombies, lifting them up off of the ground by their feet and flippers. Let us go, Penguin number 2 yelled, struggling against Robin's grip. Hey, lemon hater, Amy grinned. Give me some of that salt. The blonde didn't even wait for the musician to pass the bag to her before snatching it out of his hand and sauntering over to the struggling undead, open wide. Without preamble, the ex-assassin shoved 2 lumps of sodium chloride into the beaks of the zombies. Their struggling slowed to a stop, the shadows within rising out of their mouths and flying away into the night. You're beautiful when you're killing my brethren, the remaining zombie exclaimed with hearts in his eyes, wiggling in ways that should not have been anatomically possible. Excuse me, Mr. Zombie, Robin purred, bending down to be chest to eye with the now drooling undead. Could you please eat this for me? She held out a lump of salt. Anything for a beauty such as yourself. The zombie willing took the salt and threw it into its mouth, purifying itself in the process. The Dogan gagged, coughing up the shadow of the cook which flew off. Well, that was super easy, Frankie muttered. If that's all that we had to deal with, then this shouldn't be a problem. I have a feeling that if they got Sanji, then they have Jin as well, Amy commented. He's not as stupid as Sanji and we don't know how long their personalities remain. I mean, that zombie had Sanji's ideals, but didn't recognize us. I suppose they could have gotten Mr. Swordsman as well, Robin thought aloud. Little Swordsman, Ms. Goldenweek, and the others, too. I wonder what Ms. Ship's zombie would look like. If they did capture your friends, Brooke put in, then it's very likely that they are back on your ship. As I believe I said before, after taking a strong crew's shadows, Moria has them put on their ship, the rudder broken, and them sent off to sea to wander in the mist of the Florian Triangle. So what? Frankie questioned. Are we just going to go back to the Sunny and hope everyone else ends up there? It's as good a plan as any, Amy shrugged. I take it you're going to come with us, Skeleton? Why ever not? I must thank my shadow's rescuer, after all. Chopper wiggled in the cage, a gag in his mouth preventing him from screaming. Steel like spider silk held him fast, stopping the zone from transforming lest the restraints become too tight and he'd pop like a balloon. He glared at the warlord in the room, Moria completely unaffected by the anger. The reindeer had been in this same situation since the spider mice had kidnapped him from behind his friends' backs about 5 minutes prior, but Moria had yet to say a word. The only sounds that broke the heavy silence were the screeching of bats, Chopper's shifting, and the occasional, kishishi, cackle from Moria. It's ready, Master, a trio of voices called, 3 small zombies running in with a wide coffin in their hands. They lowered it to the ground with a thump before the grinning warlord and rushed over to a spotlight on the other side of the room. Moria reached down, lifting the lid from the coffin. Inside was the still corpse of Dr. Hogback, his clothing cleaned of blood and the cut in his neck sewn shut. The body had since gone pale to starkly contrast with his dark clothing and the new tattoo on the side of the neck, SZ 947. Even in death, you will find a way to serve me well, Hogback. Moria exclaimed, moving the coffin to the side and reaching toward his prisoner. The lights in the room seemed to dim as the man opened the cage and pulled the struggling doctor from within. Chopper's eyes had gone wide with fear and, though try as he might, he could not escape the warlord's large hand. With a cackle, Moria hung Chopper on a hook so that his hooves were just touching the floor. A spotlight flipped on behind the reindeer to reveal his defined shadow on the floor. And now our mad doctor shall return anew, Moria cried. The shadow man reached forward, delicately pinching the terrified straw hat's shadow before pulling it from the floor like Velcro. Chopper swung forward, his feet still desperately clinging to the dark mass as the warlord lifted a pair of giant scissors from a nearby table. No, wait, Chopper cried, his struggling finally loosening the gag enough that he managed to spit it out. Please don't do this. Oh, Moria questioned, choosing to answer. Why ever not, Dr. Chopper? This is wrong. The dead shouldn't come back to life. Let them rest in peace. Ki-shi-shi-shi. But the dead are far easier to control than the living. You should rejoice, Dr. Chopper. Your shadow will be one of the most useful I've ever acquired. The scissors drew closer. No, please. Snip. The sound of the scissors closing echoed around the room. The reindeer's eyes rolled into the back of his head, Chopper's limp form swinging on the hook to rock back and forth. His shadow wiggled, now free of the binding of the body, shifting between all 7 of the zone's forms. Even so, Moria's hand was too big for it to escape. He brought the dark form up closer to his face. Ki-shi-shi-shi, he laughed. Forget your humanity and forget your former identity, I am your new master. Accept this contract and obey my command. Chopper's heavy point shadow nodded slowly. Without preamble, Moria's hand swung down, slapping the shadow against the body of the late Dr. Hogback which rippled as it absorbed its new soul. Thump Hogback jerked as his heart beat once, his mouth opening to gasp air to give to his starved lungs. The corpse rose slowly, shaky limbs reaching out to pull the body from its container. Stepping out, Hogback's zombie kneeled before the warlord. Hogback, Moria smirked. It's good to have you back, doctor. Even if you acknowledge me as a doctor, Hogback muttered, suddenly dancing with wavy arms. That doesn't mean you'll get on my good side, you bastard. Right, Moria muttered, confused. Whatever. Hogback, head back to your lab and make sure you remember everything. I don't need any failed bodies like your first few attempts. Right away. Hogback dashed off on all fours with more energy than the warlord had ever seen him with while alive, Moria staring at his retreating form. He shook his head and directed his attention at the small trio of zombies. You three, take Dr. Chopper here back to the Straw Hat's ship. Yes, Master Moria. The trio rushed forward, pulling the reindeer from the hook in the middle of the room and running off through the doorway. This area looks familiar, right? Nami asked, the now trio exiting a hallway and coming into what looked to be an entrance with a fancy staircase. I don't know, Usopp answered. This whole mansion looks the same on the inside. We're getting closer to the Sunny, Mary announced. I can feel her now. Is the Sunny a her? Usopp questioned, trying to keep his mind off of Chopper lest he break down and have a panic attack. I know you said she would have to decide, but is a week enough time? In all honesty, Mary responded, the Sunny doesn't really have a consciousness yet. That would probably take at least a month or so to form and several months before they could form a physical body like I did. I haven't even gotten whispers from the Sunny, so it's still up in the air. I'm just using her, because it's easier and that's what Captain Luffy said to do. Makes sense, Nami agreed. And heaven knows we need more women on our crew. I disagree, Usopp declared. All of the women on our crew are scary.
Even Grace and Mary, the navigator questioned.
Yes. Grace can make you do whatever she wants with her paints and Mary has her hammer. The fairy gripped said hammer tightly, a smirk on her face. As well as bits of everyone's personalities and fighting styles. So, yes, they're scary, too. Well look at this, a voice purred, my bride has returned to me. Somewhere to the right, a man faded into view. He was tall, standing half a head taller than Usopp, with wavy blonde hair that came past his shoulders. He was dressed in dark clothing including navy pants, shirt, and boots all complemented by a matching open trench coat that brushed the top of his boots. He had a large, round hat that sat upon his head colored blue and white, but his most prominent feature was the cat's maw that was stitched onto his face, whiskers and all. Two beady eyes narrowed at Usopp and Mary as if warning them not to get in the way. Mary, however, had different ideas. You're the pervert from the baths, she exclaimed, pulling out her hammer and leveling it at the man. I still owe you an ass-kicking for throwing me into a pillar. Mary, Usopp cried. Language, you will not keep me from my bride, little girl, the catman literally growled. His head turned, eyes locking with Nami's. My name is Absalom. Do not forget, for that is the name of your future husband. For the last time, Nami spat, I'm already married. And I don't care, Absalom waved off. I've already decided. I'll give you one last chance to join me of your own free will. Like hell I'll join you, Nami declared, she and her companions pulling out their weapons. Absalom sighed and began to disappear. Oh no you don't, Usopp began. Gunpowder star. The pellet hit the floor with a mighty explosion, but the man had turned invisible and moved to dodge. Without Chopper, the pirates had no way to track the man. They closed ranks, falling in back to back on the stairs while the man's growling continued to fill the air. Zombie generals, Absalom barked from somewhere to the left. Get in here. A pair of double doors at the top of the stairs opened to admit the strangest collection of beings that any of the pirates had ever seen, and that was saying something for the Straw Hat crew. All of the zombies had gray skin, but that was where the similarities stopped. The number of arms they had ranged from 2 to 4, their heights were between 4 and 10 feet, and they wielded weapons of all shapes and sizes from swords and axes to guns. 2 zombies stepped out from the rest of the pack. The first was the corpse of a man that had black hair and a small mustache, missing teeth, nails stabbed through its skull, and some sort of plastic duck head protruding fro. It was dressed in a yellow shirt reading, Your Song, a brown tutu, for whatever reason, bandages around its head and legs, and had 3 swords strapped at the hip with a red and black hakama. An 850 was tattooed on the left side of the zombie's collarbone. The second zombie was the pigeon-headed one from before. Scars on the back are the shame of a swordsman, the first rasped in a gravelly voice, but I've got scars everywhere. Ku, Jin's zombie added. Ku. Mary glanced at Nami and Usopp. Zoro's shadow? Zoro's shadow, they nodded. The zombie drew 1 sword. 36 caliber Phoenix. Evasive maneuvers, Mary yelled. She, Nami, and Usopp dove in different directions, leaving only the stairs to take the flying slash. With a coup, Jin's zombie charged at Mary, forcing the girl to jump back to avoid the steel tonfa that smashed the floor where she had been standing. Acting quickly, Mary landed on her feet and launched herself toward the undead hybrid. Battering ram, the fairy announced as her horns made contact with the creature's chest, sending the zombie tumbling down the flight of stairs. Mary had no such problems, flipping with all of Luffy's agility to land on the stairway with a crouch. The hybrid with the lightning man's shadow cooed in pain at the bottom of the stairs, rubbing its feathered head. You might have his shadow, but you aren't near as strong as the real Jin. Mary charged with a smirk. Meanwhile, Usopp had found his own opponent in the form of a four-armed zombie wielding a pistol in each hand. Firing lead star after lead star. The sniper tried to keep up with the firing rate of the undead while simultaneously dodging both bullets and flying slashes. Rolling under a third 36 caliber Phoenix, Usopp came up in a crouching position with Kabuto primed and aimed at the four-armed undead. Take this! Firebird star. A bird of flame erupted from the slingshot's pouch, flying through the air toward the mass of undead. The zombies seemed to fear the fire despite their strength and backed out of the attack's path. A zombie that had to have been made from the corpse of a half-giant with an impressive beard jumped into the flaming projectile. A large, pink umbrella swinging up to dissipate the firebird into nothing like magic. No fair. Usopp whined. Ganging up is cheating. Why do we care? The bigger zombie rumbled. Our orders just to distract ya. It paused. I probably shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that. Distract? Usopp questioned before his eyes widened. Nami. Let go of me, Nami's voice yelled from the other side of the room. Absalom stood behind Nami, his hands holding her fast and her perfect klima tacked on the ground at his feet. A number of zombies paralyzed and twitching behind them. She flailed her legs, but the man held her firm. As much as a fiery woman like you turns me on, the man began, his breath tickling her ear. I can't have you struggling. Bringing one hand up quickly, he struck the navigator on the head hard enough to knock her unconscious. Nami slumped as both she and the man began to fade out of the visible spectrum. My wedding will be in half an hour, Absalom told the zombie generals as he disappeared. I expect you all to be there. Yes, Master Absalom. Ku. The different response drew Usopp's attention to where he found Mary trying to hold back a tonfa with both hands on her wooden hammer. Jin's zombie had its freed tonfa raised over its head to strike while the fairy couldn't defend, but Absalom's declaration had shifted its focus. Mary took advantage of the undead hybrid's distraction, spinning around to throw off its balance and jumping into a spinning roundhouse kick. In a bastardized version of Sanji's fighting style, she executed her own rendition of his three-point carve by kicking the Pigeon Man zombie in the face with her right leg, dropped into a handstand to thrust upwards into the zombie's beak with her left, and finally jumped back to lunge into the monster's gut with her horns. Three-mast galleon, she named the combination. Her opponent staggered back, dropping its weapons to grasp at its stomach while cooing in pain. Come on, Mary, Usopp yelled, running by and scooping up the Klabauterman into his hands. We can't beat them all. But, no buts, we'll go back to the Sunny and plan from there. Mary stared back at the zombies as her honorary uncle retreated with her in hand, said Uncle bending down to grab Nami's weapon as they passed. The undead made no move to follow. Their orders had been to distract them so Absalom could get away with Nami. They'd succeeded. Mary growled. Damn it. Language, there she is. Usopp cried excitedly as he and Mary, who was riding on his shoulders, came through the arch dividing the dock and the tunnel into the island. The Cerberus that had chased them on their first trip into the island was still and lifeless in the tunnel, but that hadn't been their doing. Still, it was gone and that was all that mattered to the sniper. The wood fairy hadn't been as excited. She wanted to fight it, damn it. Ow, would you look at that? Our super sniper and fairy have come back. Usopp's eyes snapped up, landing on their waving shipwright on the deck of the brig sloop. Usopp and Mary waved back as they hurried to the Sunny. Upon boarding, however, they were greeted with the sight of wooden bits and random articles scattered over the lawn deck. Yo ho ho ho, Brooke laughed as they boarded. Welcome back. Ah, Usopp screeched, scrabbling to get away from the talking skeleton. Mary hopped off his shoulders, causing him to lose his balance and fall. What the heck are you doing here? Your friends here invited me on board because I know how to purify the zombies, Brooke answered. Purify? Usopp parroted. You're the one that killed that Cerberus? Mary realized. I wanted to fight it. Yo ho ho, my apologies, Mary-san, but it was in our way and tried to stop us. Even then, it was already cut in half. We only got back a minute ago, Frankie cut in, but as you can see, I think the zombies have super beaten us here. I checked the storage, Amy announced. They took all of our food save for cheese and saltines. They took our money, too. The crackers make sense with the fact that salt is their weakness, Robin thought aloud, but why leave the cheese? Oh, that's easy, Brooke answered. Everyone on Thriller Bark knows Moria detests cheese. Right, Usopp muttered. Anyway, do you all know where the others are? They should be on the ship somewhere, Frankie responded, but we found them, Robin cut in, opening her eyes and uncrossing her arms. They're in the dining room. Then what are we doing standing around here? Mary asked. I guess we're waiting for Luffy, Nami, Chopper, and Grace, Amy replied. Coby too, I suppose, she added as an afterthought. Yeah, Usopp chuckled awkwardly. About that. What happened to Nami and Chopper? Frankie questioned, a brow arched. They were with you, weren't they? Chopper was kidnapped right behind us and Mrs. Nami was taken by an invisible catman pervert that wants to marry her, the Klabouterman answered with a scowl. I tried to hit him, but a wall of zombies got in the way. When did my life get so weird? Amy lamented. All I wanted to do was make great chocolate, but no. I just had to end up in an evil organization that gave me and my bombman partner the task of killing a group of pirates on a dinosaur-infested island where two giants were fighting a century-long honor duel to the death before joining the pirates to protect my little sister. And now, here I am, on a creepy ghost island in the middle of the Florian Triangle, fighting zombies and hoping my shadow doesn't get stolen. And apparently there's a crazy, invisible, perverted catman trying to marry my rubberman captain's weather-controlling wife. Whoa whoa whoa, Frankie called, crossing his arms in an X. What's this about a super dinosaur-infested island? Wow, Usopp blinked. Life for us on the Grand, I thought. I mean, that's leaving out the parts where we saved a princess and her country. Went to a different dimension to rescue some kids and steal gold, flew to heaven and toppled their tyrannical government, partied with the angels, fell into an impenetrable marine stronghold with an sky octopus balloon, fought a lazy man made of ice who is apparently one of the strongest men in the world, and then declared war on the world itself before being saved by a living ship who is now a little girl with horns that calls me uncle. He shrugged. I guess we just got used to the weird. Yo-ho-ho, Brooke laughed. You people certainly have some amazing stories. I like history as much as the next archaeologist, Robin put in, but I do believe we're burning moonlight standing around talking. Robin's right, Amy agreed. We'll talk about how weird our lives are after we've kicked the ass of the Shadow Man with his army of undead. Still glancing at each other from the oddness of it all, the group of 6 made their way to the dining room. Inside were Jin, Sanji, Zoro, and Chopper, each of whom had their faces stretched with wooden clothesline pins and chopsticks in their hair, if it was long enough, stylized with ribbons of all colors. Of the 4 of them, only Sanji still had his shadow, and that was due to it passing on his chivalry and perverted nature to his now purified dog penguin zombie. All of them were unconscious or sleeping. So do we just wake them up or what? Frankie asked. I mean, we could punch them. You will not be punching Chopper, Robin stated sternly. Besides, Amy piped up, I doubt a single punch from anyone other than an angry Nami could wake up any of these morons. She gestured to the humans. Seriously, from what I've heard, Zoro slept through a blizzard while napping on deck. And that was right after them getting to the Grand Line. I've got a surefire way to wake them up, Usopp announced. Everyone ready? You may want to step back. Confused but intrigued, the other 5 did so. Usopp sucked in a breath. Don Krieg's beautiful master swordswoman discovered the cure to all diseases. Don Krieg? Jin scowled. Beautiful? Sanji muttered. Master swordswoman? Zoro questioned. Cure to all diseases? Chopper gasped. What the hell? Frankie cried. That shouldn't have worked. Moving on from that, Amy waved off. Who wants to tell Luffy that there's some creepy pervert trying to marry his wife?
Not it. Usopp, Frankie, and Mary yelled in sync.
Someone is trying to marry Nami Swan. I might as well, Robin shrugged, pulling out her den. B-U-D-U-P bud U-P bud U-P. Bud U-P bud U-P bud U-P. Bud U-P bud U-P bud U-P. C.A. lick. Hello, Luffy asked through the snail. What's up, guys? Hello, Captain, Robin greeted. I have some news for you that you may want to know. Bud U-P bud U-P bud U-P. Bud U-P bud U-P bud U-P. Bud U-P bud U-P bud U-P. C.A. lick. Hello, Luffy asked through the snail. What's up, guys? Hello, Captain, Robin greeted. I have some news for you that you may want to know. That bastard, Luffy yelled, his voice carrying over both the snail on his wrist and through the hallways around him. A dozen or so spider mice fell from the ceiling behind him, foaming at the mouth, but Luffy didn't notice their presence. I'll stuff so much salt down his gullet, he'll dry out like a prune. I don't think that's how that works, Luffy, Usopp muttered from the other side of the connection. He's not a zombie, either. He has devil fruit powers, so he's alive. Ah, Brooke interrupted. I am dead, yet I have devil fruit powers. He won't be alive after I'm done with him, the captain declared. No half-animal freak is going to marry my wife if I have anything to say about it. Isn't their marriage only technical because of the wanted posters? Mary questioned. Her voice carried over the den, but it was ignored by the captain. We all knew it was going to happen anyway, Usopp shrugged. Best to not question it. What I want to know is how Luffy plans on finding Nami. Sure, he's got that sixth sense power from somewhere, but last we saw Nami was knocked out and he said he can't sense people who are unconscious. I might be able to help with that, Brooke offered. There is a chapel on the 3rd floor of the mansion. I don't know why Moria has a chapel on his ship, but it's not new and I found it 5 years ago when my shadow was stolen. Thanks, Brooke, Luffy said. I think that was all I need. The captain closed his eyes and let his arms fall, stretching out his senses. He could still remember what Ryuma had felt like to his power. He'd seemed less than full, almost like a blurry picture. The zombies were easy to miss, even when whatever he now had wasn't fading in and out, but the stronger zombies still had more presence than the weaker ones. Either way, he was lucky the zombies had a presence at all, or else some weird spiders with mice heads would have captured him several times over. He could feel it. There was a large room on the floor below and far to the right where strong zombies were starting to gather. Their emotions were dulled, not really being alive, and their voices were too far away to be anything more than a diluted muffle, but he could still sense them. And with them was a single complete voice. This is it, the voice cheered. I wish there wasn't all this ceremony, but look at my bride. Found him, Luffy growled, lifting his right hand. Making a fist, he punched downward, blowing a hole in the floor below and falling into the right level. He turned to where he could still vaguely hear the voice. Another voice joined the first, but this one seemed to almost echo through the hallway. If there is anyone who has an objection or reason to why Master Absalom and the pirate Nami should not be joined in holy matrimony, then speak now or forever hold your peace. He could see it. The oak door was right in front of him. Slamming his right foot into the floor, Luffy's rubber leg pulsed and his skin began to glisten a lobster pink. He flashed forward in a cloud of steam, blasting the doors off their hinges and shouting the first thing that came to mind. I object. As one, the zombie generals gasped at the interruption. Time seemed to slow as Luffy looked around the room. The generals, minus Zoro's and Jin's, were scattered throughout several rows of pews all facing the altar at the front, 2 of them having been knocked out of their seats via flying doors. A large, golden cross was embedded into the wall with a pipe organ on the right side. At the end of the aisle, which was covered in a red carpet, stood Absalom, a short zombie dressed in the robes of a priest, and Nami in a beautiful white wedding gown being supported by a plain, normal zombie. She was still unconscious. Oi! The zombie with the umbrella yelled. Who da hell do ya think ya are? Interruptin' da wedden o Professor Absalom? Me? Luffy questioned, cracking his knuckles. I'm Monkey D. Luffy. And that's my wife he's trying to marry. What? All of the undead gasped. You? Absalom cried, pointing at the literally streaming mad pirate. You're the bastard that stole my bride's heart. I guess I'll just have to kill you so she's a widow. Zombie generals. Attack. The undead answered his call, jumping from the pews and charging toward the pirate captain. Luffy's eyes narrowed in the shade of his hat. Gum Gum Jet Gatling. His arms shot out, moving so quickly that they seemed to multiply before going invisible. Rubbery flesh met the bodies of every general, flinging them backwards in a storm of fists. The wall behind the quartet was reduced to rubble as the undead were plowed into it. The sound seemed to get a reaction from Nami, who stirred. Priest. Absalom panicked, yelling at the zombie that had taken cover behind the altar. The priest didn't seem so afraid as annoyed that someone stopped the proceedings. Say it now. Ah, do you, Master A flat, skip forward, the man ordered. Nami was getting closer to consciousness. The priest grunted, but he was forced to follow the order. You may now kiss the bride. The zombie bowed, backing away from the member for the mysterious fore and the pirate woman. Absalom leaned in quickly, hoping to pull off the marriage before Luffy could get there, as if that would stop him. Luffy blurred, fading out of the invisibility man's peripheral vision. Suddenly, Nami was gone. What? He gaped. Where'd she go? He looked up, finding the pirate captain with his navigator in his arms. Luffy's eyes were shaded by the brim of his hat and steam still rose from his glossy skin, but his second gear was fading. You bastard, Luffy growled, raising his head so his eyes and those of Absalom met. How dare you? The clear man was suddenly assaulted with the full force of the pirate's rage and, if looks could kill at Luffy's current level, then Absalom would have been much farther than 6 feet under. Still, his stubborn pride and perverted nature would not allow him to back down. It was only one pirate. You will not keep me from my bride, and that's me. A woman shouted. Absalom and Luffy turned toward the door where another zombie had just appeared.
This zombie had pinkish-purple skin and the head and appendages of a warthog, but the body of a large woman. She stood at Frankie's height and was dressed in a wedding gown of her own. In her hooves, she wielded a pair of katana that were each about 1.5 times the size of a normal one. The veil of her outfit was lowered to hide her face, but her large tusks and angry, dark eyes could still be made out along with the spot of red lipstick over her lips. Lola? Absalom cried, identifying the undead woman, warthog hybrid. What the hell are you doing here? I thought I ordered you to take out the pirates on their ship. You did, the female zombie responded, stalking forward. I was on their ship and ready to attack when I overheard their conversation. And what do you think I heard? That you were going to marry a woman other than me? How could you, Master Ab? Luffy? Nami muttered, slowly opening her eyes. The captain glanced down at her and smiled. Lola, you're dead. Absalom answered with no sense of softness. I've told you before that I'm never going to marry you. I need a living, breathing woman. That sucks for you, then, Luffy ground out, his attention moving back to the member of the mysterious four,
Because you can't have mine. Nami is my wife, not your bride. Now awake. Nami blushed from Luffy's words. Get out of here before I decide to kick your ass into the next pirate era. Master Ab, Lola scolded. You are trying to marry another man's wife? You shameless pervert? Lola charged the invisibility man. Absalom responding by screaming and jumping to the side. The female zombie sped past, ramming into and through the altar. Lola, you crazy woman. Setting. I'm not marrying you, Nami cried from Luffy's arms. I don't care who's marrying who, the priest zombie yelled, but somebody better be getting married. I spent all night setting up this room and I'll not see it go to waste. Lola turned with a gleam in her eyes. Master A flat, she sang. Hell no. The Catman bolted toward the door, his body becoming clearer as he went. You can't escape me, Master Ab, Lola yelled, giving chase. I memorized your scent a long time ago. Luffy was about to follow to give the bastard the beating he deserved, but there was something more important he had to do. What a weird couple, Nami thought aloud as Luffy released her. She turned to look at her lover, only to see him down on one knee. Luffy? What are you doing? He reached out and took one of her hands. Well, Mary said something about our marriage only being technical because of our wanted posters, he began, so it's not really real. I've been talking to some of the other members about this mystery feeling I've been having since before we got to Skypia. He gulped. I love you, Nami. I've never said it before and the only one I've ever heard it from was my Gramps, and he's scary, but I don't know how to say it. I've always described stuff that I don't understand as mystery things, but this mystery feeling has a name now. I love you, Nami. Will you marry me for real and become my future pirate queen? Ah, the zombie generals cooed. Without Absalom there to give them orders, they were as harmless as a bag of puppies. I love you, too, Luffy, Nami choked out through the tears in her eyes. You've always been there when I needed you most. You came for me when I told you not to and you saved me from the hell I've been trapped in for almost a decade. I love you so much, so yes, I'll marry you. I'll become your pirate queen.
Thank Goda. The priest zombie shouted. He shuffled over and turned to Luffy. Do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?
Yes, I do. He turned to Nami. And do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? I do, she answered. I do with all my heart. Then by the power vested in me by my captain, Gecko Moria, and the shadow of an ordained minister that acts as my soul, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may now kiss the bride. Luffy and Nami leaned in, meeting each other in a passionate kiss. The zombie generals let out a loud cheer for the newlyweds. Nami was tempted to yell at them, but she decided that now wasn't the time and focused back on her husband. You said your name was Monkey D. Luffy, right? The zombie priest asked, getting a nod from the captain. Then I now present to you, zombie generals and all in attendance, Monkey D. Luffy and Monkey D. Nami. Wah! Frankie's voice wailed. Luffy and Nami jolted, shocked at the sudden sound that was coming from the captain's wrist. Luffy blinked, realizing that he never shut off the call. How it hadn't closed on its own, he had no idea. What a beautiful thing. I'm not crying, you are. Don't scream into the snail, you idiot, Amy chastised. They'll hear you. Too late for that, Nami sighed. Congratulations, Brooke cried. To see two young people bound together in a bond of love so strong fills my heart with joy. Ah. But I don't have a heart. Yo ho ho ho. Nami swan, ya? Sanji blubbered, causing the snail to cry more tears than Frankie had. So they're married now, Zoro waved off. Big deal. They were basically married anyway. Now can we get to the part where we either beat up Moria or track down Shrimp and Shrimpet? You heartless moron, Sanji yelled. Don't you know that marriage is a beautiful thing in a woman's life, especially a beauty like Nami Swan? Shut up, you swirly-browed pervert. The sounds of them fighting became background noise. Little swordsman and Ms. Goldenweed can handle themselves, Robin announced. They aren't children. No, but they are missing, Amy responded with a hint of guilt in her voice. Zoro isn't a child, either, but we have to keep looking for him since he wanders off like a toddler. Hey, who's to say his sense of direction hasn't rubbed off on Pinky? Amy finished, trying to blame Coby for her own decision to send him and Grace away from the graveyard battlefield. I don't think that sort of thing happens, Mary thought aloud. Coby's strong and there aren't any logias around for Grace's paint to be ineffective against, so I'm sure they're fine. Unless they ran into those ghosts, Jin put in. Those things are devastating. It would be a shame if those spirits have stolen their souls and carried them to the underworld. Robin. Most of the crew cried. Bahahaha, Mary laughed, Robin's giggling joining in a second afterward. Seriously, guys, Usopp spoke up. We have about 4 hours of moonlight before the sun comes out and Zoro, Jin, and Chopper are still missing their shadows. Oh, Nami. I have your weapon, by the way. Thanks, Usopp, the navigator replied. Here's the plan for now. Luffy and I will finish up here and then meet you all in the dining room. Usopp, Chopper, Mary, Robin, and I will go look for Coby and Grace. Everyone else will go after Moria. Any questions? Why don't I get to go after Moria? Mary pouted. Because I said so, Nami answered smoothly. And because I'm the captain's wife, you have to do what I say. Any more questions? No, ma'am. The rest of the crew sans Robin chorused. Alright. Luffy cheered. We're gonna kick Moria's ass. The call clicked off, allowing the newlyweds to close Luffy's den. You said we were going to finish up here, Nami? She nodded and gestured toward the zombie generals who had been quiet up to that point. These were the ones that helped kidnap me. I see, Luffy responded, cracking his knuckles. Just because the zombie generals didn't have working sweat glands didn't stop them from breaking out in a cold sweat at the sight of the suddenly bloodthirsty captain. So who's first? He questioned, steam beginning to rise from his body. This ain't good, the large zombie rumbled. This really ain't good. Tryhorn, Coby and Mood Painter, Grace, Moria read, his eyes flinting from the wanted posters in his hand and the unconscious pirates in the cage before him. The male of the two had been relieved of his weapons on the way there, the two swords sent down to the armory where they were being examined. It had been foolish to leave the master with his. Perona had these two for how long? About an hour, Hilden answered from his perch. She was trying to get answers out of them, but I don't know if she got what she wanted. Humph, Moria huffed. It was probably something about those cute little pirates she was fawning over when the Straw Hats first arrived. Ah well, it doesn't matter. Hogback. Yes, the new zombie with Chopper's shadow responded, stepping out of the shadows and all but bouncing. Do we have any zombies ready for a painter girl and a boy with 3 horns? Ah, yes, for the girl, Hogback responded, but it wouldn't be too hard to add horns to one of the other zombies. Get to work, Doctor, the Shadow Man ordered. I'm counting on you. Just because you say, get to work, the warlord yelled, cutting the dancing zombie off. Hogback jumped and nodded before grabbing a coffin and running out of the room. Quite energetic, isn't he? Hilden chuckled. I've never seen him move so quickly. I hope it passes soon, Moria grumbled. I'd like the quiet mad genius back rather than the bubbly idiot the reindeer's shadow has turned him into. You know how the personalities are, Master. Hilden waved off. It's an animal shadow in a human body. Just give it a few hours. Yes, the man sighed. Where are Perona and Absalom? Mistress Perona is in her room. You know how she is about work, but last I heard from the spider mice, Lolo was chasing Master Absalom along the northern shore. She's really determined tonight after hearing he was willing to marry. I wish that aspect of her personality had faded by now, Moria shrugged, but obsessions don't go away. Ah, but what are we waiting around for? We might as well pass the time with taking the shadow of this young lady. Hilden, if you would. The vampire-like zombie nodded and swooped down, flicking the switch on the giant spotlight Moria used for shadow stealing before moving toward the coffins on the east end of the room. The large man, meanwhile, opened the cage and pried the woman out, hanging her by the hook so her feet just touched her shadow on the floor. Do you have the right body yet, Hilden? Yes, Master, the zombie replied, scooting a smaller coffin to the large man. Once it was within arm's length, Moria reached over and all but ripped off the lid. Inside was the body of a young teenaged girl with shoulder-length blonde hair dyed with different strips of color and gray-tinted skin. Scars stitched together with thread of all colors littered the girl's body, the most noticeable of which ran from the bridge of the nose to above the right eye and was closed with green stitches. Also visible were the swirling scars in blue going down the left arm, purple wrapping around the right, and the orange scars looping around the right leg. The corpse's clothing included a sleeveless, rainbow-striped crop top, jean shorts, and brown hiking boots. The short shirt not only revealed the stomach, but also the belly button piercing that was there and the X-shaped red and gold scar that contrasted with the skin tone. The tattoo on the left arm read, Z892, showing that the body had been waiting for a soul for a short while. Good choice, Hilden, Moria complimented. With a body this similar, the personality of the shadow might not last 5 minutes. It's not often we have young, female shadows, Hilden agreed, so there's something of a backlog with bodies like this one. Yes, I know, Moria acknowledged. Now go fetch the boys' swords from the armory and check in with Hogback. I'd like to take the boy's shadow as soon as I'm done with this one. Understood, Master. Hilden bowed and took wing, flying down one of the corridors. Moria watched until he was out of sight before turning back to the task at hand. He reached down over the coffin, peeling the redhead girl's shadow off the floor and pulling her forward by her feet. Moria sighed. It's always better when they scream and beg, he whined, hefting up his scissors in preparation of removing one more shadow. With a snip, Grace's shadow was separated from her feet, leaving the girl free to swing back. Her shadow wiggled, trying to free its arms from Moria's massive hand while the warlord brought it up to his face. Renounce your past self and release your identity. I am your new master. Accept this contract and have new life. The shadow nodded weakly, allowing Moria to swing it down into the body of the blonde. Her heart beat once for the first time in a year and her eyes opened to reveal 2 different eyes, one blue and the other green. Welcome back to life, Moria greeted, naming the zombie. "Why don't you take your weapons from your former master and wait with me?" The new zombie nodded, walking over the Grace who was still hanging from the hook. Reaching up, the zombie relieved the ginger of her hat, her palette and paints, and a box of rice crackers. Silent as the dead, she walked back to Moria, sat down to lean against him, and opened the box. "A zombie after my own heart," Moria noted. Ki-shi-shi-shi. The shadow man and the zombie sat in silence for the next few minutes, the only actions either of them doing including moving the unconscious girl back into the cage and chewing on rice crackers. Coby started to stir. "Ow," he moaned, a hand coming up to rub his head in an attempt to soothe the pounding headache there. "What hit me?" Blinking his eyes clear, he noted that he was not on the sunny like he was expecting, immediately putting him on alert. The familiar weight of his Sabaku no Kiba was absent and a bracelet made of sea prism stone was clasped on his right wrist. A paint-splattered smock in the corner of his vision attracted his attention. "Grace," he cried, shuffling over to the unconscious female. "Grace, can you hear me?" Coby reached out and rested a hand on her shoulder and tried to shake her awake, but the girl didn't so much as stir. "Grace, please wake up." Ki-shi-shi-shi. Moria laughed at the display. "Good, you're awake. It's more fun when they squirm. This one didn't make a peep when I took her shadow." "You bastard," Coby yelled, grabbing the bars of the cage. "Give Grace her shadow back right now or I swear to Goda."
"You'll what?" the warlord questioned with a smirk. "I'm out of your league. There's nothing you could do to even touch me. I've already taken 5 of your crewmates, shadows. I only need 5 more before I send you all adrift into the Florian Triangle. And that number's about to go down by 1.
"We're back, Master," a trio of voices cried, 3 small zombies running into the room with a coffin in their hands. "Master Hogback said he had too much work to come back himself, but he finished this for you." "Good, good. Bring it here." "Yes, Master." The trio ran over, dropping the box they carried at the feet of the warlord. Moria, however, made no move to reach for it. "Iroh," he stated, causing the new zombie to look up at him, "open that coffin for me." "Okay." The zombie yawned, stretching. Leaving the box of crackers behind, Iroh stood and walked over to the closed coffin. She stood next to the wooden box, staring at it as if wanting the lid to remove itself. When no such thing occurred, the zombie girl sighed and set her hands on the lid, pushing it off of the box to reveal the box's contents. Inside was the body of a young man with brown hair. He was very pale from lack of blood flow and was dressed in what appeared to be a business suit, tie and all, though the tie had different dinosaurs on it. Despite this apparent normality, the image of a regular body was ruined by the 3 horns implanted in the face of the man. The 2 horns which protruded from the forehead were elephant in origin and the third, which was seemed to come from a rhino, but neither of those animals could have been very old based on the sizes of the horns, each one about 10 inches.
"Is that?" Coby began. "What?" Moria taunted. "What were you going to say? Is that your shadow's new body?" "Because it is."
"No," Coby denied. "I was going to ask if that is the zombie with Grace's shadow." Ki-shi-shi-shi. Moria laughed, throwing his head back. Ki-shi-shi-shi, ki-shi-shi-shi-shi-shi. How cute, you care more for this little girl than about yourself. Well, why don't I do you a favor and take your shadow so both of you can spend the rest of your lives in the shadows together? Iroh. The zombie turned. Subdue this pirate. Understood, Master. The zombie girl approached the cage, pulling out Grace's palette and paintbrush. Coby backed away, getting as far from the undead as the cage would allow, but he knew it was to be a fruitless endeavor. Grace's aim with liquid paint was phenomenal and he was defenseless without his swords or powers. He closed his eyes, silently cursing his uselessness. Captain Luffy. Save us, Colors Trap, Sadness Blue. Kiishishishishi, Captain Luffy. Save us. Coby. Luffy questioned, stopping in the middle of the hallway. Nami continued forward a dozen steps, causing Luffy's arm to stretch due to their conjoined hands. Luffy? She asked, turning and releasing his hand which snapped back to its proper length. What's wrong? I could have sworn I just heard Koby's voice. Luffy's gaze roved over the stone walls, passing over Nami and the wedding dress she had torn for more maneuverability. But whatever power was allowing him to hear these voices was fading quickly. Koby's voice was the clearest thing he'd heard all night, but now he couldn't even feel Nami who was right next to him. What did he say? Help us, Luffy answered without hesitation. Moria must have captured him and Grace. Damn it, the navigator cursed. What do we do now? We were assuming they were either lost or that whoever had them wasn't going to give them to Moria so soon. Guess they changed their mind, Luffy shrugged. Since Moria has Grace and Coby, I suppose we could just all attack him at once. Come on, Nami insisted. We're almost to the dining hall. I remember the way since we passed the bathroom a couple corridors back. Whatever you say. The duo continued down the hall, shoving the doors at the end open to reveal the downward staircase it led to. The rest of the crew jumped at the sudden sound, turning to look at the newlyweds. The zombies that Luffy, Nami, Usopp, Chopper, and Grace had beaten up earlier in the night were all now motionless, the last few stragglers still trying to hold their stolen shadows to no avail. Bad news, everyone, Nami began. You two are getting divorced? Sanji tried, attempting to hide the hope in his voice. What a shame. I'll make you a pick-me-up as sooner we're out of here, Nami Swan. What? No, Moria has Koby and Grace. No, Amy yelled, covering up the cook's disappointed sigh. If that bastard lays even a finger on my little sister, I swear I'll eviscerate him from the balls up. Oh dear, Robin sighed. In that case, there will be 2 more zombies we must defeat. I wonder what they'll look like. She gasped. Oh my, I don't have a wedding gift for our newlyweds. Couldn't you be a little less nonchalant about this? Jin questioned. That makes 5 of us without our shadows now. Yeah, Mary acknowledged, but most of us know the weaknesses of our crew members better than they do. We shouldn't have trouble taking down their zombies. I still got a beef with Jin's to settle. Except that you're coming with me, Usopp stated. I'm not letting you out of my sight until this island ship is nothing but a spot in the distance. Uncle Usopp, Mary whined. No, he's right, Nami commented. We should stick together in pairs. They were able to pick us off when we were in bigger groups. Our zombies could be scattered all over the mansion, too, so we'll split up and take down every zombie we see, but aim for ones you can identify. I'll go with Luffy. I'll take Jin, Amy announced. If we don't find his shadow by daybreak, then I can shield him with my parasol. But Amy Schwan, Sanji gasped. And I will take Mr. Swordsman, Robin offered, ignoring how Sanji's head whipped around to stare at her. I'll be able to keep an eye on him, in case he gets lost. But Robin Schwan, I don't get lost, Zoro mumbled. The world just moves around me. I guess I'll go with Reindeer Bro, Frankie commented. He doesn't weigh much, so he can get places super quickly if I carry him. And worst comes to worst, I can stuff him in my freezer and he'll be fine. Also, I would like to note that the 1000 Sunny was my super wedding gift to our captain and navigator. Frankie struck his usual pose with his forearms together to make a start. He had added to the design, each star now holding half of a metal skull, one half black with white highlights and the other with its colors inverted. The skull, which came together in Frankie's super pose, also bore a blue pompadour not unlike the cyborgs. Yo-ho-ho-ho, Brook laughed. I suppose that leaves you and me, Sanji-san. Damn it, Sanji cried, punching the floor with tears streaming down his face. All my Melorines are leaving me for the shitheads. All I'm left with is the corpse. There, Sanji, Luffy chuckled, rubbing circles over his back. There will be plenty of other women to turn you down. If anything, Sanji got more depressed. Alright, everyone, Nami shouted. We don't have all day, let's get to it. Yeah, the assembled crew yelled with much enthusiasm, minus Sanji. And someone find their money vault while we're at it. Yeah, the assembled crew muttered with less enthusiasm. And the food, Nami added. Yeah, so, Nami began. Do you all know which way you're going? Yo-ho-ho, Nami-san, Brook bowed. If you would like, I would be honored to escort you and your husband toward Moria's lair. It is likely that he keeps his stolen wealth close by. Thank you, Brook, Nami accepted. That would be a lovely wedding gift. Ah, the skeleton continued. While we're waiting to start, would you mind showing me? Like hell. Luffy and Nami roared in tandem. Never you mind, Brook all but squeaked. Shall we get going? Then? Moria should be this way. The undead musician turned and gestured toward a staircase on the far side of the room. Hey, Nami, Amy called before everyone could go their separate ways. If you find Grace and Pinky, you can wake them up by insulting their obsessions. That worked on the morons he caught before. Good to know, the crew split up. Luffy, Nami, and Sanji followed Brook. Amy and Jin taking the stairs to the immediate left of the former groups while Mary led Usopp up the ones on the right. Frankie decided he and Chopper were too super for stairs or doors and punched a hole in one of the adjacent walls. Zoro started walking toward the broken outer door, turned toward a set of stairs on the other side of the room, jumped up onto the chandelier and the limp bear rug zombie thereupon. Walked in a good 10 circles up there, dropped onto the dining table, started walking toward the outer door once more, and cut an opening out of the wall next to it. Robin chose to follow without comment, wanting to see where they would go with Zoro's sense of direction. Usopp and Mary. Would you slow down, Mary? Usopp all but demanded. My poor old heart can't take much more of this. You're 17, Uncle Usopp, Mary laughed, swinging her hammer idly as she skipped along a corridor. Your heart is fine. I should know. I got the best aspects of everyone on the crew that could be stuffed inside this body. And your blood pressure was one of them. You probably got the strongest heart out of the crew, literally speaking. Usopp didn't seem comforted by that remark. Every now and then, a surprise zombie would jump out at the pair, giving Usopp a fright until the thing would attack Mary, forcing him to get over his fear in the wake of anger. The little Klabouterman could only get a few whacks in on each zombie before Usopp's expert aim ended each of their unlives. Look, Uncle Usopp, Mary laughed, smacking a suit of armor apart with a loud clang. We're making plenty of progress. Yeah, Usopp muttered to himself. Yeah, none of these zombies are any challenge alone. We'll be fine. Unfortunately, as many of you readers know, there are just some things one shouldn't say, lest fate decide it was time to affirm who was boss. Horo 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 horo. The ominous laughter echoed through the open room the duo found themselves standing in. How wonderful, one of the cute little pirates that I wanted has wandered into my part of the castle. Horo 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 horo. Who are you? Usopp demanded, spinning around with Kabuto primed to fire at a moment's notice. Mary, too, fell into a defensive stance, shuffling backwards until she and the sniper were back to back. Show yourself. Over here, long nose. Usopp and Mary spun around, the former aiming his Kabuto at the floating form of Perona. She was without her body, her soul floating freely 3 feet in the air and Kamashi standing behind her. Usopp narrowed his eyes and fired a lead star at the woman, but she didn't so much as flinch when the projectile passed through her. Ah! Usopp screamed. Ghost, so cool, Mary gasped. Hey, do you want to join our crew? Mary, horo 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 horo. The hollow woman laughed before her smile twisted and her voice took on a predatory tone. No, I don't think so, little girl, but you'll be joining me, negative hollow. Jin and Amy. Jin whistled quietly, his old East Blue tune echoing through the corridors as he and Amy walked along. Neither said anything, content with the relative silence between them for the moment. They continued winding through the manor, but no zombies presented themselves. Jin's song slowed to an end, leaving them in silence. Is it just me, Jin began, or does it seem like Zoro started acting like a father to Coby? That depends, Amy responded. Has Robin become something of a mother to Chopper? She's become really protective of him. Jin hummed, considering the idea. Music began to drift through the air. The electric devil and the weightless woman turned to look at each other, their conversation all but forgotten. Shall we? He asked. We shall. She nodded. With no more spoken agreement, the two turned toward where the music, some slow tune from the South Blue, was coming from. The music led them toward the leftmost part of the manor. The sadistic duo paused outside of a pair of double doors. 100 Barris says we find Koby's and Grace's zombies inside, Jin challenged. Another 100 if they're dancing. With how dense Pinky is, there's no way anything has changed since we last saw them. I bet Luffy and Nami ended up taking a detour. Time to put your money where your mouth is. Jin smirked, pushing the door open as quietly as the creepy squeaking would allow so as to not disturb whoever was inside. The duo poked their heads through as soon as the crack was wide enough, allowing them to see. The room appeared to be an expansive ballroom decorated for a festive atmosphere. Streamers of all colors were draped from the ceiling and there were several balloons reading, "Congratulations." Around the room interspersed with round tables. A buffet sat on a long, rectangular table along the far left wall, some of the dishes still visibly steaming and a white cake at the center of it all. In all likelihood, the room was probably that way in preparation for a reception after Absalom's forceful marriage to Nami before Luffy stepped in. There was a large DJ set up on the far side of the room from the doors, but it was unmanned since most of the zombies were likely to have been called away. Instead, the music originated from an old phonograph set on a chair, a wide record spinning lazily in the center. Mirroring the record were the pair of zombies in the center of the dance floor. The first was a young, male zombie with brown hair, a nice suit, 3 implanted horns, and Koby's crossed swords strapped to his back. The second, who stood half a head shorter, was a colorful young woman in casual wear which clashed with her partner's suit and had Grace's palette strapped to her waist, though neither seemed to mind as they were too focused on each other. The two slowly spun together in time with the music, the taller male leading. Seeing this, Jin and Amy backed out of the doorway. Here's your money, Amy sighed, passing the male a couple of coins. Damn it. I knew it was going to happen eventually, but now we'll have to put up with them getting mushy, and that is nothing I want to see my little sister doing. What's happened since we saw them in the graveyard? I don't know, Jin whispered. I didn't know Coby could dance, either. That's really impressive. But I don't think their zombies prove anything. It could be that zombies just don't have as many inhibitions as the living, if they have any at all. I think the skeleton said something about the zombies retaining muscle memories from when they were alive, Amy commented, so it might be that the body with Pinky's shadow knew how to dance. But that's not the point. We should come up with a plan before we attack. I'll leave that up to you, Ms. Ex-Assassin, Jin smirked. I think I'll watch these two dance for a while. Maybe you could join me for a song or two, he winked. You flirt, Amy smiled, smacking the lightning man in the arm. You just gave me the perfect plan on how to get close to them. Luckily, I've infiltrated a few balls while working for Baroque Works. Now shut up, take my hand, and follow my lead. Frankie and Chopper. Ow, Frankie yelled as he punched through yet another wall, collapsing it on the other side. The armor, however, did not move like the last one had. Chopper rode on his shoulders, cheering the cyborg on. I'm feeling super. Stop wrecking the manor, half a dozen surprise painting zombies shouted, accidentally giving themselves away. Frankie smirked, pulling out the nunchucks he'd strapped to his back. The zombies gulped. You're so strong, Frankie, Chopper awed with stars in his eyes as the mechanized human shoved salt down the throat of the last zombie. Please, Frankie scoffed, securing the nunchucks on his back. These things are nothing for a super guy like me. I wonder if this place has any real challenges. Fortunately or unfortunately, the world of One Piece seems to have an ask and you shall receive policy for trouble. Coo! Something hissed from the shadows of the hallway. Frankie whipped around, almost throwing Chopper off with the speed. Who's there? The cyborg demanded. Show yourself. Coo! COO! Something smashed into one side of the hallway, cracks spiraling out from the shadows. The sound repeated, somewhat higher, the cracks widening and spanning the ceiling. The damage was too much for the stonework, the top of the hall quickly crumbling. Frankie grabbed Chopper from his shoulders and covered the reindeer with his metal arms, protecting the doctor from the worst of the rubble. Now that the roof was gone, light flowed in from the windows of the floor above, illuminating the zombie. Jin's zombie. Is that a pigeon? Frankie questioned, staring at the stitched-together, undead creature. Where would Moria have found a pigeon that big? Chopper gasped. And how did he connect its avian spinal column to that of the human body? Does the shadow act as a substitute brain since that of a bird would not have the capacity to control all the neurons needed to work human hands? This is devil fruit bullshit, reindeer bro, Frankie responded, now eyeing the strange zombie. And didn't Long Nose and Little Sis tell us that Jin's zombie was part bird? Coo! The zombie cooed, lunging forward. In response, Frankie grabbed Chopper and rolled to the side, leaving the floor to take the high-velocity tonfa. The fight had begun. Zoro and Robin. Mr. Swordsman? Robin questioned, jumping from one tree branch to another as she followed the green-haired man's path exactly. They had passed the dock only 2 minutes ago, but by her estimate, they were already on the northern side of the island. The forest abruptly ended. Do you, by any chance, have a destination in mind? Of course I do, Zoro stated, climbing a boulder when there was clearly open area on either side of it without batting an eye. We're headed to Moria's lair at the top of the manor. Robin blinked, using her devil fruit powers to bloom a staircase of arms up and over the boulder and into the wide field on the other side. You mean the manor on Thriller Bark, correct? Obviously. Zoro continued forward being a relative term. He moved in the same general direction overall, but he couldn't go more than 5 steps without turning. Then you must mean the manor back the way we came. Zoro froze mid-step, his right foot inches over a bubbling stream that cut through the meadow. Turning his head slowly, the swordsman was able to make out the silhouette of Moria's castle. Damn it, he cursed. Moria must have moved the damn thing. Oh no, Robin denied, giggling. I've kept several eyes on the mansion since we went into the woods. It hasn't moved an inch. What are you? Go to damn it, Lola, leave me alone. On second thought, Robin corrected, perhaps your sense of direction isn't wrong at all. Running into the field from the left side was the clear Catman, screaming like a little girl as he ran from a giant warthog zombie in a wedding dress. Absalom and Zoro met each other's eyes from across the field, giving Lola enough time to tackle the member of the mysterious four. Lola, stop it, Absalom yelled, thinking quickly in order to save himself from her deadly kisses. We can't do this right now. Does that mean we can do it later? The warthog asked flirtatiously, batting her eyes at the man pinned below her. No, I mean yes. How about this, Lola? The man tried to wiggle free from the zombie's grip. If you defeat one of those pirates over there, I'll flirt with you. Lola's eyes took on an eerie red glow. And if you beat them both, I'll marry you. All motion in the field stopped, even the wind vanishing in the wake of the man's statement. The pirates could fully tell Absalom had no intention of keeping either of those promises, but Lola either didn't notice or didn't care. And if you failed to do either, Absalom continued in the silence, then I'll marry that pirate beauty over there. The Catman wiggled an arm free from Lola's slightly relaxed grip, pointing at Robin to punctuate his final statement. Hell no, Zoro and Lola yelled in tandem while Robin looked shocked. You're not marrying Robin, that woman. I will, Absalom declared with a smirk. That is, if you don't defeat them, Lola. Raghhhh, Luffy, Nami, Sanji, and Brook. Quickly now. This way. The trio of Straw Hats continued to follow the undead musician, the skeleton ahead of them cutting through zombies like paper. It seemed that, now that Brook had both his shadow returned and backup behind him, his spirits had been lifted to a level he hadn't felt in over 50 long years. He felt so alive. Oh, wait. Yo-ho-ho-ho. The skeleton laughed. This is wonderful. Then are you going to join our crew? Luffy asked, his arm stretching to punch the helmet off of an armored zombie. If this keeps up, I very well might, Brook answered, decapitating the zombie Luffy had punched and shoving salt into the open throat. The quartet passed through an open archway. leading them out onto a stone bridge connecting the manor proper to a different spire. "We are almost there," Brooke informed the group. "But you will never get there," another voice interrupted from above. The group of 4 looked up to see a zombie staring down at them from a giant spider web. The zombie was an oversized spider monkey, literally. It had the body of a giant spider which was predominantly black with yellow circles on the thorax and yellow rings on all 8 legs, the 2 front legs ending in large monkey paws. The head, which was about as tall as Luffy, was that of a monkey with half of an aviator helmet over the right half of its face and large ears on either side. Bandages were wrapped around the creature's body and wrists, hiding most of the scars that had to be there. Finally, a monkey tail protruded from the back of the zombie. "Monkey, monkey," the zombie chanted. "You pirates will not reach Master Moria. Tararan the spider monkey will stop you, spider mice, come." With the end of his order, Tararan's web was flooded with tiny, dark shapes and one human one. The human-sized zombie jumped from the web, landing in a crouch before the pirates. It was Zoro's zombie. "This doesn't look like the chapel," the zombie muttered. "That pigeon Tesla said to go right. The damn chapel must have moved." "You know that's bad for your knees, right?" Sanji questioned as he indicated the zombie's crouched position with his cigarette, directing the question toward his fellow pirates and trying to keep his eyes off the giant spider. "I don't think it matters to zombies," Nami replied. "Or rubber men, or if you don't really have knees." "Yo-ho-ho," Brooke laughed. "You are certainly correct, Nami-san, but Wait, you stole my joke." "What the hell are you doing here, Jigoro?" Tararan asked. "Master Hogback wanted you for protection." "Whatever," the directionless zombie waved off, his eyes narrowing on Sanji. Something more important just came up. "Luffy," Sanji stated, "Nami Swan. Go on ahead, I'll handle this Marimo." "What did you just call me, you swirly-eyed bastard?" "I called you a Marimo, you shitty swordsman." Sanji and Jigoro charged each other, the rest of the world forgotten. "Please do go on," Brooke insisted, unsheathing his cane sword. "Moria's lair should be right through that door. I will stay behind to defeat this monstrosity and defend the bridge." "Monkey, monkey, oh no, you don't, sticky spider net." Tararan fired a web of silk from his backside, forcing Luffy and Nami to roll forward and Brooke to jump back. Grabbing her hand, Luffy pulled Nami forward as fast as he thought her regular human body could handle. Unfortunately, Tararan's undead patchwork was faster. He appeared in front of them before either Luffy or Nami could react. Monkey's paw wish. Tararan smacked the couple, only giving them enough time for Luffy to grab Nami in a hug to take the worst of it with his rubber body. The two all but vanished, launched back toward where the Sunny was docked. "Nami Swan," Sanji cried before having to duck under a sword. "Monkey, monkey. Look at how far they went. I hope I didn't kill them. Master Moria would be displeased." "You atrocious arachnid," Brooke declared. "Be gone with you." Obeyed right-hand strike. "Usopp and Mary, do you want to join our crew?" Horo 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 horo. The hollow woman laughed before her smile twisted and her voice took on a predatory tone. "No, I don't think so, little girl, but you'll be joining me, negative hollow." "Oh no," Usopp whimpered, his gaze locked on the ghosts circling their floating opponent. "So you're the one that made the ghost we saw on the ship," Mary concluded. "You gotta join us. Mrs. Nami thinks we need more women on the crew, anyway." "Stop it, Mary," Usopp ordered. "For one thing, you aren't the captain. Only Luffy can decide who joins the crew." "Ah," the Clabouterman whined. "And second, we still need to beat her and that freaky teddy bear of hers." "But, Uncle Usopp, as entertaining as this little act of yours is," Perona scoffed, her two ghosts circling her, "I think it's time we skip ahead to the main attraction. Go, negative hollows." "Evasive maneuvers," Mary yelled, her and Usopp diving opposite directions. The ghosts just brushed each of them in the arm, flying into the floor and vanishing from sight. "That wasn't too hard," the sniper boasted, leaning Kabuto over his shoulder and pointing at the gawking form of the ghost princess. "Your ghosts don't affect us if they can't touch us." "I wish I was a barnacle," Mary sobbed. "I should have sunk back at water 7. I'm good for nothing but being firewood." "Mary," Usopp gasped, dropping his weapon in favor of falling to his knees to cradle the ship girl. "Mary, are you okay? Snap out of it." B-B, but how?" Perona stuttered. "My negative hollow hit you, why are you not affected?" "What did you do to Mary?" the pirate demanded, ignoring the woman's question and bringing up his slingshot. "Tell me right now or I swear to Gota that I'll find a way to kill a ghost." "I don't understand," Perona cried. "Why aren't you groveling? Answer my question, only if you answer mine." "Your attack didn't hit me, ghost, now fix Mary." "No, Uncle Usopp," Mary panted, grabbing the hem of the sniper's coat to pull herself up. "I'm fine now." But you should have been down for at least a minute," Perona gaped. "Just who are you people?" "Us," Mary smirked, her confidence rebounding. "We're the Straw Hat Pirates." "Kamashi," Perona all but cried, floating backwards. Kill the man, but leave the cute girl alive. I'm going to go track down their friends. I know my hollows work on them. Yes, mistress, the bear rumbled, waddling threateningly toward the duo. Perona turned to fly away. Oh no, you don't, Usopp declared. Special attack. Firebird star. A bird of flame took wing, soaring toward the free soul of the gothic Lolita. Kamashi hit the deck, barely avoiding the attack that passed through an affronted-looking Perona. She sneered at Usopp, but still retreated. Go get her, Uncle Usopp, the Klabouterman shouted, jumping past him with hammer in hand. I'll take out this overstuffed teddy bear. Are you sure you'll be fine? He's got orders not to kill me. The little girl grinned darkly, her expression changing to fit one that would not be out of place on Jin's face. That means I have the advantage. Usopp shivered at her tone, but made eye contact with her nonetheless. Be careful, Mary, he finally relented. I trust you to stay safe. You got the best of all of us, right? Before the long-nosed teen could rethink his decision, he hugged his surrogate niece and bolted after the pink-haired ghost. Go kick her ass, uncle. Language. Usopp rounded a corner, moving out of sight. Looks like it's just you and me, big guy, Mary chuckled, sizing up the zombie that stood almost twice her height. Kamashi's eyes narrowed at the little fairy that was waving her wooden hammer at him. I must protect Mistress Perona, he growled, his eyes going bloodshot and his body shaking slightly. I will protect Mistress Perona. I will. With a roar, the giant teddy bear charged the Klabouterman, throwing his whole weight at her in an attempt to crush the white-haired girl. Mary flung herself to the side, narrowly surprising Ly large mass which cratered the floor where he landed. Without wasting a second, the bear rose and repeated the action, forcing Mary to keep dodging backwards. I thought you weren't supposed to kill me. I will protect Mistress Perona, Kamashi yelled, flinging himself at Mary for the 6th time. Mary jumped upwards, kicking off of the bear's back and leaving a pillar to take the flying bear hug, tackle. The column crumbled, large chunks of stone and marble falling on the zombie until he was completely buried. The Klabouterman landed silently out of a front flip and turned back toward her buried opponent. Mary took a tentative step forward, never dropping her guard as she approached the pile of debris. The pile shifted before exploding outward. A medium-sized chunk caught Mary in the stomach, causing her to lose her grip on her hammer and blowing her backwards in the process. Mary grunted as she hit the ground, barrel rolling away her momentum. She sat up carefully, spitting up some blood while a hand unconsciously cradled her midsection. That hurt, you bear bastard, the Klabouterman growled, her eyes flashing dangerously. Kamashi didn't respond, claws sprouting from his paws as he pushed himself out of the remains of the column. He charged. I must get back to Mistress Perona. Mistress Perona needs me. Rigging art, Mary announced, ropes falling from within her sleeves, woven whips. The Klabouterman lashed out, dual strands of rope flying through the air toward the charging zombie. The bear's claws ripped through one of the whips, the other rope missing high and knocking his hat off before he severed that whip as well. He's too fast, Mary thought as the zombie drew closer. She tried desperately to fend him off, but Kamashi's claws seemed to be more than a match for Mary's mid-range rigging art. Gordian's knots, Mary cried desperately, her two ropes tying themselves together until they formed a wrecking ball-sized knot. She turned, building momentum before the ball of rope slammed into Kamashi's side. The bear gave something similar to a cough, his claws slicing through the ropes on the outside of the attack. The force flung him to the side. Yeah, how does that feel? Kamashi didn't respond, shaking her head before pushing himself onto his arms and legs. He turned his bloodshot eyes on the horned girl and dug his claws into the floor, a matching pair sprouting from his stubby feet. He pushed off like a sprinter, producing a speed something of his build shouldn't have. The Klabouterman tried to bring Gordian's knot around for another pass, but Kamashi was too fast, his claws ripping apart the ropes connected to the ball before it could gain enough momentum. The woven wrecking ball bounced off into the distance. The bear bore down on the girl, 5 gleaming claws raised to end the battle. Shit! The girl shouted, bringing up her right leg in a perfect split she had inherited from Sanji. Mary attempted to kick the paw away as it came down on her, but her aim was off slightly, causing the outer claw to scrape down the side of her pants, tearing a cut in them and scratching her just enough to make her bleed. Injured, Mary used her other leg to jump away, only for something to clatter to the floor. Kamashi almost blinked, bending down to pick up whatever it was his opponent dropped. Made of wood and not quite anatomically correct, it was a Mary's heart. My heart! Mary cried, leaning on her left leg. Give that back, the Klabouterman stretched out her hands, trying to use her powers to pull her lifeline back to her person, but the bear's grip was too firm. Even so, against his will, the zombie began inching toward the white-haired girl with the pull of the wooden heart, his legs digging small grooves in the floor. Give that back. I will not, Kamashi rumbled, Mistress Perona. Shut up, Mary snapped. Dear Goda, you're so annoying. Everything out of your mouth is, Mistress Perona this and, Mistress Perona that, can you not talk about something else? Leaving her left hand out trying to reclaim her heart from the zombie. Mary's right turned back toward the pile of broken pillar. Some her hammer back into her hand. I cannot. Kamashi grunted, digging his legs into the stonework of the floor. I live. For Mistress Perona. She wants. You in her garden. I will fulfill her wish. Well, too bad, pedo bear, Mary smirked, releasing her hold on her heart and throwing her hammer. She's not getting what she wants this time. Kamashi staggered at the sudden loss of opposition, but stayed on his feet until the hammer smacked him in the forehead. Losing his balance, the zombie lost his grip on the Klabauterman's heart, leaving the wooden carving to bounce across the floor. Mary dashed in before Kamashi could get up, ropes jumping out of her jacket to tie the bear's claws to his legs and rendering him immobile for the time being. She hopped up to kneel on his chest. Release me, the zombie ordered. I must return to Mistress. Sorry, big guy, Mary smirked, dragging the doctor's mask away from the bear's mouth and gaining a sadistic gleam in her eyes. You aren't going to get back. Bahahaha. Before the teddy bear could respond, the horned girl shoved a lump of salt into the zombie's mouth. Kamashi gagged, trying to spit up the lump, but Mary shoved his mask back on, waiting until she could feel the shadow inside him trying to escape. Only then did she release her hold on the teddy bear and allow the shadow to return to its rightful owner. All was still. Oh yeah, Mary yelled, jumping off of the purified zombie and dancing a little victory dance she had learned from Frankie. Picture the dance he does at the start of the time skip. That's right. Who's the best? One fight, one victory, 100% success? Woo. After celebrating her first win for another minute, Mary calmed down enough to stop patting herself on the back. Uncle Usopp, she realized, summed both her hammer and her heart back to her hands. Stuffing her heart into an undamaged pocket, the Klabauterman took off after Usopp and the ghost princess. Uncle Usopp, where are you? No, please. Get them off. Get them off FFFF. You've already fallen into my trap. Usopp Golden Pound. Mary rounded the corner just in time to see the 10-ton hammer Usopp was wielding pop right above a panicking Perona's head. The ghost princess stuck to a bed by pink goo and covered in cockroaches. The pink-haired girl passed out from either shock or fear, her eyes rolling into the back of her head and her body slumping. Wow, Uncle Usopp, Mary gasped, catching the long-nosed sniper off guard. I thought you were saving the fake cockroaches for pranking Amy. I decided they had a better use, Usopp boasted. Turns out her main attack couldn't affect me, so I was her natural enemy. I guess you took care of. He turned around. Mary, what happened to you? Usopp dropped to his knees and began to fuss over the state of the Klabauterman's clothes. I'm fine, Uncle Usopp, Mary whined. That bear was just a little stronger than I was expecting, but I took care of him. Still, come on, we still need to go kick Moria's ass. Language. Mary vs Kamashi winner. Mary, Jin and Amy. We should come up with a plan before we attack. I'll leave that up to you, Ms. Ex-Assassin, Jin smirked. I think I'll watch these two dance for a while. Maybe you could join me for a song or two, he winked. You flirt, Amy smiled, smacking the lightning man in the arm. You just gave me the perfect plan on how to get close to them. Luckily, I infiltrated a few balls while working for Baroque Works. Now shut up, take my hand, and follow my lead. Grabbing Jin by the hand, Amy pushed the door open and dragged the lightning man inside. The dancing zombies didn't even look up at the sound, too focused on the music to notice. Carefully, Amy led Jin into a simple waltz, working their way toward the zombie couple in time to the music. Alright, she began, pulling Jin against red that overtook his face as a result. When I say when, you'll spin out and attack. Go for Pinky's zombie since Grace's mood paint can't affect you. Jin nodded, attempting to keep the pair of undead in his peripheral vision as they spun closer. Neither of the pirates noticed when the horned zombie stiffened ever so slightly. Now, Amy hissed, spinning Jin out toward the brown-haired zombie's back. The electric devil's tonfa appeared in a well-practiced motion aimed for the back of the zombie's head, but the target was ready. Koby's zombie spun himself and his partner 180 degrees and bent backwards slightly, allowing Jin's weighted tonfa to pass over Iroh's, Grace's zombies, head harmlessly and skid across the elephant horns set into his own forehead. Amy continued the spin, pulling herself and Jin away from the undead duo just as the song ended. Annoying, Iroh sighed, releasing her hold on Koby's zombie. Too much work. We just have to beat them, right? The male zombie smiled, unsheathing Koby's swords. I'm sorry to say, Iroh, but you might have to work for a little bit. Fine. How are we doing this, Amy? Jin questioned. I have a feeling that they'll try to work together, so we should probably do the same, the blonde answered. If what I think happened, then they won't fight any other way. Still, we should at least try to split them up. On the bright side, I know my sister's attacks like the back of my hand. Hold on. Koby's zombie held up a finger. He walked over to the phonograph and replaced the record with another. A new, more aggressive song started up as the zombie returned to his position. The pirates stared at him in confusion. Appropriate battle music, he shrugged. Jin and Amy shrugged in response. Master Moria wants them alive, Iroh muttered, pulling Grace's palette off of her belt. Colors trap. Drowsy dark blue. Not gonna work, Jin taunted, ripping off his headband just before the liquid could hit him. The paint sizzled upon contact, bubbling away into nothing. He blinked a couple times, the effects of the paint that had worked disappearing quickly. Grace really was a genius with chemicals, but it was a good thing she couldn't affect logias who knew it was coming yet. I didn't know about that one, Amy admitted. This might be a little harder than I thought. Troublesome, Iroh sighed. Torian, I've got you, Iroh, Koby's zombie responded. You can take the woman, I'll get the guy. 5-point style. Meteor swords. In a flash, the horned zombie shot forward in a spin, both swords and his horns aimed at a shocked Jin. Bringing his tonfa up, the logia parried the weapons, but the momentum carried the zombie's body forward until all three horns stabbed into Jin's stomach. He was undamaged, of course. Little sparks of electricity flying out of the punctures and a faint charge causing the undead to twitch. Crab grab, Torian declared, his swords coming around with the intent of slicing the man's head off with 2 clean cuts, but Jin's lightning-fast reflexes allowed him to catch each sword with a tonfa. The zombie jumped back, pulling his horns out of the pirate's body. He narrowed his eyes. My turn, copycat, Jin taunted, dashing forward. 3000-watt slam. With his golden-capped tonfa sparking, Jin brought the weapon down on the zombie that contained Koby's shadow, but his target vanished in the blink of an eye. What the? Shave, Torian said from the top of one of the tables, his feet placed so as to avoid the plates of food. You may be strong, electric devil, but you will not be able to defeat me if you cannot hit me. Same to you, Jin responded. I didn't know Koby learned that shave thing from the CP9 guys we beat. I'm guessing from Kaku, but I do know he doesn't have that black hockey stuff what his name did. You can't touch me. I do not know who this Koby is, but that is unimportant. It seems this fight will become a battle of attrition, of which I am superior. Pandora's box. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ballroom. I really don't want to have to do this, Amy sighed. Every time I fight you, I always get pained on my clothes. Iroh did not respond, the zombie's eyes never blinking. It seemed this fight's dialogue would be mostly one-sided. You know, if you just ate this salt, then you would never have to work ever again. I am aware, Iroh answered. But then Torian would be sad and we couldn't dance anymore. Colors trap. Sadness blue. Paint flew through the air toward Amy, the woman responding by reducing her mass and jumping over the attack with a graceful flip. She landed gently and without a sound, only the crashing to the men's fight breaking the silence between woman and zombie. Torian flashed between them, appearing and disappearing within the span of a blink. Jin's tonfa crushed the floor where he'd been standing only half a second before. Get back here, you undead bastard, Jin yelled. Such foul language, Torian scoffed, the two vanishing as quickly as they appeared. Men, Iroh sighed. I know, right? Amy responded. I didn't know Pinky was that fast, but he sure fits the guy mentality. She shrugged. Oh well, Parasol Club. Amy launched herself forward, transferring her mass into her arms and parasol while the rest of her body became lighter for speed. Bringing her umbrella around like she was swinging a baseball bat, Amy attempted to strike. Iroh ducked under the bat faster than Amy had ever seen Grace move, the breeze caused by the attack making the zombie's multicolored hair blow around. Colors trap. Laughing yellow. Kya ha ha ha. Amy burst into a fit of laughter, almost doubling over. Kya ha ha ha. You don't seem to realize kya ha ha, or remember, that I can fight kya ha. While laughing, Master Fist, still laughing, Amy brought her right hand down on the zombie with the same mass as Frankie. The zombie jumped out of the way, the floor beneath cracking and crumbling. Kya ha ha ha. Iroh frowned, covering her paintbrush in another color. He rushed forward in short bursts, the natural speed of the body and her orders countering her shadow's lazy nature. Amy pulled back, her parasol sweeping around in an attempt to ward away the undead. But Iroh's body's natural flexibility allowed her to bend around the unconventional weapon and paint over the previous mark. Colors trap. Yellow and green. Befriending yellowish green. Oh, honey, Amy sighed in a wistful tone, a weighted foot stomping on one of Iroh's. The zombie could not feel pain, but she still felt the bones in the foot break under the force. You don't get it, do you? Her positive paints can't affect me because I already love you. You hold the shadow of my little sister and that's why I have to beat you. Grabbing both sides of the undead's head, Amy twisted it 90 degrees with an audible snap. Iroh stumbled backward, greatly disoriented from the sudden change of perspective. Now just let me kill you so my sister can walk in the light again. The weightless woman brought her mass-increased parasol down, fully expecting to crush the undead girl before her, but Torian shaved before her in an instant, his crossblock catching the umbrella cold. Back off, he growled, his cold eyes staring into Amy's. You will not touch her. I won't let you. Geez, Amy whined as Jin flashed next to her, pulling her umbrella away from the swords. Pinky finally grows a spine to stand up to me. And it's not even his spine I'm going to be snapping. You wouldn't have snapped his spine, Jin scoffed. You'd congratulate him on finally passing your test. Besides, could you imagine what Don Luffy and Zoro would do to you if you actually snapped his spine? Sanji could only defend against one of them at a time. A girl can dream, Amy sighed. Anyway, while Pinky's possessiveness is nice, it's standing in our way at the moment. Iroh, Torian fretted, checking over his fellow zombie. Iroh, are you alright? The female of the two scowled, grabbing her head and twisting it back into place. She broke one of my feet. The colorful undead mermaid. I'll need Dr. Hogback to replace it. Torian glared at the pirates. You hurt her, he growled. Isn't that the point of a fight? Jin questioned, stepping in front of Amy. Rather than answer, Torian blurred out of focus and, suddenly, everything in Jin's vision went sideways. The man tried to speak, but no sound would come out of his mouth. It was like his lungs had just disappeared. Amy gasped. Jin, she cried, the headless, shadowless body of the man still as a board beside her. The zombie swordsman blurred back into focus behind them, his swords slowly sliding back into their sheaths. With a click, the swords locked into place and the electric devil's body broke into parts, piling on the ground in a mutilated but bloodless heap. My first swing was too sloppy, Torian muttered to himself. The head separated before the rest of his body. Hayate-sensei would be displeased. He glanced back as Jin's body and head began to glow, breaking down into flickers of electricity that grouped back together. The glow faded to reveal an undamaged Jin kneeling on the floor. For one thing, ow, he yelled, standing up and twisting his head to the side with a satisfying pop. For another thing, I'm really happy for logia powers right now. He turned back toward the zombie that had cut him to pieces, a somewhat arrogant smirk on his face. You want to try that again, copycat? Torian growled, but the noise he made wasn't near anything the real Coby could make since this body didn't have a dinosaur's voice box, only for the noise to end suddenly. Our work here is done. What? Jin questioned. This fight isn't over, Color's trap. Bullfight red. Wah damn it. Jin spun around to come face to face with a smirking Iroh. A quick glance to the side confirmed that Amy had been subdued, both dark blue and light blue paint staining her yellow dress. Grace's zombie had struck while they were distracted, leaving Amy in tired and depressed mess. Why you, 3000-watt slam. Jin Tonfa were spinning instantly, the gold-capped ball on the end on course for the unflinching undead. Without warning, his arm twisted, smashing the floor on his right. Despite the fact that there was now a break in the center of the pattern on the floor, Jin still could not attack anywhere else. As I said, Torian scoffed. Our work here is done. I'll get the woman, Iroh. She still has her shadow. We'll leave the man in the shade here. Jin could do nothing as the horned zombie lifted his partner like she was a sack of potatoes, the zombie's partner joining him as they started walking out the door. No, it wouldn't end like this. Jin closed his eyes, trying to find a way to rid himself of that paint. Idly, his tonfa started spinning, drawing the electricity out of his body as they started sparking like a pair of generators. He exploded. Or, to be more accurate, he lightning traveled. Unlike his increased movement speed that he'd been using to keep up with the zombie where he'd been changing parts of his body into electricity to supercharge his limbs, this was a complete transformation. The sudden release of his corporal body in favor of pure lightning instantly evaporated the red paint on his back. He reappeared in the doorway of the room, his weapons already moving. What? Torian cried, caught off guard. The sparking, golden balls on the ends of Jin's tonfa crashed into his face, destroying the rhinoceros horn implanted there, and Iroh's chest, flinging her back the way they'd come from. Torian dropped Amy and staggered backwards while Iroh hit the far wall with a crunch. Amy, Jin muttered, shaking the sleeping woman. He ran a hand over the designs upon her back, burning holes through both the paint and some parts of her dress. She woke with a gasp, a weighted fist rocketing out on instinct to punch a Corporal Jin into the hallway where he exploded again before reappearing in front of her. Again, ow, sorry. Why you blasted pirates? Torian yelled, Iroh's broken and all but dead body in his arms. I'll send you all to hell. I'll deal with him, Amy insisted. You purify Grace's zombie. Amy charged into the room, clashing with the horned undead in the middle, inconceivably dense parasol meeting twin swords. He was only there for one clash, vanishing in a shave to battle Jin as he tried to get around. The logia was already spinning when the zombie appeared, his weapons blasting the undead back toward the center of the room. Torian landed on his feet, but jumped back only a second later before Amy's falling body could crush him, cratering the floor. I'm your opponent, boy, Amy stated, floating to her feet and raising her umbrella so it crossed her body diagonally. So be it, the horned zombie growled, hefting Koby's weapons. I'll deal with you quickly, meteor swords. Dense shield. Torian's swords and horn clashed with Amy's open umbrella, the weapon scraping against the shield with a screech. Amy spun her umbrella, the friction between it and the zombie causing Torian to lose his balance and stumble. Taking the opportunity presented to her, the weightless woman closed her parasol and swung it like a baseball bat, the unconventional weapon throwing the undead into a wall. Torian growled as he pulled himself from the rubble, scrapes from the impact littering his body. "I'll get you," he cried. "I'll kill you, shave." Dense shield. Amy's umbrella opened just in time, the speeding undead crashing into it with tremendous force. The woman skidded backwards, her shoes digging grooves into the floor, and stared in shock at her shield. While both of the zombies' remaining horns had broken off from the impact, the ends of the swords had punctured the umbrella. Moving quickly, Amy pushed forward and down, pinning the undead between her weapon of choice and the floor. Torian's head and neck poked out from underneath the yellow parasol before her. "Release me," he demanded. "I don't think so," the pirate woman responded, one foot coming to rest on the neck of her victim while the other secured his body under her umbrella. Crescendo stone. Slow guillotine. 50 kilos. 75 kilos. 100 kilos. 125 kilos. What are you doing?" Torian coughed. He tried to pull his swords free from the umbrella, but his angle only caused them to tear it just a little more. 150 kilos. 175 kilos. 200 ki. Pop. With a sickening pop and a splat, the head of the zombie broke away from the crushed neck, rolling across the floor with a shocked expression and long dead blood leaking from the base. Kneeling down, Amy stuffed a handful of salt into the remains of the body's neck, freeing the wiggling, black mass there. It and another pool of shadow met on the ceiling, seeming to dance around each other before both flew out the doorway. "Damn, that's brutal," Jin commented, observing the carnage. "Does this mean you won't kill Coby when and if we learn that he and Grace are together?" "I suppose," Amy huffed, climbing off of her upside-down umbrella to allow Jin to collect Koby's Sabaku no Kiba blades from the corpse. She tsked at the holes, but knew there was nothing she could do about them at the moment. "Did you get Grace's palette and paints?" "Of course," the man responded. "What do you take me for, an idiot?" "Well, oh shut up." Jin and Amy vs Torian and Iroh. Winners. Jin and Amy. Zoro and Robin. Hell no, Zoro and Lola yelled in tandem while Robin looked shocked. "You're not marrying Robin, that woman." "I will," Absalom declared with a smirk. "That is, if you don't defeat them, Lola." Raahhhhh. With all the rage of a woman scorned, the warthog zombie charged at the pair of the pirates, her target the black-haired woman. Lola appeared before Robin with more speed than anything her size had any right to have, both of her swords raised to cut the woman down the middle. Zoro materialized between them, all three of his own swords raised to defend. The 5 blades clashed with a shockwave, the unreal force of the marriage-obsessed, undead warthog woman attempting to overpower the strength of the green-haired, 3 sword-wielding pirate swordsman. "Stay away from my master, Ab," Lola ordered, shoving her blades downward as hard as she could. Zoro barely moved, holding the undead at bay. "You will not take my master flat from me." "We aren't trying to," Zoro grunted, pulling his blades apart and causing Lola to stumble. He rushed in, but Lola quickly recovered, blocking both of Zoro's horizontal slashes. The ground behind her was plowed by the resulting force. "Bride Fu!" Lola yelled, pulling her swords back for another strike. Dance of the Bridesmaids. Beginning with a downward slash from her right sword, the zombie moved into a combination of slashes and stabs, each of which Zoro blocked or parried. Dragon Twister. The pirate countered, spinning up a whirlwind that pushed the undead back. With twin yells, Zoro and Lola charged each other. Only half watching the battle, Robin glanced to either side as Absalom's breathing echoed through the clearing, but only because she knew it was there. Had she not known, Robin didn't believe she would have heard it at all. Spinning to her right, the archaeologist materialized 2 extra hands around her normal one, all 3 backhanding the invisible face of the pervert. Absalom stumbled backward, the short yet uncut grass depressing beneath his feet. "Come now, my darling," the clear man said in what he'd apparently meant to be a smooth, suave voice, his body fading into the visible spectrum. "Your small band of pirates will surely perish before the might of Thrillerbark. Spare yourself and join me." "I'll pass," Robin responded. "This small band of pirates fought the world itself for my sake and won. I doubt that they'll lose to only a single warlord. So be it. If I must kidnap you, then I must, but you will join me one way or another." Skating. Once more, Absalom became invisible, putting Robin on her guard. Absalom growled, the noise everywhere and nowhere at the same time. "Now you will know the fear of facing an opponent who you can't see," deceased Ha-Oof. Whatever attack Absalom was about to use was cut off by a flying Lola tackling his invisible form, but this time not of her own volition. Zoro stepped up to stand beside the woman, eyeing the tangled knot of man and undead. "Go to damn it, Lola. Stop getting in my way." "I'm sorry, Master Ab." "Aren't these two just a real comedy act?" Zoro asked. tapping Wado Ichimonji on his shoulder. Indeed, Robin giggled. I think they look cute together. Lola froze, an audible heartbeat thumping through her very being at Robin's words. In an instant, she was before the pirate woman, but this time holding Robin's hands in her hooves. You really think so? The zombie asked, unshed tears building in her eyes. Oh yes, Robin responded. I've no interest in a man I've just met. You can have him all to yourself. Thank you, Lola sniffed. All this time and no one's ever encouraged me, thank you. What are you waiting for? Zoro chuckled, playing along. Go get him. Of course, spinning around, Lola charged at the clear man and puckered her lips. Come here, baby cakes. Don't do it, Lola, the living man warned. Don't you dare shit no. Absalom jumped and rolled. Barely avoiding the barrage of deadly kisses Lola left in his wake, the zombie's lips leaving imprints in the dirt where the member of the mysterious four had been. Lola, I'm getting damn tired of this. If you don't stop, I'll blow you to hell before killing these pirates. Master A flat, why would you say such a thing? Lola cried. Just marry me already and I'd blow you to hell anytime you wanted. Did she just? Zoro muttered, turning green. She did, Robin affirmed, her features schooled. I'm tired of this, Lola, Absalom growled, raising his hands and pointing them at the zombie. Lola slowed to a stop, shocked surprise on her face. Master A flat? Deceased hands. Any sound Lola made was lost in the explosion that engulfed the undead, filling the surrounding area in smoke. A breeze blew through the clearing from behind the surprised pirates, blowing away the dust and smoke to reveal a burnt and ash-covered Lola unmoving on the ground. What a nuisance, Absalom grunted, strutting over to the downed corpse as he shed his jacket to reveal his scar-covered and mismatched torso. The flesh various colors from where muscles of different origins had been stitched together. Lifting one of Lola's katana once he got there, Absalom turned back towards Zoro and Robin. Lola's sword raised before him. I'm not much of a swordsman, but I know enough to be effective and a weapon's a weapon. Well, what are you two waiting for? You're despicable, Zoro muttered. You seem strong, I'll give you that, but you're going to wish you never met our crew. Not to mention, Robin added in a frigid tone, her fingers twitching, you attempted to marry our captain's wife. If there's one thing we of the Straw Hats defend most, it's our nakama. Yes, I can see how that wouldn't have worked, the clear man admitted. Obviously, I should have killed you all before trying to court her while she wallowed in grief. Robin, the green-haired man scowled. Cover me. I'm going to slice this guy to pieces. Bending low, Zoro took off toward their opponent, foregoing the use of his bandana because there was no way in hell he was going to show respect to a bastard like Absalom. Once fleur. Hold. Absalom grunted in surprise as 11 arms bloomed into existence around his body, 10 of them pinning his arms to his sides and the last clamping his muscles shut. He growled, his legs tensing as the true swordsman got closer. Just as Zoro was swinging his swords with a cry of, Demon Slash. Absalom jumped. The muscles in his legs, stolen from some poor member of the long-legged tribe who had wandered onto Thriller Bark about a year and a half ago, pushed the clear man up and over the pirate's swords. Though he couldn't talk, he flexed his arms to activate the invisible guns there. The mini cannonballs almost caught Zoro, the pirate barely twisting his head in time for Wado Ichimonji to cut through the projectiles which exploded, hiding him in a cloud of smoke just as Absalom landed. And snap, Robin ordered, clenching her hands into fists as the arms she had on the catman bent him backwards. Absalom's feet stayed planted on the ground and his hat was knocked off as the roots of his hair touched dirt, but there was no cracking like the archaeologist had expected. Foolish girl. Absalom barked, trying to bite the hand around his mouth. Robin grunted as her hand dissipated, 2 puncture wounds appearing on her right hand. I've been remade with only the best parts of all the enemies I've killed over the years. You won't break me with a pathetic yoga twist. Then I'll dissect you, Zoro declared, rushing out of the smoke cloud. Brave claws of the demon cow. Jumping into half of a spinning backflip. Absalom just avoided Zoro's slashes, his own stolen sword coming around en route to the pirate's face despite the hilt still being pressed into his side. Robin pulled with a grunt, moving the man's arm and redirecting the sword so that it only scratched Zoro's cheek. Skating, the mismatched man called, light bending around him as he faded out of view. Good luck hitting something you can't see. Zoro and Robin froze, glanced at help them find the invisible pervert. Closing his eyes, the swordsman slowed his breathing and listened to his surroundings. The leaves on the trees rustled in the wind. The water bubbled in the stream. The grass rippled underfoot. Lola's sword, the one on the ground, cried at the absence of its twin. Its twin screamed as it passed through the air right in front of him. Kitetsu 3 and Shisui came up with no time to spare, the clang of metal on metal resounding through the clearing. Shocked, the clear man became visible, Robin's arms still pinning his own and his stolen sword straining against both of Zoro's handheld blades. How? You aren't a swordsman, Zoro answered with a smirk. You don't know the language of blades. A true swordsman and cut everything. Zoro twisted to the left, his dual swords sweeping toward his opponent's side where they cut into him and lodged there, Robin's arms unharmed, and nothing at the same time. Growling, Absalom strained against the arms holding him, throwing them off and breaking Robin's concentration. Grabbing Kitetsu and Shisui's blades with his right hand, Absalom ripped them out of his side and wrenched them from Zoro's grip, disregarding the bleeding of his fingers. Pulled off balance, Zoro stumbled into the powerful kick to his chin that launched him backwards. The Straw Hat First Mate coughed blood from his landing over a dozen feet away. "Damn," Zoro coughed. "I need to stop losing my swords." "You can have this," Absalom yelled, throwing Lola's stolen sword first. The blade rushed toward Robin, surprising her since he'd been targeting Zoro. The swordsman moved to intercept, but this proved to be unnecessary when Robin grew two arms, one on the other, which caught the blade by the handle and redirected its momentum into the ground. "Grr," the Catman growled, throwing Zoro's swords off to the side. "Why do you pirates have to be so damn stubborn? You're not a symbol of agreement, either," Zoro bit out. "Oh yeah, well." Absalom's words died in his throat, giving way to a pathetic squeak. The leg Robin had materialized only inches behind the man dispersed from where it had forcefully extended itself, leaving room for the man's own legs to come together in an attempt to not allow any more harm come to his abused area. The pervert fell to his knees before crumbling over on his side, his hands moving down to offer another layer of too late protection. "As I thought," Robin said without a hint of remorse. "What did you do?" Zoro bucked, staring at the crying mess that had been their enemy. "He said he had been remade with only the best parts of his opponents," Robin offered. "I assumed he would consider sensitivity to be a positive trait for certain areas and would have had said areas fixed. I was right." "So basically," the swordsman blinked, "you kicked him in the junk on the off chance that he would be more sensitive than the average person?" "Yes. So," Zoro coughed, edging away from the woman to retrieve his swords. "Are we going to kill him?" "He's a terrible, rotten pig," Robin growled, her tone of voice adding a shiver to Absalom's pain trembling. "But at this point it would be against Captain's rules. This isn't a fight anymore, even if he threatened to kill us all." In that case, trudging over to the wounded Cronenberg of animal and man, Zoro slammed his boot into Absalom's muzzle, breaking it with a crunch and sending the pained man into the sweet release of unconsciousness. Broken teeth and blood pooled around the face of the man, but he kept breathing. "Was that not against your morals, Mr. Swordsman?" Robin asked, walking up to stand beside the first mate. "With a man like that? No," he sighed. "Damn, I wish Luffy was fine with murder." He paused, catching Robin's eyes. "What are you thinking?" "Oh, just that we showed this bastard a crippling weakness of his." Her voice was flat with a hint of faux sincerity. "Why don't we help him now by removing said weakness?" Absalom's broken and unconscious form whimpered. Zoro and Robin versus Absalom and Lola. Winners: Zoro and Robin. Franky and Chopper. Coo. The zombie cooed, lunging forward. In response, Franky grabbed Chopper and rolled to the side, leaving the floor to take the high-velocity tonfa. The fight had begun. Coo, the bird zombie growled, its eyes narrowing at the cyborg and reindeer as it rose unsteadily. Franky and Chopper each took an involuntary step back from the menacing avian glare. An aura unlike anything they had ever felt before permeating the air around them. What is this?" Franky shivered. "I thought that thing had Devil Bro's shadow." "Mary said it does," Chopper responded, "but I've never felt anything like this from Jin." Kukukuku, the zombie chuckled darkly, somehow laughing with a pigeon's voice box. The zombie's eyes widened, gleaming madly as the faintest wisp of a grin appeared from the beak. Kukukuku. There's no way that's Devil Bro's shadow." Coo. The zombie lunged, its tonfa swinging madly to try to behead its pirate adversaries. Star Shield. Franky moved instantly, throwing his metal arms out to either side so the zombie's weapons hit his forearms with a clang. Idly, Franky was glad he had lost all of the nerve endings in his arms when he had been forced to rebuild himself, because if he hadn't, that hit would have hurt like a bitch. Heavy gong. Chopper's heavy point grew out from under Franky, a large fist already on course to impact the face of the zombie. There was a crunch as Jin's zombie was thrown backwards, chips of its beak breaking off as small cracks crisscrossed over it. The undead, however, didn't seem to care. If anything, it seemed to like the damage. The beak of the pigeon man opened in what was most definitely a smirk, a set of straight, white teeth gleaming in the moonlight. Its eyes gave off a clear message. More. The undead threw itself upward, stumbling a few steps forward before almost blurring out of sight in a mad, unsteady dash toward Franky and Chopper. "Reindeer bro," Franky said, raising his fists into a boxing stance. "You can find its weak spot or something, right? I'll hold it off long enough." Strong right. Franky's right arm shot forward, disconnecting from his arm save for a chain of metal to speed toward the zombie. The pigeon man didn't so much as slow, one tonfa coming up to bat the oncoming fist to the side. Franky smirked, his other arm coming up and separating at the wrist. Weapons left, an explosive shot from the hole, catching the zombie in the gut and blasting it back the way it had come where it smashed into the wall. The thing's right arm was bent the wrong way at the elbow. "That's not it," Chopper muttered. "The joints aren't the weak spot." "Kukukuku," the undead giggled, grabbing its right arm and twisting it back into place with a sickening crack. The thing rose again, wobbling to and fro as it giggled madly. Suddenly, it stopped, frozen in place with neither finger or feather so much as twitching. That was, until it started shaking uncontrollably, every single feather on its upper body standing on end and a strange glow forcing its way out of the cracks in its beak. "That doesn't look good," Frankie yelled as the bird zombie opened its mouth, revealing more of the light. The cyborg grabbed Chopper and dove to the side just in time. They managed to just avoid the laser Jin's zombie fired from its mouth, said Laser, incinerating a clean hole through the wall behind where they'd just been, and the wall behind it. "What the hell was that?" Frankie demanded, releasing Chopper. Frankie's hairstyle was a mess, each hair sticking out as if he were some stereotypical mad scientist. As bad as the cyborg looked, Chopper was worse off, every bit of fur on him puffed out as if he were in a miniature guard point. "Static electricity," Chopper noted aloud, trying to flatten his fur and eyeing their enemy as it stumbled around as if disoriented. "It must be a side effect of Jin being a logia. The body can't control lightning, but the shadow can. But that doesn't make him fight like that. We'll just have to ask him when we see him, bro," Frankie stated. "We've got to beat this bird brain first." "All right," Chopper stuttered, stepping behind the large cyborg, Scope. "Hey, pigeon," the cyborg yelled, getting the undead to turn toward him. "Let's see how you handle this." Fresh fire. A ball of flame blasted from Frankie's mouth, hurtling through the air toward Jin's zombie. The undead instinctively brought its arms up to block, dispersing most of the flames, but the act had the adverse effect of catching both of the undead Pigeon Man zombies' tonfa on fire. "Ku?" the pigeon seemed to question, shaking its arms. The fire slowly dwindled as the bandages around its hands and wrists burned away, leaving the tonfa to sustain the flames. "Reindeer bro," Frankie called. "Please tell me you got something, 'cause I'm 0 for 2 with the fire." "I've got it. Thank Goda." "Ku." The zombie charged in, both of its flaming tonfa up for an overhead strike. Frankie reacted quickly, his right hand coming up in an attempt to stuff out the flaming weapons. Unfortunately for him, his fire was too strong to go out when it had a ready source of nutrients. The flesh-like covering of his hand began bubbling, melting away into a puddle of goo and leaving his metal hand exposed. The zombie cocked its bird head to the side, staring at both the metal and the puddle questioningly. "Go for the stitches," Chopper yelled, "right where the feathers start." "Weapons left," Frankie shouted, a miniature explosion appearing between the cyborg and the zombie. The undead coughed blood, its chest caving as it was blasted backwards and its tonfa ripped from its hands. Once again, the zombie crashed into the wall. "The strength and cellular structure of the human body and bird head are different," Chopper explained, trotting up to stand beside the cyborg in his walk point. "The stitches are where the different muscles touch, but it's probably where the spines are fused together that is the real weak point." "Ku," the bird growled, its aura of darkness seeming to pulse outward. Chopper and Frankie shivered unconsciously, but did not back down. "I say we break this thing in half," Frankie suggested. "Get the salt ready." Chopper nodded as the cyborg charged forward, his right arm cocked. "Strong hammer," again, Frankie's forearm disconnected, launching toward the zombie. Said zombie brought its arms up in a cross block, halting the attack, but not without the sound of groaning bone and a couple cracks. The shipwright smirked, grabbing his chain and spinning around. The zombie stood, but that was all the time it had before the iron fist returned, smashing into its side. Strong hitter. The undead bird man spit up red as it flew through the air, only for it to twist itself to land on its feet. Its movements were labored now, the body moving slightly out of sync with the head. "This is our chance, Frankie," Chopper yelled, rushing by in his walk point. The zombie tried to react as Chopper lowered his head so he was leading with his horns, but its arms didn't seem to want to respond. Flinging itself to the side, the zombie was lucky enough that it only caught one of the points of Chopper's horns in the side, the momentum spinning them in a circle. Bringing up its arms, the zombie prepared to smash the reindeer's head in. "No you don't," Frankie admonished, grabbing the zombie's arms and pulling them back. Opening its beak, the thing tried to fire off another laser. Chopper acted faster, stuffing a clump of salt into its open maw. The zombie gagged, trying to spit up the lump even as the built-up energy dispersed around it. With a final dark pulse, the shadow forcefully ejected itself from the host to fly off into the night. The broken hallway was still, neither Frankie or Chopper moving as the soulless body slumped in the cyborg's grip. "So, Frankie began, dropping the body which flopped uselessly. "Are we going to ask Devil Bro about that feeling or leave it alone?" "I don't know," the doctor answered, bending down to examine the corpse and losing sight of the cyborg. "For all we know, it may have been a part of either the bird or the person the zombie was made of. What do you think, Frankie?" Frankie. Chopper turned back toward where the super pirate had been, but he was not there. Spinning around, the only evidence the reindeer found of his missing friend was a small bit of silk on the floor. Spider silk. Frankie and Chopper versus Jin's zombie, Tesla. Winners. Frankie and Chopper. Maybe. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. A trio of tiny zombies chanted, working in tandem as they carried a full coffin over their heads. The road connecting the mansion and the docks stretched out before them, looking that much longer due to their small bodies. Their chanting was the only thing any of them could hear. That was, until the yelling appeared. Gum gum balloon. There were only a couple of seconds for the undead to react, not nearly enough time with the burdensome coffin to deal with, so they ditched it. The wood shattered under the force of whatever or whoever crashed down on it like a meteor, a huge dust cloud hiding the road. Oh, a male voice moaned. That monkey spider hits hard. Are you okay, Nami? Why yeah, a weaker, female voice answered. Just a couple bruises and splinters. What did we hit? I don't know, it hurt, though. The dust began to clear, revealing the people who were speaking. The trio of zombies dashed away before they could be seen, hiding behind a tree just within the forest boundary. The ones who had fallen were a male with a straw hat and a female in a torn wedding dress, the former with an arm wrapped around the shoulders of the latter. Wood from the broken coffin littered the ground, its contents thrown to either side. The woman gasped. Coby! Nami cried, crawling over to the rosette who had ended up on the far left of the road. She shook his shoulder, trying to wake him. Coby, get up. Grace is here, too. Luffy realized, bending down on the other side of the road where the painter had ended up. Grace, can you hear me? They've had their shadows stolen, Nami commented. Then what do we do? The captain asked. The others woke up after losing their shadows. Grace, Nami shouted, remembering what Amy had said as the crew splintered into groups. Your art sucks and it will never go anywhere. Shut your face, you bitch, the girl yelled, bolting upright. My art will. Oh good. You're back. Wah. Grace blinked in confusion, slightly disoriented for a number of reasons, the most recent of which being the sudden movement of sitting up. But that won't work for Coby, will it? Luffy asked. He doesn't have any obsessions like that. His wife hummed in response, a gleaming eye falling on Grace. The girl shivered. I wouldn't be too sure about that, Luffy. What do you mean? Watch and learn, hun, Nami smirked, patting Luffy's cheek. Hey, Coby. Someone's trying to marry Grace. I will cut you, bastard, ooh, Luffy awed, clapping. The noise attracted the attention of the two younger teens, Coby and Grace blinking at the captain and navigator. Captain Luffy, Coby greeted. Nami, what are you two doing here, and is that a wedding dress? We'll explain later, Nami waved off. What happened with you two? The ghosts caught us, Coby admitted. Turns out they were being created by a devil fruit user. She took us prisoner trying to get information on Mary and Chopper. Are you alright? Luffy asked as Grace shuffled around him to help Coby to his feet. I think so, Coby answered, brushing some soot off himself from the explosions Perona had put them through. He took a couple steps from Grace before twisting into his Dino mode to carry her. She didn't have zone constitution like he did, so he was worried about any lingering damage from the exploding hollows. Good to hear. Luffy nodded. Now we've got to go kick Moria's ass. But Moria took our weapons, Grace pointed out. Coby can still fight without his, but I'm practically useless. You haven't been without your weapons before, have you? Coby realized, turning his head to see the red-haired girl sitting on his back. I'll teach you some hand-to-hand combat after we get out of this mess. That sounds like work, the redhead whined. I don't care, Coby stated, you'll need it. You can come with me, Grace, Nami decided. Luffy and Coby can go after Moria. Luffy would go anyway and he might as well have some backup. Grace, you and I can cover them and take care of any lesser zombies that come along. Turns out you can purify the zombies with salt. Where's everyone else? The problem pink-haired dinosaur asked. Moria said he had 6 of our shadows, including ours. Nah, the captain waved off. They're all hunting our zombies, so everyone should have their shadows back soon. Now. He turned toward the mansion in the distance. Let's go kick that gecko's ass. Sanji and Brook, you undead swordbrain, you living curly bastard. Old Cutlass met steel-lined dress shoes from below, the former pushing the latter up. Sanji backflipped with the added momentum, avoiding the following slash that cut through the air where his throat had been. He and Jigoro, Zoro's zombie, had been at it for the past few minutes, the circle around their fight clear of the webbing that covered the rest of the bridge. Tararan, with the help of his faithful spider mice, had covered most of the battlefield with sticky web, slowing down Brook enough that they could keep track of him. Neither Sanji or Jigoro seemed to care, still glaring daggers at each other. You know what, Marimo? I always wanted to kill you. This might not be for real, but it'll help, a lot. Only if I don't kill you first, Jigoro rasped in response through his third sword, 108 caliber Phoenix. firing a trio of slashes that condensed into one. The zombie seemed sure of his imminent victory, only for the smirk on his face to turn into a scowl as the chef leapt over his attack, spinning into a mid-air barrel roll. Wolf Fang! The chef yelled, bringing his leg down on the zombie. His foot caught the back of the undead's head, folding him over at the waist and ripping out the weird bird thing implanted in Jigoro's head. Tower climb. The zombie rebuffed, straightening too quick for Sanji to react completely. Twin swords shot up while the chef was still in the air, cutting a pair of slashes into the inside of his right leg. Sanji gasped in pain as he landed and jumped to the edge of the rain, favoring his left leg. That wound was probably going to scar. "You think this little cut is going to stop me?" Sanji growled. "I've gotten worse cuts chopping onions." Ignoring the pain, but still wincing, the cook shot forward. The zombie mirrored him, swords pointed forward.
Crab grab. No you don't. Sanji rolled forward into a handstand, his body twisting around so his right foot was on a collision course with the pair of swords. Boot and sword stopped as they collided, a ripple of pressurized air shooting from the cook's limb to disperse on the zombie.
"What was that?" Jigoro rumbled through his third cutlass. "Three-point carve," Sanji yelled, pushing off his hands. His left leg swung out, kicking Jigoro in the side of the head. The zombie stumbled as the cook continued his spin, his right leg moving to catch the undead with the heel. Jigoro stood his ground, dropping one sword to grab the cook's leg. Sanji's visible eye widened as the zombie heaved him over his head to slam him into the ground. Sanji groaned in pain, his body in a small crater from the force. Jigoro stood over him with an evil smile, swords raised. Gaze hardening, Sanji used his flexibility to push himself into a backbend, one foot moving into a roundhouse kick to redirect the swords. The blades dug into the bridge beside Sanji's head, but he ignored that in exchange of focusing on pushing up to kick the zombie in the mouth. Jigoro's jaw popped out of place with a creak. The undead staggered backwards, leaving one sword stabbed in the bridge as the one in his mouth clattering to the floor. "You certainly aren't as tough as the real one," Sanji huffed. The zombie growled as one hand shoved his jaw back into place. "I'll show you," Jigoro growled, scooping up his dropped sword. 72 caliber Phoenix, jumping over the aerial slash. Sanji lashed out with a front kick, Jigoro dodging backwards but still getting pushed by the wind. "How are you doing that, shit cook? Dodging you is easy when you're so slow, Marimo. I'll skin you alive." The Zon Twister. Wind whipped around the chef, picking him up and flinging him out of the rain. Sanji splashed down on a clump of sticky webbing. A stuck brook next to him. The skeleton was valiantly trying to keep his afro up and web free. Jigoro and Tararan approached slowly, the former cutting his way through the webbing covering the ground. "Well, this is quite the conundrum," Brook commented. "They may very well kill us. Ah, but I'm already dead. Yo-ho-ho-ho." "No way," Sanji roared. "I will not lose to that shitty moss head, much less his pathetic shadow and this stupid giant SP. SP. Spider," Sanji screamed, his voice hitching up an octave. "Sanji-san? Are you okay? Spiders?" Sanji almost exploded, flames bursting to life around him. Brook gasped. Though he did not need to breath, the heat of the fire melting the webbing around the two pirates. Tararan and Jigoro stumbled backwards from the light. "What is he doing?" the spider monkey cried. "Get the hell away from me, you freak," the cook screamed, a burning foot plowing into the face of the larger zombie. Tararan screamed as he felt a burn searing itself into his face. "Get him off! Get him off! I'll get him," Jigoro called. 108 caliber, Gah. Brook appeared behind him, his sword sliding back into its sheath. "My apologies, but you should not forget your other opponents, Mr. Swordsman." 3-verse humming. Arrow notch slash. Jigoro folded over, his head and arms separating from the rest of his body. "My legs, eat this, shitty spider bastard." Brook turned around just in time to see a still on fire Sanji forcing a handful of salt down the throat of a legless and armless Tararan, the zombie's giant eyes wide with fear. Tararan's eyes started rolling into the back of his head, his body beginning to convulse. The flaming cook literally ripped the shadow from within the giant spider and kicked it into the sky before setting the abandoned body on fire. The spider mice cried out in panic and fled. "Was that not a little excessive, Mr. Sanji?" Brook asked, eyeing the makeshift bonfire. Though he did not have eyes, the skeleton skirted the flames, giving the chef a wide berth, before stuffing a small lump of salt into the throat of the decapitated and disarmed zombie swordsman. "I hate spiders," Sanji answered, his eyes never leaving the pier before him. "Fair enough, Mr. Sanji. Fair enough." Sanji and Brook versus Tararan and Jigoro. Winners. Sanji and Brook Moria. While it's certainly not ideal, Moria sighed, his eyes on the thoroughly bound and gagged cyborg before him. Only Frankie's eyes could be seen through all the webbing holding him fast, a particularly large clump of it around his mouth. The cyborg had given the spider mice a terrible time getting him there after he got over the shock of being abducted. burning no less than 20 of them to ashes with his fresh fire and smashing another 10 with his metal fists. Something that sounded mysteriously like, "Let me go, you bastard," worked its way through the gag. "You weren't my first choice, you know," the warlord scowled. "I'd have rather had Straw Hat, but he started exhibiting signs of observation hockey, so the spider mice couldn't sneak up on him. You'll have to do since your body is the closest in proportion." Lifting the cyborg with both hands, Moria hung him on the hook he used for shadow stealing. The chains holding said hook groaned, straining under the weight of Frankie's metal body. He wiggled, trying to squirm free, but Moria bitch slapped him as the spotlight came on. The warlord's special scissors came out without preamble, snipping the pirate's shadow free from his body. Frankie's umbral form struggled valiantly even as his real body froze, but shadows have no mass, so its flailing did nothing to release it from Moria's grasp. "Ki-shi-shi-shi, forget your former master and your identity, I am your new master and you will bow to me." The cyborg's black outline slowed to a stop, nodding silently. Abandoning Frankie to hang bound, gagged, and unconscious, Moria turned toward where the giant freezer of thriller bark was and began taking slow, deliberate steps toward his final destination. "It's a shame," he mused. Poor Hogback worked so hard on number 900 and he won't be here to see its completion. What do you think?" He glanced at the shadow in his grasp. Shadow Frankie didn't move. "Yes, I suppose it doesn't matter in the end. Oh well, let's go get you a body, ki-shi-shi-shi-shi." Moria seemed to giggle all the way to the freezer, one hand coming up to spin the wheel holding the door fast. Cold metal creaked open, frost cracking and shattering over the protesting hinges. Throwing the door open as soon as he could, Moria shivered at the freezing draft that rolled into the room. He pushed forward. Ice crunched under each footstep, the light at the end of the tunnel growing bigger with each passing second. Finally, the warlord stepped into a great, circular vault. The walls of the vault, caked with thick layers of ice, were a dull gray steel that almost sucked the life out of their surroundings. Lights from the ceiling barely cut through the cold mist that hung in the air, basking everything in a glow so little that it was hard to see. Even so, the monstrous form that took up the majority of the room was impossible to miss. Number 900 was the zombie of one of the most feared creatures to ever live, the demon and island mover known as Ors. The body stood at a height indeterminate save that it dwarfed even the warlord standing before it. The skin was naturally red, but large areas of other muscles and canvas stretched over parts of the form, the most prominent being around the stomach, and bits of the skin had turned blue or purple from the cold. Long, blonde hair tumbled down the titan's back from its head and two horns, each over twice the height of Moria, curved out from its forehead. The demon's square face pronounced an underbite caused by two giant fangs that shot up in place of the lower canines, almost reaching to its closed eyes. Moving down, Or's arms were almost shaped like Frankie's in the way that his lower arms were much bigger than his upper, leading to large hands that could hold Moria with plenty of room to spare. A giant gut rested on level with the landing the warlord stood on, filling that view with red, light blue, and dark blue stitched together. A skirt of dried plants woven together to reach the knees was held up by a belt of skulls, each one taller than any of the Straw Hats. Its giant feet, lost in the darkness below, were bare, all the better to squash insects with. "Now," Moria exclaimed to no one but himself and the as of yet inanimate corpse, "the pinnacle of my undead army shall rise, live again, Ors, and obey your master." Smacking the shadow into the side of the humongous zombie, Moria watched as the skin there rippled and the shadow was absorbed. The room was silent for almost a minute before one of the massive arms shifted and the zombie opened one dark eye. "How are you feeling, Ors?" Moria questioned. I feel. Suuuuuuper, Perona gasped as she came to. The risky brother squirrel zombies just finishing removing the pink goo that had held her to the bed so that asshole lying sniper could beat her. "What was that?" she demanded through her panting, her heart beating far faster than it had ever before. The zombie twins glanced at each other before responding. "Well, Master Moria recently caught another one of the pirate's shadows. So he decided that it was time to revive 900, at least, that what we heard from the spider mice. You can never really trust those gossiping rats. Wormtails, all of them. Yeah, whatever," Perona waved off, pulling herself out of the bed stiffly. "We're leaving. Thriller bark is doomed with the amount of damage the Straw Hats have caused. Go grab as many zombies as you can find, non-portrait ones, and get them to meet me at the pirate's ship with all the food and money. And by all, I mean every last bit of it. I'm taking it and getting away from here." "Yes, mistress," turning around to scamper off in two different directions. "Annoying little shits," the woman muttered. "They're cute, but I think I'll throw them in the ocean after I leave. I won't need messengers, after all. Horo, Moria. Suuuuuuppeerrrrrr. Accompanying the shout was the sound of destruction. The giant freezer of thriller bark losing one wall to the fists of something far taller than any modern giant could ever hope to be. striking the signature pose of someone, or something else. War's fists crushed the stone where they met some resistance, such a thing not fazing him in the slightest. Moria cackled from the platform. Are you hungry, Wars? The warlord asked. Nah, the giant waved off, dropping his arms. I'm really thirsty, though. Do you have any cola, Master Moria? We have quite a bit, Moria frowned. Absalom favors that drink, but I'm afraid that is nothing compared to a being your size. Wars, please look at your arm. Disappointed at the lack of cola but following his master's orders all the same, the titan glanced at his left arm. On the inside were 12 posters. Oh wow, Wars rumbled. That guy with the blue hair has an awesome hairstyle. How do you say that? Wars squinted at the poster on the bottom far right. Curbing Flanky. Cyborg Frankie, Moria corrected. You needn't worry about him. The others, though, I need you to track down and take out. If you do that, I'll give you all the cola you could ever want after we leave the Florian Triangle. You can super count on me, Master Moria. The humongous zombie declared, turning to the already broken wall and punching his way out. I'm coming for you, Straw Hats. Ki-shi-shi-shi, Moria cackled. This should be entertaining. Luffy, Nami, Coby, and Grace. The moment two black blobs slammed into Coby and Grace, Nami decided it was time they contacted everyone. Grabbing her husband's arm and letting him spring backward from where he tried to keep running, Nami opened the shell over her baby den and waited. B-U-D-U-P bud U-P bud U-P. Bud U-P bud U-P bud U-P. C.A. Lick, everyone here? This is Robin. Mr. Swordsman is here as well. Amy here. Jin's good, too. It's great to hear your voice, Nami Swan. The shitty skeleton and I are both alive, though I am not. Yo-ho-ho-ho. Mary here. I kicked ass. Language, Mary, Uncle Usopp won, too. C.H. Chopper. That last one came across as a sad squeak, tears leaking from the snail's eyes. What happened, Chopper? Robin asked quickly. Chopper sniffed. We won, but Frankie's gone. I think those mouse spiders got him. Great, Jin moaned. That means there's another zombie out there for us to kill. Everyone has their shadows back, right? I don't, Chopper cried again. Moria used it to bring back Hogback. Damn, Zoro scowled. Is everyone else good? We've got Coby and Grace's weapons and my shadow is back, Jin announced. We're on the 3rd floor right now. Luffy, Coby, Grace, and I are outside and heading back toward the castle, Nami responded. Find a window and watch for us. S-U-U-U-U-P-P-P-E-R-R-R-R-R. I think we found Big Bro's shadow, Mary commented over Usopp's surprised squeak. That does not sound good, Coby muttered. It isn't, Brook responded. I stumbled across it last time I was here. Moria had Hogback working on the body of a monster bigger than any giant I've ever seen. I fear he may have gotten tired of waiting to use it. Then it's a good thing we've got our own monsters, Nami shot back. 2 shadows are manageable. Robin? Zoro? Go find Chopper and make sure he can stay in the shade. Jin? Amy? Join us when we get to the castle. We'll go looking for Moria or the monster, whichever we find first. Mary? You can sense the crew, right? Only when they're in my range, the Klabouterman answered. Based on my size, I guess maybe a quarter of a league. Then you and Usopp should rendezvous with us when we're close, Nami ordered before some crash echoed over the connection. What was that? Something exploded on the other side of the building from us, Sanji answered. I think we found Frankie's monster. I'm coming for you, Straw Hats, correction, the cook muttered. We definitely found Frankie's monster. Follow it, Luffy yelled, we'll fight it together. Or you guys will, Nami cut in. If it's as big as that shout made it sound, neither Grace or I could do much. We'll try to track down Hogback and get Chopper's shadow back. See, come on, guys, Usopp muttered. Frankie doesn't need his shadow that badly, does he? Speak for yourself, Long Nose, Amy scolded. If we were fighting your shadow, we'd be done by now. Hey, enough. Nami yelled. We've got our plan, go. With that last order given, Nami cut off the connection and the group of 4 continued their trek toward the mansion. Said trek really wasn't that long, their only obstacle the entire way being the mostly empty graveyard where Zoro had defeated Ryama. Pushing past the gate and into the castle courtyard, Luffy, Nami, Coby, and Grace slid to a stop as Amy crashed down from above and Jin flashed into existence. Damn it, Amy muttered as Jin passed the youngest members their weapons. Pinky's zombie put holes in my parasol. I'll have to get that fixed. Hopefully it still works the same way. She gave Coby a stink eye. I blame you. We can deal with your displeasure later. Jin sighed as Coby meekly secured his swords on his back, failing to hide behind Grace no matter what he would claim afterward. Can we please destroy this warlord's career first? Thank you. The zone agreed. We're here. The group turned to see a somewhat ragged and waving Mary being chased by a frantic Usopp. The Klabouterman slid to a stop, her chosen uncle face planting next to her as the girl snapped into a perfect marine salute. Going Mary and Uncle Usopp reporting for duty. Perfect, Nami smirked before she turned to the rest of the assembled pirates. One hand snapped out, grabbing Luffy's face just before he could run off. Now as you all know, Luffy has a sort of sixth sense when it comes to finding enemies. Let me at him, so you all will follow him. Grace and I will try to track down Hogback and get Chopper's shadow back. Understood? The group nodded. Good, let's go. Yosh, Luffy yelled, leaving a dust trail as Nami released him. Damn it, Don! Jin shouted as the others took off to try to catch up. Nami and Grace stayed, watching them disappear into the dark. Hogback isn't our real priority, is he? Nope, I'm after the money. Of course you are. Chopper, Zoro shouted, wandering through the winding corridors of the mansion. Robin followed with an amused yet confused smile. She was trying to use her powers to bloom eyes to both look for Chopper and keep track of their progress through the hallways, but she would plant eyes at the next intersection only for the duo to never appear in their line of sight. Chopper, where are you? Zoro turned left down a stairwell that Robin swore wasn't there before. The swordsmen walking along like random stairs were completely normal, which for the Grand Line, they probably were. Zoro. A voice blubbered at the bottom of the stairs. Robin. The crew's doctor shot up from the base of the stairwell like a rocket, flinging himself at the archaeologist. Robin, having been completely unaware of Chopper's proximity due to Zoro's ever-shifting path, still caught the reindeer in a hug that cradled the weeping zone. It's all my fault, Chop cried. He's gone because of me. Who's gone? Robin asked gently. Do you mean Frankie? Yes. I looked away to examine Jin's zombie and then he was gone. There, Chopper, the woman cooed, stroking the weeping deer's head. It's not your fault. You didn't know they were watching. But I should have. The doctor argued. They'd gotten me once already. Shut up, Chopper, Zoro growled. You aren't to blame. For all we know, they could have been targeting Frankie from the start and would have taken him anyway. Now snap out of your moping and do something about it. Chopper sniffed, one hoof coming up to wipe away the leftover tears in his eyes. Alright, he muttered, sounding about as brave as Usopp in an uphill battle. They took Frankie, so we just had to go get him correct, little doctor, Robin nodded, placing the deer on Zoro's shoulders. Though he frowned at the action, Zoro did not argue. Come with us, Chopper. Let's go show them the strength of the Straw Hat Pirates. Where'd that come from? Zoro smirked over the last of the reindeer's sniffles. What can I say? Robin shot back, gesturing to her tattoo. Our captain just has that effect of people. It simply took a little longer to affect me. Whatever, the swordsman snorted. Let's go find that bucket of bolts we call our shipwright and get his shadow back. Let's see, Oars rumbled to himself, rubbing his square jaw in thought as he stared at the wanted posters on his arm. Master Moria said to ignore the cool guy with the blue hair. So I've got 11 pirates to find, 4 girls and 7 guys. This'll be super easy. Stomping across the ground, Oars carefully avoided stepping on any part of the castle. That was, until he came across the broken wall where Chopper and Frankie had fought Jin's zombie Tesla. His brow furrowed as he stood in a courtyard outside, staring at the cracks and holes. Now what super bastard broke this? He muttered to himself, bending down to try to fix the building. The bricks were much too small, however, and the gigantic monster was unable to do anything but crush them. Damn it. I'm super too big for this. Master Moria will be displeased. I'm coming for you, Frankie. A voice yelled through the wind, the sound reaching Oar's ears. The monster turned slightly to eye the approaching dust cloud where the voice was coming from. Who's Frankie? The zombie asked. I'm Oars. The thing making the dust cloud slid to a stop, the dust clearing to reveal a small human with a straw hat. Oar's brow lowered in recognition, his one, large eye focusing on the pirate's hat. I found you, Straw Hat, the zombie bellowed. I'm gonna take you back to Master Moria. Strong right. Oars shot his right arm toward the smaller pirate, the arm and fist stopping halfway to him. Though the fist did not hit Luffy, Oars' size allowed a burst of air to be displaced by the attack, blowing the pirate captain off his feet. Luffy tumbled backwards as the undead stared at his arm in confusion, tapping his right forearm as his left hand. Shouldn't this thing separate? Super big bastard, Luffy yelled, jumping to his feet. Take this, gum pistol. Luffy's arm stretched, shooting forward to hit the giant in the leg. Oars, however, didn't even notice. The giant stood fixated on his arm, trying to find and work robotic parts that weren't there. You did this, didn't you, Straw Hat? Oars bellowed, turning to glare at the pirate. You stole my parts. No I didn't, the pirate yelled back. You have Frankie's shadow. I don't know a Frankie, but we do, Jin shouted, materializing above the giant monster with his tonfa raised and a ball of electricity the size of Luffy's gum balloon stretched between them. Take this, 50 million watt net. With a yell, the Logia user threw his attack at their gargantuan opponent, the ball stretching out into a net to cover the zombie's face. Oars screamed, crying out in shock as the electricity burrowed into his skin and burned his hair. Parts of his blonde mane caught fire and one of his horns blackened, but the zombie remained otherwise unharmed. "Don't touch my hair, bastard," Ors roared, swatting Jin out of the air like a fly. The pirate plummeted into the mansion, one wall caving over him.
Jin, Luffy yelled. 10,000 kilogram guillotine, Amy announced, falling out of the air and her leg impacting Or's burned horn. With a snap, the horn proper separated from the base, bouncing off of the zombie's shoulder before crashing into the ground. Ors cried out in pain, stumbling back as he clutched at the stump. Amy floated to the ground, being sure to steer clear of the stumbling zombie.
"Rog," Ors bellowed. "My horn, I'll super get you all for that." "We'll see about that, shave, unseen disaster." Koby's swords and horns stabbed into the monster's right heel, but with Or's size, the attack was more like a bug bite. Picking up his leg, and the pirate with it, Ors made to squish the rosette with an open palm. "Diable Hambi." Mutton shot. "Arg," Ors screamed, fire blasting out from between his fingers. Sanji flipped out and away, the red glow on his leg dying before he touched down. Brook jumping down into the courtyard to join them. Ors gripped his arm, his hand smoking, not noticing Coby detaching himself. "I'm getting real tired of that fire." "Too bad," Usopp yelled. Special attack. Firebird Star. The coward's phoenix attack soared toward the Titan, impacting him right between the eyes. The fire dispersed as Ors cried out. "Stop it, damn it, strong hammer." With a yell, Or's massive right fist connected with the ground, caving it under his fingers. The pirates on the ground wobbled as the earth under their feet was displaced. "Ha!" A small voice called, ropes wrapping around the giant's wrist. A white blob traveled up Or's red arm, sure-footed as a mountain goat. The Titan's lone eye narrowed. His left arm came up before launching down toward the white-haired girl. "Mary," Usopp screamed. "No you don't," Luffy yelled, his pink form appearing before the meteoric palm. Gum Gum Jet Gatling. A cloud of steam burst from the captain's body as his arms seemed to multiply, not only stopping Or's hand, but pushing it away as well. "Keep going, Mary." "Aye, Captain." Mary continued up the Titan's arm, using her ropes to swing her way up whenever she couldn't find any proper footing. The Clabouterman landed in a crouch on Or's right shoulder, the broken horn's base overshadowing her. As if in response, the monster ripped his fist out of the ground, stealing most of the stability the girl had. "Cut him down," Coby yelled from the ground behind Ors. 72 caliber Phoenix, twin blasts of pressurized air shot at the legs of the Titan, slicing through skin and muscle, but not quite doing enough damage. "Strong hammer," Ors shouted, but instead of punching at the ground, his fist soared into the clouds overhead. "Take that, ice for brains." "What happened?" Amy questioned, staring up at the behemoth that was attacking the sky. "Lullaby Perry," Brook announced from the monster's left shoulder, his violin held up to his chin. "Yo-ho-ho-ho, I've trapped him in an illusion, please hurry." "Got it," Mary answered, throwing a rope that wrapped around a lock of Or's hair. She jumped into the air, pulling the rope back and rocketing toward the Titan's face and spinning herself. Building up all the momentum she wanted, the Clabouterman extended her leg which had become covered in thorns of wood. Davy Jones' peg leg. A recreation of Sanji's Diable Hambi without the fire nailed Ors in the eye, shattering the illusion he was trapped in. The Titan roared in pain, shaking his head to and fro. Brook was simply shaken off, but Mary had the unfortunate experience of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, Or's remaining horn smacking her out of the sky. The Clabouterman crashed to the ground like a meteor, spitting up a mixture of blood and wood chips upon impact. "Mary," the crew yelled, Usopp rushing to the wounded girl. He was outpaced, however, Jin materializing into existence next to Mary's downed form and pulling her out of the battlefield with a crack of thunder. Ors continued to stumble, off balance, as Usopp's shaded eyes turned toward him. "You bastard, I'll knock you down a peg." Special attack. Oil spill. Angered, Usopp fired several dozen pellets of slippery oil in quick succession at Or's stumbling feet. The oil did as intended, stealing what balance Ors had and causing the Titan to fall. "Timber," Amy called, jumping into Luffy's hands as he fired a Gum Gum bazooka. The blonde was launched over the falling behemoth before she increased her mass as far as she could. A human woman with a mass of approximately 10,347 kilograms crashed into the back of Or's head, more than doubling his current speed. The Titan's face hit Thief, blasting everyone but Amy away from the site of impact and causing the walls on the edge on the courtyard to crumble. All was still. "Get up, Ors," Moria's voice all but sang from above. "We're not done yet. Ki-shi-shi-shi." Thunderbolt tempo. Lightning flashed from the indoor storm cloud Nami had created, the electricity frying a half-dozen zombies. On the other side, another 3 undead were becoming nothing more than a puddle of goo via Grace's black acid paint. Both girls panted slightly, having been fighting many of these small-scale battles since they'd separated from the others. "Where to now?" Grace asked. "My money senses are tingling." Nami responded with a whisper, the shadows of her enemies floating away. "This way." She bolted down a side corridor perpendicular to the way they had entered, leaving Grace hard-pressed to keep up. The navigator slid to a stop before a large, round, iron door that was pushed halfway open. Two small voices echoed from within. "This is the last of it," the first of the two said. "I hope Mistress Perona has all of the food stored." "Of course she will," the second voice scolded. "She was pushing those other zombies hard to ready the Straw Hats' ship before we leave. I'm certain it's ready by now." "Then let's get going." Two small squirrel zombies trudged out of the room, a golden pot filled with gold coins held between them, only to freeze as their eyes registered the two women outside the door. Nami stared down at them. A sickly sweet smile stretched over her face. "Pardon me," she muttered as her eye twitched, the end of her cleam attack crackling. "What was that about our ship?" "You bastard. I'll knock you down a peg. Special attack. Oil spill." Angered, Usopp fired several dozen pellets of slippery oil at Oar's stumbling feet. The oil did as intended, stealing what balanced Oars and causing the Titan to fall. "Timber," Amy called, jumping into Luffy's hands as he fired a gum-gum bazooka. The blonde was launched over the falling behemoth before she increased her mass as far as she could. A human woman with a mass of approximately 10,347 kilograms crashed into the back of Oar's head, more than doubling his current speed. The Titan's face hit the ground with a shockwave, blasting everyone but Amy away from the site of impact and caused the walls on the edge of the courtyard to crumble. All was still. "Get up, Oars," Moria's voice all but sang. "We're not done yet, Kishishishi." "Master Moria?" Oars asked, looking around frantically. "Where are you?" "I'm up here, Oars," Moria responded, drawing the downed Titan's attention to where he stood on a parapet overlooking the courtyard. "What are you doing on the ground?" the warlord asked. "Get up." "Yes, Master," Oars quickly reacted, slinging his head to the left and throwing Amy off. "Moria!" Luffy yelled, grabbing a slab of rubble and launching it at the warlord. Oars was quick to intercept, smashing the rock with a giant fist. Luffy was not deterred, however, slinging whatever debris he could get his hands on. "Strong right," Oars countered, punching the debris into useless bits. "Don't touch my master, Straw Hat." Luffy and Oars charged each other, the Titan having all but forgotten about the other pirates. The rubbery pirate jumped up with a burst of steam, reaching the zombie's large gut. Unfortunately, he did not know how to use moonwalk, but it was a good thing his was immune to most blunt force trauma. Oars' fist met Luffy's entire body in a shallow uppercut, intercepting the jet rifle the pirate had prepared. The captain spun away from the battle with a string of curses that would have made Garp give him a fist of love for the language. "Luffy!" the present crew cried as their devil fruit using captain vanished into the forest. "One down, 10 to go," Oars mused. "This is a super piece of cake." The rest of the Straw Hats in the remains of the courtyard stared up at the behemoth, each one thinking the same thing, a thought voiced by Coby of all people. "Shit. Your sense of direction, or lack thereof, is an anomaly of science," Chopper stated as leaves from the nearby trees rustled his fur from where he was riding Zoro's shoulders. "Shut up, Chopper." "He's right, though," Robin added. "The only way I could think of to explain it would be devil fruit powers, but you can still swim." "It's not my fault the world moves around me. Zoro, which way is north?" "The way where the earth rises." "Wait a second," Chopper muttered, blinking slowly as he took in the gray stone walls around them. "Weren't we just in the forest?" "And there are no doors near us," Robin agreed, crossing her arms and using her powers. She closed her eyes for only a few seconds before opening them again. "It appears that we are on the 4th floor of the mansion now. It also appears that Frankie is across the bridge to our left." "That's convenient," Chopper muttered. "Let's go get him," Zoro sighed, turning right. The shipwright of the Straw Hat Pirates started coming to slowly, a dull throb in his chest making him feel like something was missing. He was too groggy to actually identify what was missing, if there was indeed something amiss, but the feeling was still there in his metal chest. Shaking his head slowly to try to clear most of said grogginess, the cyborg took in his surroundings. He couldn't feel the floor under him, which was a little disconcerting, and there seemed to be something wrapped around most of his body. The memories of that night came to him, helping him identify the stuff as webbing from those mouse spiders. It also helped reveal that the missing thing was his shadow. Where it was now, he hadn't a clue. "And the opposite direction. I do not understand. Your direction defies all known physics." "Shut up, Frankie." That last one what Chopper, Frankie believed. He'd only been with the crew for a week now, but several of the members, including the doctor, had very distinct voices. The cyborg turned his head as much as he could, only seeing his saviors out of the corner of his eye. Zoro quickly pulled out his newest sword, Shisui cutting through the webbing like warm butter and setting it alight with blue flames. Robin's arms then pulled Frankie off the hook and dropped him on the ground. Frankie reached up, ripping the webbing out of his mouth. "Ow! What's up, guys?" "Nothing good," Zoro answered with a scowl. "Only you and Chopper are missing your shadows, but yours is a giant monster and Chopper's is a crazy quack." "Budup bud up," Bud up. Yes? Robin answered, opening her snail. Robin? Zoro-sensei? Coby asked over the snail. Any chance you two can come to the courtyard? Someone screamed through the snail, but it sounded distant. What's wrong? We're just having a little trouble with oh shit. Usopp, watch the hands, he's got a post. Strong batter. I can't see that. Where's Jin?
Amy's looking for him in that damn rubble over there from when Ors used a coup de pou on him. Is Mary awake? Ye fuck. Amy.
We're on our way, Zoro grunted before Robin shut the snail. Now where's the building shook as something slammed into the outside. The stonework cracked and shattered on one side, Amy barreling through the room to dent a large steel door on the other side. Chopper ran to her side while the other three pirates looked through the hole her body had made. The courtyard and everything surrounding it was a mess, Ors standing in the middle of it and swinging a wooden post the length of his arm like a baseball bat. He'd ripped it from somewhere in the mansion, most likely. Their crew, or those who were still awake and around, scrambled around on the ground like tiny ants as they tried to fight the behemoth. Zoro was able to pick out his student's pink hair as he jumped out of the way when Ors brought the post down. Coby managed to avoid the shock that knocked Usopp over, twisting around in the air to bring his pair of swords down on the weapon. The post split in two places, losing almost a fourth of its total length. My bad, Ors yelled while Zoro smirked, a smirk mirrored by his student on the battlefield. You'll pay for that, Pinky. Don't forget about us, you shitty woman hitter, a flaming Sanji shouted, kicking Ors' right wrist. Diable Hambi. Grill Sanji-san. Brook called jumping off Ors' makeshift bat as the giant was forced to let go, the skeleton using his lesser weight to continue running up the side of the zombie. Obeyed right-hand strike. Pink jets of light shot out from the dead man's rapier, shooting towards and impacting Ors' face. Ors stumbled back, a hand on his face as he glared at the pirates. Over it all, Moria laughed like a madman. Zoro, Robin, and Frankie glanced at each other, nodded, and jumped through the hole to join the fray. Get away from our ship, Nami ordered, glaring down at the ghost princess and her minions, the zombies loading the Thousand Sunny with food, water, and money for the Rosette's escape. Next to the navigator was Grace, holding out the tails of the risky brother squirrel zombies, the only things that remained of them after the girl's acid paint. TCH, Perona scoffed. Well, if it isn't two of the uncute pirates. You don't really think you can stop me, do you? Two hollows popped out of the girl's hands, circling around her. You're nothing against my negative hollows. Mistress Perona. Look out, where did he come from? Run! Perona turned around to yell at the undead, but her voice died in her throat as she came face to thigh of a mountain of a man who could rival Moria in height. He wore mostly black, the only exception to this rule being a white crosshair on his zip-up jacket and a black-on-white polka-dot hat with black bear ear decorations. Black gloves covered his hands, one of which held a Bible next to his broad chest, and his square face showed no emotion. Who the hell are you? Perona demanded, showing no fear in the face of this new player even as she backed up. Where is Gecko Moria? Hell if I know, Master Moria's somewhere on this God-forsaken island, but I don't care where he is. I'm leaving. I see, the man hummed, removing one of his gloves. If you could take a vacation, where would you go? I don't know why it would matter to you, Perona growled before her voice suddenly became lighter and wistful, but I would like to go to a dark and gloomy castle surrounded by dead trees. Her gaze hardened. But that doesn't matter. Negative hollow, Perona launched her ghosts at the man. Then suddenly, she was gone. Mistress Perona. The zombies cried in worry. The giant man remained as emotionless as ever, slipping his glove back on. Oh my Goda, one of them whimpered. That's the tyrant Kuma. One of the 7 warlords of the sea. He just killed Mistress Perona. Kuma looked up slowly, square glasses that reflected light resting on Nami and Grace. Cat Burglar, Monkey D. Nami and Mood Painter, Grace Marigold, worth 30 million and 20 million bears respectively, members of the Straw Hat Pirates. I suppose this means I arrived later than hoped. Then, he wasn't on the dock where Perona had been, but right behind them. The girls gasped and spun around, but the man wasn't facing them or making any aggressive movements. My current mission does not involve interacting with your crew, thus I am under no obligation to take you in. He started to take a step before pausing. He said one more thing before he vanished. Also, Monkey D. Nami, your father-in-law sends his congratulations. Coby, in his hybrid mode, stared up at the massive foot that loomed over him. Despite his zone durability and his training with his sadistic teacher, Coby didn't think for a second that he could survive a stomp from Ors. With death looming over him, a sliver of his old personality slipped out. I'm sorry, he squeaked. Panicking, Coby shut his eyes, dropped his weapons, crouched down, and waited for the end with his hands over his head. Flashbacks of his life came to the forefront of his mind, when he was still small and defenseless on Alvida's ship. I don't want the club, Lady Alvida. Tower climb, Cian Fleur, Giganto Mono, strong hitter. Koby's eyes snapped open at the sound of Or's angry and pained scream. Looking up, he just caught the tail end of the attacks. Zoro and Franky landed on the immobile leg Robin had in a monstrous-sized grip. 2 slashes cut up Or's hamstring while Franky had stabbed each end of the nunchucks into pieces of columns from the rubble to do more damage. Ors jumped back, ripping his leg from the giant hand Robin had bloomed and cradled it while hopping on his free leg. "So this is my monster, Franky commented, spinning half of his giant nunchucks over his head. "Time to prove that the original's better. Strong hitter." Franky lashed out with his weapon again, catching Ors on his good ankle just as he jumped. The monster tilted, flailing his arms before crashing on his side. "Zoro-sensei. What the hell, shrimp?" Zoro growled, looking at Coby from the corner of his eye. "I thought we got rid of all your cowardice." "I thought I was going to die," Coby muttered before recalling something Luffy had told him so long ago, when they'd first met, actually. "I'm not afraid to chase my dream, and if I die trying, then I die. That's it, but that's fine. I will become the king of the pirates or die giving it my all. I'll have no regrets." His gaze hardening, Coby grabbed his swords and grew back into his hybrid mode. "Sorry about that. Let's go." Nami and Grace panted as they ran through the maze-like corridors of Moria's crumbling mansion. One would think that it would have been easy to find their way to the colossal battle that had seen raging on the way, but the two had gotten lost in the uniform gray stone of the hallways. "Go to damn it," Nami cursed, her hand pressing against a sharp pain in her side. Grace was out of breath beside her after running more in the last 15 minutes than she had in the past year. "We need to warn them about Kuma." "Where the hell are they?" Grace didn't respond until she pulled out her palette and painted both herself and Nami with a purple design. "Color trap. Painkiller purple." "Wow," Nami blinked, suddenly breathing easier. "That's amazing." The girl waved her off. "We need to hurry and warn everyone about Kuma." Grace blushed and tried to hide her face with her hat. Nami grinned like the cat that caught the canary. "Don't think I missed that little slip of yours," she teased. "Now come on. Let's go." The two started down the corridor pain-free, but slowed down by a door at the other end. "Foosphosphosphos," a voice from a doorway at the end of the hallway laughed. "Master Moria will be so proud of me." Nami and Grace peeked around the edge of the doorway to see Hogback dancing around his lab table, 3 tiny zombies watching him with confused expressions. "Shouldn't you get back to work, Dr. Hogback?" one of the small zombies questioned. Hogback froze, his head turning to stare at the zombie, before he started dancing with wavy arms. "I'm not going to do what you say just because you call me a doctor, you jerk." "That sounds entirely wrong coming from Hogback," Nami whispered with a scowl. She spun her cleam attack, building a layer of clouds by the ceiling. "We don't have time for this. You take the small ones, I'll get Hogback." "Right." That established, the women rushed into the room, catching the zombies by surprise. "Color trap. Acid. Thunderbolt tempo. Og." Moria cackled as he watched over the battle beneath him, his rival pirates fading in and out as Ors kept them from fighting at full strength. The warlord would admit, their teamwork was good, but that wouldn't help them if one was knocked out as soon as another jumped back in. And with their captain out of the picture, they didn't stand a chance. Sure, they got a few good hits in, but that just proved how useful they would be. Either as shadows or corpses, both were fine. Ki-shi-shi-shi-shi. Gecko Moria. Ga, Moria jumped, whirling around to face the man who had appeared behind him. "Damn it, Kuma. Do you have to do that?" "No," Moria sighed at the simple answer before taking in a breath and leering at his fellow warlord. "Fine, whatever. Now, to what do I owe the pleasure of the company of the only warlord that sucks the governments?" "The Gorosei have a message for you," Kuma answered, unfazed by the insult. "The 5 Elder Stars wish to inform you that the Straw Hat Pirates are a particularly dangerous group. The Gorosei do not want to have to replace another warlord due to their actions." "Are you implying that I will lose to these rats?" the Shadow Man demanded, getting in Kuma's passive face and gesturing out the window. "Look at them down there, scurrying for their lives. I did not say you were unfit for the task. Also, I was told to inform you that a new warlord has been chosen to replace Crocodile." "Oh," Moria backed up, standing comfortably now that he was talking to someone on his eye level. "So they finally found a replacement for that arrogant Logia. What's this new guy's name?" "Marshall D. Teach," Kuma answered, though he prefers to be called Blackbeard. "Never heard of him," Moria scoffed. He had no bounty previously, Kuma explained. However, he was able to provide the Gorosei with proof of his ability. "Do tell." He gave them Whitebeard's 2nd Division commander, Fire Fist Porteous d'Ace. "Goddamn, he's tough," Franky growled, wiping some blood from the corner of his mouth. Looking around what remained of the courtyard, he located his friends as quickly as he could. Amy was still out cold from before he, Zoro, and Robin had joined the battle and was resting in the room where Moria had taken his shadow. Chopper had made sure she was stable before jumping in to help. He was off toward Franky's right near Zoro, Brook, and Usopp, the sniper protecting a barely awake Mary. Off to the left, Franky saw Jin, awake now and his arms crackling with electricity, with Robin, Coby, and Sanji. Guys, I think it's time we use battle formation number 28. Most of the guys and Mary responded. Zoro, Sanji, Usopp, Mary, Chopper, and Jin ran over. Franky jumped, Zoro and Sanji latching onto his legs. Mary flipped up, attaching herself to Franky's head while Jin wrapped himself around the cyborg's back and hooked his arms and legs around Franky's torso. Usopp and Chopper and his walk point each docked into Franky's hands. Behold! Franky shouted, striking a powerful pose. The Franky Pirate 28, all systems go? Right arm docked, Usopp answered. Left arm docked, Chopper confirmed. Legs good. Sanji and Zoro responded. Power supply secure, Jin called. Helmet on. Mary nodded. Robin, all the assembled pirates minus Sanji and Zoro called. Where are the wings? I would rather die than become part of that, the woman answered, turning herself away from the robot. You all should be embarrassed and ashamed. Robin, Usopp and Chopper cried, scandalized. No, it's fine, Franky shook his head. This'll super work. Let's go. Running forward on Zoro and Sanji, Franky jumped to stab Chopper's horns into Orr's leg. The zombie cried out in imagined pain, swinging down to try to smack the pirates. Franky blocked with Usopp and Chopper, the two grunting as the seven were pushed back. Franky jumped again, flipping over the hand and sliding down across the knuckles. As he did so, Jin released enough power to burn Orr's skin and supercharge many of Franky all fired up. Franky launched himself and his parts upward, using coup de bout periodically to keep their momentum up. The seven pirates reached Orr's face within seconds, Mary's horn smashing the Titan's nose. Franky Mary rocket headbutt. Orr staggered back, Franky bringing up Usopp and Chopper to grab onto the undead's hair. Double monster kick, swinging down, the cyborg pushed Zoro and Sanji into the zombie's broken nose where the two started delivering their own brand of pain. Sanji, with his leg on fire, began leaving burns along the left half of the behemoth's face while Zoro, Shisui unsheathed, cut a long, diagonal line across Orr's face from left temple to right of the chin. Well, Robin mused from the ground. That worked better than I thought it would. I still think I would have been a better right arm than Usopp, Coby grumbled, crossing his arms. Yo-ho-ho-ho, Brook laughed. Raagh, the zombie yelled, the air pressure blowing the pirates away and apart from one another. They all hit the ground hard, Usopp, Mary, and Franky were knocked out upon impact. Zoro, Sanji, Chopper, and Jin struggled to their feet. Why did we have to do such a stupid stunt? Sanji complained as Chopper set to work checking over their downed comrades. Mary being knocked out from fall damage twice in such a short time could not have been good for her, non-human or otherwise. Even as Chopper tried to treat her wounds, Mary's body wavered and evaporated, her essence returning into her heart and leaving her clothes, rope, and heart behind. Chopper, Zoro grunted before the reindeer could start panicking. Get them to safety. Chopper nodded, stuffing the Klabouterman's clothes and heart in his bag before throwing Usopp on top of Franky and dragging them away with his heavy point. Zoro turned to look at Robin, Brook, and Coby. Who's out for good? Ms. Valentine and Miss Ship were both injured too much, Robin answered with a grimace. Long Nose and Franky have a chance of recovering, but I doubt it. We still don't know what happened to Captain. Damn it, the lightning man spat out. If this were the Don's shadow, I could understand losing, at least Orr's can't stretch or has Franky's parts. Oh Goda, he did not, Coby paled. He did, Sanji and Zoro responded. Well, it seems we will inevitably meet our doom crushed under the heel of this Titan after he learns to stretch or upgrade himself. Our souls added to the already large number of them crying out in pain from the Florian Triangle. Robin. What did I? Jin began, only to be cut off when Orr's fist slammed into him, crushing the logia between the undead appendage and a broken wall. The problem with that? Orr's was still standing on the other side of the courtyard. And now I think we can add Mr. Devil to that list, Robin got out. The Titan's arm snapped into place, said Titan looking at the appendage with some confusion. Ow, that's weird. I don't remember being able to stretch. Ki-shi-shi-shi. Moria laughed, the blue fabric of Orr's stomach pulling to the sides to reveal the control room within. Moria seated in the lone chair. That would be because of my assistants, Orr's. Wow, Master, that's amazing. That's super. Orr's struck Franky's iconic pose, jostling the warlord in his stomach. Ow? I'm like a robot. Yes, yes, Moria grunted in displeasure, replacing himself on his seat. Listen up, Orr's. As long as I'm here inside you, you will be able to stretch like Straw Hat. I know you aren't used to it, but you'll have to make do. Sure, Orr's agreed with all of Franky's exuberance. I just had to do it until I can get my super parts back. Ow. Damn it, Coby growled. This just got so much harder. Two options, Zoro responded, falling into his usual ready position. We can try to take him down ourselves or try to stall him and wait for Luffy. Let's go for broke and try to take him down, Sanji responded, lighting a cigarette and breathing in a calming breath of smoke. Might as well. As a zombie, Wars doesn't really feel pain, Robin observed. However, he still receives damage. Most of Frankie's attacks use his arms and gadgets, Coby added, without Frankie's upgrades. His arms are the only big problem, Zoro finished. Yo-ho-ho-ho. I shall assist you in any way I can. Let's go, Sanji announced just before thunder rumbled through the air and a bolt of lightning fell from the sky to shake the Titan. Thunderbolt tempo. Nami Swan. Wars staggered from the sudden rush of electricity in his body, the movement shaking Moria inside him. Standing on the bridge near the edge of the courtyard stood Nami, dressed in some of Perona's clothes instead of the wedding dress, and Grace. The captain's wife stood with a smirk on her face at the results of her surprise attack. Zoro's smirk mirrored the navigator's. It looks like we're still getting started. While Zoro, Brook, and Sanji worked together to distract Wars and Moria, Nami and Grace worked their way down to the courtyard, something that turned out to be for the best when the Titan tried to squish them with a stretchy strong right. Alright, Nami scowled as she and Grace finally reached Robin and Coby, having passed Chopper, Frankie, and Usopp on the way. What's the problem and where the hell is Luffy? Captain Luffy got shot into the forest somewhere when Moria appeared, Coby answered, and Jin, Amy, Frankie, Mary, and Usopp are out for the count while Chopper's trying to stabilize them. Right now, I think trying to stall Oars until Captain Luffy can get back is our best bet, but Moria is able to make him stretch like Captain Luffy by manipulating Oars' shadow. We have decided to try to disable Oars' arms, Robin offered, stepping forward as one of Zoro's flying slashes ripped apart the ground where she had been standing. The woman remained unharmed as well as nonchalant. That would be the best way to cripple Frankie's fighting style. Ah, excuse me a moment. Robin crossed her arms. Mille fleur. Giganto mano. A giant arm made of 1 million smaller arms bloomed into existence on the ground, backhanding a punch that Oars sent toward the group of 4. Robin panted from the stunt as the arm, having served its purpose, dispersed into flower petals. You rats are turning into a real pain in my ass, Moria growled. Quit screwing around, Oars. I'm sorry, master, I'll super try harder, strong right? Zoro and Sanji jumped out of the way, Oars' fist burying itself in the ground due to the extra power he'd put behind it. Ow, my fist is stuck. Is that so? Zoro smirked. In that case, Demon Raven's talons. With a running head start, Zoro all but rolled up Oars' arm, his swords carving deep gashes in groups of 3. Oars yelled in anger, ripping his arm out of the ground and backhanding the swordsman. Sanji attempted to take advantage of this, jumping toward the room in the giant's stomach with a burning right leg. Moria scowled, bringing his shadow up to wrap around the chef's leg and smothering the fire there. Sanji wobbled as the corporeal shadow threw him off, causing the cook to slam into the giant's stomach to the right of the window and lose his cigarette in the process. Moria's doppelman grabbed Sanji before gravity could take hold, dragging him toward Moria so the warlord could steal his shadow for a second time. Brook tried to come to his rescue. Using his lighter weight to reach them, the skeleton slashed through the doppelman before thrusting his rapier at the probably not fully human person controlling it, only to find that what he was stabbing was not flesh but shadow. Ki-shi-shi-shi. Moria laughed from right next to the skeleton where he held the cook. You stupid rats, I can switch place with my doppelman at will. Grabbing both Brook and Sanji in one oversized hand, Moria forewent the use of his scissors and ripped one combined shadow from both of them. Both pirates instantly fainted, Sanji coughing up blood and Brook's skull cracking as the crude means of removing their shadows damaged their bodies. The two now out of the fight and useless to him. Moria tossed them out of Oars' stomach without so much as a glance and shoved their combined shadow in the back of the cockpit. 108 caliber Phoenix. Moria barely had time to duck before a flying slash cut the air where his neck had been, said slash cleaving over a foot into Oars' stomach flesh and the back wall of the cockpit as well as slicing the doppelman's head off. You super bastard, Oars yelled. Don't cut my parts, strong right. 1 gorilla, Zoro muttered, his right bicep bulging. 2 gorilla. 2 gorilla slash. Zoro's swords met Oars' fist, pushing its momentum to the swordsman's left. Zoro panted from the force, but smirked around Wado Ichimonji until a shadow passed over him and another fist came down. Strong left. That isn't one of Frankie's attacks, Coby gasped as his teacher was sent flying, the green-haired man getting buried in a wall from the force of the giant fist. He's adapting, Robin realized as Oars turned his attention to them. Only 4 left, the Titan rumbled, 3 girls and a guy. Cover me, Nami ordered, whipping out her clean attack and releasing heat and cool balls into the air. Robin, Grace, Coby nodded before jumping into action, Coby rushing forward in his Dino mode with Grace on his back. Alright, Coby, Grace yelled. Let's go, colorful volcano. The painter jumped as Coby rolled forward, the boy changing into his hybrid mode before his feet met Grace's. Both teens extended their legs. The resulting force sent Grace hurtling upward, her hat fluttering away in the wind. Oars snatched the girl out of the air before she could even reach his stomach, intending to crush her like a grape, but did a double take at the gray-green smoke that slowly curled up from his hand. Opening his fist in worry, Oars found a smirking redhead standing in his palm, his fingers and most of the skin around the girl bubbling from some chemical substance. "What did you? I'd be careful if I were you," the girl taunted with a wiggle of her finger. "Too much force could easily make your hand fall apart." "Why you?" Oars roared, swinging his left hand down to punch the girl in his hand. .72 caliber Phoenix, Coby yelled, his flying slash, while still not as strong as Zoro's, was still strong enough to push the giant's hand, making Oars punch his own wrist rather than Grace. The redhead stumbled and fell from the hand, Coby catching her in his hybrid mode. "You punks," the giant growled, punting Coby and Grace as they fell. The zone of the two took the brunt of both the kick and the subsequent landing, but the shock was enough to knock both him and girl out of commission. "Two girls left," Oars muttered, searching for his prey only to find Moria standing amidst the rubble with an unconscious Robin at his feet. "Master." "Don't worry, Oars," Moria waved off. "While you were distracted, this one." He nudged the archaeologist so she rolled onto her back, tried to snap my neck. As soon as the warlord finished speaking, he was launched backward by a gust of wind more powerful than any he had felt before, but he managed to land on his feet. Twisting around toward the origin of the wind, he found several distorted versions of the Straw Hat's navigator. "You better watch yourself," the 6 doppelgangers chorused in 6-part harmony. "There's a thunderstorm warning for the entire Florian Triangle. Monsters and bastards are advised to move inside to reduce the chance lightning strikes. Thunderbolt tempo." "Master Moria," Oars wailed, the lightning coming down before he could blink. The space where Moria had been standing was completely empty save for scorched rubble and just a hint of sizzling grass. "You bitch! You killed Master Moria. I don't care if there are 6 of you or 100, I'll squish you flat, strong right." The mirages Nami had created split up, each one running in a different direction. Not knowing which one was real, Oars went for the one that looked like Nami's regular appearance. His fist shattered the ground when it made contact, crushing the mirage. Disappointed, Oars pulled his fist back, not realizing that Grace's acid paint was still eating away at his hand. He targeted the short double next, punching that doppelganger as it tried to climb a piece of sharp debris. The corner stabbed Oars' knuckles as the double faded, leaving only 4. The next target on Oars' list was the wide image. The double froze, staring at the fist as the other mirages dissipated. "I got you now, strong right," the fist impacted, but it wasn't Nami. The navigator, having fallen back in fear as her illusion failed, stared up at the blue monster before her. The creature was over 10 feet tall with spiky black hair. Muscles rippled under the much too small red vest it wore and a sword with a 6-foot blade rested across its back. One hand was held up, having stopped Oars' strong right cold. "Don't re-growled." The hand squeezing Oars' middle finger tightened, making audible cracks in the bone beneath. "You had the audacity to hurt my crew. I won't let you hurt my wife, too." "Wait," Nami blinked. "Luffy? What happened to you?" "I'll explain later," the captain answered, glaring at the cockpit in Oars' stomach where Moria watched silently. "Just let me kick this bastard's ass real quick." Ki-shi-shi-shi. Moria cackled from within Oars' stomach room once more, throwing his hands out. "So what if you're blue now? I've wiped out your crew with nothing but your shipwright's shadow. Imagine the damage I'll do when I replace it with yours, Straw Hat." "Not gonna happen," Luffy stated. "Master, you're alive." "Not for long," Luffy muttered ominously, grabbing Oars' middle finger with both of his and pulling. The Titan stumbled before Luffy jumped, flipping the undead over his head before throwing him and Moria away from the courtyard and into the remains of the graveyard. "Nami, stay here," he ordered. "Help is on the way." With that, the captain vanished. Just as Luffy and Oars vanished over the rubble of the broken mansion, a large group of pirates flooded into the destroyed courtyard. "Hurry up," a large, pink-haired woman at the front of the group ordered. "Find any survivors while Straw Hat distracts Moria." The obvious captain of this group stood on the taller end with pink hair down to her back and very large red lips. There was also a sword strapped to her back. "Damn," one guy muttered, standing next to Zoro's prone form buried in the stone wall. "This guy's seriously roughed up. I'm surprised he's alive." "There's nothing but bones left of this guy," another member called over Brook and Sanji. "This woman doesn't seem harmed, but she's missing her shadow. 2 teens over here. They look like they got shot out of a cannon. This dude has a pipe stabbed through him, but there's no blood. We found a raccoon dog caring for 2 more. I'm a reindeer, you jerk." "What the?" Nami blinked before stomping up into the Rosette's face. "Who are you? What the hell did you do to my husband?" "I'm sorry," the newcomer questioned. "Husband? Who are you?" "I'm Monkey D. Nami, the wife of that moron you turned into a massive, blue gorilla." Realization flashed in the woman's eyes, her large lips parting to show the navigator a smile with a missing tooth. "You're his wife, So he wasn't lying to me. She shook her head and stretched out a hand. I'm Lola, the captain of the Rolling Pirates, and your husband is the hope we've been waiting for nearly 2 years since Moria took our shadows. Wait. She gestured to the group pulling the Straw Hats from the rubble, or the Thriller Bark Survivors Association. As for what happened to Straw Hat, we gave him about 100 shadows we'd managed to collect over the years, granting him the accumulation of all of their strength. You're telling me you stuffed shadows into him? And it's working, too, a male pirate agreed. A pair popped up from behind Lola, synchronized but very different. One, the one that had spoken, was rail thin with 2 buck teeth and curly orange hair. The other was on the larger side with a leather mask, helmet pulled down over his eyes and a warhammer strapped to his back. Do you hear it? That's the sound of our tormentor getting the snot beaten out of him. I don't know why he can hold all those shadows. I don't care, either. Go, Straw Hat, they cheered together. Nami blinked at how familiar the two seemed, almost like she'd met them before, but that was absurd. Come on, Lola insisted, grabbing Nami's arm and dragging her away. We don't have much time. Moria's head was ringing, and the near-constant abuse Or's rocking was putting it in his body through wasn't helping matters. He scowled, clutching his face as his momentum swung him down into the bottom frame of the window in Or's stomach. The warlord opened his mouth, only for his body to be shoved into the wall as the giant he was inside of was yanked to the side. Luffy, down on the ground, couldn't care less about the Shadow Man's plight. The temporally blue pirate in question was a little more occupied with keeping his balance while he swung the titanic zombie like a ragdoll from his hold on one of the fingers of the monster's right hand. Soon, the strain was too much for the dead, acid-covered flesh, the finger tearing and ripping at the knuckle before coming apart completely. Oars flew away, crushing several dozen trees in the forest and knocking over 100 more. My finger! The massive undead cried, staring at the empty spot his right middle finger had occupied. You bastard! Oars tried to stand, but Luffy was much faster than the Titan could ever hope to be even before adding the speed of 100 shadows. One sword style. Valley of Death. Luffy intoned as he unsheathed the giant sword the TBSA had given him with the shadows, not knowing where the attack name came from. He blurred out of focus as a massive gash opened on the fallen zombie's foot, cutting off 2 toes. More gashes appeared, working their way up the giant's body even as he tried to get on his feet. A cut opened just between the hip and Or's right leg, half of the curtains floated to the floor. A long stitch in the giant's chest split down the middle. Finally, the all but invisible blur that was the pirate captain appeared on the gargantuan zombie's collarbone, his sword already slicing through the undead's neck. Ors reached up with his right arm, trying to crush the blue pirate with the sword, only to realize that his hand had stopped halfway there. Slowly, ever so slowly, the zombie's larger forearm and elbow separated from his thinner upper arm. The now useless appendage fell to the ground with an almighty crash. Ors. Moria stood on the sideline, having swapped places with his doppelman at the earliest possible time he could, utterly perplexed and angry. His greatest weapon, the thing he had been creating for the purpose of facing down a Yonko, now laid before him defeated, felled by a rookie. Said rookie stood atop the beast he'd all but slain, his cold eyes turning to stare at the warlord himself. Moria felt no fear, not an ounce of it. No, the only emotion his trembling form radiated was pure anger. Complete and utter rage at this stupid, straw hat wearing buffoon that now stood on and over his greatest pawn. It never occurred to the angered Shadow Man that the reason Luffy was able to defeat Ors so quickly was due to, in large part, his crew causing so much damage to the beast before he got back. Straw Hat, Moria roared. I hope you're ready to die. Not today, Moria. Luffy blurred toward the warlord, 2 dark shapes left behind where he had been standing before floating away. Unaware of the loss of 2 shadows, Luffy shaved forward, punching Moria in the stomach before the warlord could react. The Shadow Man flew backwards for a few feet before the shadows around him congealed into a net, slowing and stopping his momentum. A shadow loomed over Luffy, the pirate looking up to see Or's remaining hand ready to crush him. Luffy's gaze hardened in response, his borrowed sword swinging up to sever the hand from the arm. Grabbing the hand before it could fall, the blue pirate stretched his arms and swung, bitch slapping an unprepared Moria with the giant hand. Even as that happened, however, another shadow flew away without Luffy's knowledge. The East Blue native raced toward Moria, the warlord growling at him as his shadow rose into his hands to form a warhammer of pure darkness. Take this, Moria ordered as Luffy approached, Dark Mjolnir. Luffy twisted, the instincts of nearly 20 swordsmen allowing him to catch the shadow hammer with his borrowed sword. Even so, the hammer's momentum still slammed him into the ground back first at Moria's feet. You're a fool, Monkey D. Luffy, Moria declared as tendrils of shadow sprouted from his weapon, holding the younger pirate down. You aren't ready for the new world, but with your shadow in Orzard, Luffy hissed, struggling from his grounded position. Try as he might, though, he could not break the bindings. Moria raised his hammer again, ready to knock the other captain unconscious, but something larger overshadowed them. Retreating quickly, Moria managed to replace himself with his doppelman. Super Crush. In oars without both hands or his right arm body slammed Luffy, pressing him into the ground. Moria stared into the grinning face of his prized pawn with surprise. "Got you, Straw Hat. I'm super resilient." "Good work, Wars," Moria laughed. "Now all that's left is two." "Herc," Wars groaned, acting as if he were about to throw up. "What is, huh?" Wars' body started to rise without the zombies say so. The sound of faint screaming erupted from the crack between the Titan's stomach and the ground, growing louder as oars got higher until, finally, the undead was launched into the air. Standing where he had been before, a slightly less blue Luffy still had one hand raised from when he had been giving oars a gum-gum gatling to remember. Luffy bent down, never looking at Moria, before shaving away and reappearing above the airborne zombie and twisting himself. Goom goom. Storm. A veritable hailstorm of fists and feet rained down on the Goliath, speeding up his already increasing downward momentum. Oars hit the ground where Moria was standing with an earth-shattering crash, a wave of compressed air destroying every tree in the vicinity. Luffy drew his sword before, as a last hurrah, separating both of the zombies' legs with a single flying slash. That deed done, the team fell to the ground, the last of the shadows within him leaving to find their true owners and the sword he had so expertly wielded stabbing into the ground next to his face. "That's it," Luffy grunted through heavy breaths, "we won." Unfortunately, it seemed that Luffy spoke too soon, a sharp pillar of shadow stabbing through Oar's stomach before opening like some grotesque flower to reveal a bloody but very much alive and pissed off warlord. Straw Hat. Not having the energy to jerk in surprise, Luffy slowly turned a wide eye toward the steaming warlord. "But," he stammered, "but I." "You couldn't crush me that easy," Moria yelled, the shadows around him growing into a mass of dark tentacles that wiggled around him, visualizing his anger. "You've ruined everything. Forget taking your shadow. Forget using your body. When I'm done with you, your body will be so far gone that the Marines won't be able to confirm it's you. Come forth, Loki's wrath." The shadowed tentacles surged forward, their deadly points ready to pierce the worn-out teen. A veritable hailstorm of fists and feet rained down on the Goliath, speeding up his already increasing downward momentum. Oars hit the ground where Moria was standing with an earth-shattering crash, a wave of compressed air destroying every tree in the vicinity. Luffy drew his sword before, as a last hurrah, separating both of the zombies' legs with a single flying slash. That deed done, the team fell to the ground, the last of the shadows within him leaving to find their true owners and the sword he had so expertly wielded stabbing into the ground next to his face. "That's it," Luffy grunted through heavy breaths, "we won." Unfortunately, it seemed that Luffy spoke too soon, a sharp pillar of shadow stabbing through Oar's stomach before opening like some grotesque flower to reveal a bloody but very much alive and pissed warlord. Straw Hat. Not having the energy to jerk in surprise, Luffy slowly turned a wide eye toward the steaming warlord. "But," he stammered, "but I." "You couldn't squish me that easy," Moria yelled, the shadows around him growing into a mass of dark tentacles that wiggled around him, visualizing his anger. "You've ruined everything. Forget taking your shadow. Forget using your body. When I'm done with you, your body will be so far gone that the Marines won't be able to confirm it's you. Come forth, Loki's wrath." The shadowed tentacles surged forward, their deadly points ready to pierce the worn-out teen. There was nothing Luffy could do but stare at the deadly points Moria sent after him. The overwhelming power he had wielded just before was gone, spent throughout the short but titanic battle he'd held against Oars. Not only that, but Luffy was still forced to admit that he hadn't fully recovered after his fight with Lucci, at least, not enough for a battle with a warlord. Now time seemed to slow as Moria's attack honed in on the immobile pirate. Luffy closed his eyes, sending a silent apology to his crew and wife. Dragon Twister. A whirlwind of green appeared between Luffy and the lethal attack, three swords throwing the shadows away from their intended path. Moria didn't react save for a slight deepening of his angry gaze as the failed attack returned to him. Luffy opened his eyes. "Zoro," he croaked out. "Don't worry, Captain," the swordsman grunted, never taking his eyes off the warlord before them. "Everyone's accounted for and ready to go again except for Mary. We'll take it from here." What happened to Mary?" "Fall damage," Zoro answered. "It cracked her heart, so she can't move for now. She'll be fine eventually." "That's..." Luffy never finished, the reprise from fighting and the knowledge that his crew had his back allowing the rubber man to slip into a much-needed slumber. "That little brat fell asleep," Moria growled. "All. Your fight is with us," a new voice interrupted, an electrically charged fist striking Moria's back. The warlord jumped, a claw of shadow twisting around him to rip his attacker in half. Jin only grinned at him, his body fusing back together with the help of his devil fruit. 10,000 kilogram press. Moria jumped back once more, this time avoiding the crater that formed where he'd been standing. In the center was a blonde with an umbrella. "Kyahahaha. Hope you're ready, Moria. "'Cause you're about to be in a world of hurt." "She's right, you know," another voice agreed. Moria spun, taking him his surroundings to find every member of the Straw Hat Pirates sans their captain and newest member armed and ready to fight. Behind them were the Rolling Pirates and the other members of the TBSA. And all of them were ready to fight him. "You see," Coby continued, an underlying growl from his dinosauric vocal cords making his words reverberate, "while our captain might be the strongest of us individually, the rest of us aren't just skating by. Maybe you heard about it, but every one of us stormed Eni's lobby itself and fought our way back out. You might have outlasted Captain Luffy, but you can't take us all on." "Is that so?" Moria replied, ropes of shadow growing from his feet and stretching out past the crowd. "Then I hope you have the strength of 1,000 men, because I do. Come to me, shadows of Thriller Bark. Come and strengthen your master, come and become my power, Shadows Asgard." Then, before the eyes of all in attendance, Moria began to grow, his body starting to bloat. The zombies around Thriller Bark fell one after the other, their stolen shadows abandoning the undead at the call of the warlord. 100. 200. 300. 400. Moria continued to grow with the number of shadows he absorbed, even Frankie's shadow abandoning Or's body and joining the rest within the Shadow Man. Some of the Straw Hats tried to stop even some of the shadows, but to no avail. 500. 600. 700. 800. The shadows began to slow, but still Moria grew. 900. 1,000 shadows. Moria dropped to all fours, but still he towered over his opponents. Unlike Luffy, Moria's skin didn't have any advanced elasticity, but still he grew until he stared down on the crowd from nearly 100 feet. His neck bulged, the shadows within him stretching the skin and distorting his voice into a gravelly bass. His shoes were ripped apart from the inside as his feet swelled, revealing his sharpened nails. The buttons of Moria's shirt strained against newfound stress as the shirt barely grew with the Shadow Man's torso. "Holy shit," several of the men muttered. "We can't beat him, not like this. He has the strength of 1,000 people, all we can do is run and hide." "You cowards," Lola yelled. "Look at them, look at the Straw Hats, they aren't moving, and neither will I." "She's right, we can't run now, we've got Moria backed into a corner." "The rats backed into corners are usually the most dangerous," Sanji muttered, lighting a new cigarette. "Nami Swan, how long would you say until our shitty captain is back on his feet?" "I don't know," the navigator admitted. "He heals fast, but after a fight like that." "Raw og hhhh," Moria roared, swinging one arm downward. Zoro and Robin jumped away from what would become the impact site, Moria's giant fingers digging trenches in the already destroyed ground. "You might be super strong," Frankie yelled, "but we're even more super, weapons left." The cyborg fired, the projectile exploding against the engorged warlord's stomach. Moria screamed in a mix of pain and rage, a dozen or so shadows fleeing from through his mouth before his teeth could shut. "Did you see that?" Coby called. "It looks like he can't control the shadows properly." "Silence, boy," Moria ordered, a giant fist bearing down in the zone who tried to jump away. A crewmate protected him, though, Amy jumping in and increasing her mass while Coby ducked beneath her. Dense shield. The air pressure blew the rosette away and splintered the ground, but Moria's middle finger's largest bone fractured from the impact. The warlord reeled back, grasping his hand as another half-dozen shadows oozed out of his bruised flesh as it healed from the combined healing factors of over 900 people. "Our turn," Zoro and Sanji declared, the former jumping to balance himself at the latter's leg. "Mosshead shoot," the cook called, launching the green-haired swordsman upward toward the warlord. "Brick bat. Shadow box." Moria's shadow shot toward Zoro, who started spinning his swords in response, slicing each shadow bat in half and ruining the box. "3 sword-style secret technique. 3,000 worlds." Zoro shot past Moria, long, deep cuts slashing through the warlord's stomach. Moria staggered backward, coughing up blood and shadows as he tripped onto a giant chain. Grabbing that, he pulled himself up and accidentally turned the rudder. Storm clouds rumbled above the assembled pirates, the Straw Hats turning to glance at their navigator. Of them, Nami's eyes locked with Jin's, giving him a small nod. Moria missed this, his fingers raking through MPT to disperse them. "Hey, Moria," Jin yelled, both tonfa pointed at the clouds. "I wouldn't worry about those clouds if I were you." Lightning arched down from the clouds, missing Moria altogether and connecting with the Logia's weapons. Jin's form all but faded, the new surge of energy making every atom in his body vibrate to the point where his form was fuzzy. Slowly, his tonfa dropped to aim at the oversized warlord, light condensing between the golden orbs on the ends. Thunderbolt tempo. Lightning shot, Jin and Nami declared in tandem, another bolt striking Jin and instantly being redirected into the attack he released at the same time. The electricity slammed into Moria like a sea train, the pale man flailing as the energy was painfully discharged into the ground through his bare feet. The attack burned away his shirt and coat, leaving Moria with nothing but his pants. The shadow man jerked and roared as the electricity coursed through him. Far more shadows than before abandoning the man who called himself their master. Moria had shrunk by the end of the attack. A full fourth of his previous power gone. Jin was worse for wear, however, passing out from the amount of energy he'd put into the attack. Moria reeled, staggering in an attempt to keep his footing even as shadows fled from him in droves. Down on the ground, the shortest redhead grabbed the now only undead's arm. "Brooke, show me your sword." The skeleton didn't answer, holding out his rapier cane for the girl. Grace pulled out her palette, quickly covering the blade with red paint. "I need you to get this on Moria's torso." "Yo-ho-ho. Will do. Hold him down," Coby yelled, every straw hat sans Luffy and Jin dashing forward. Giant arms bloomed from Moria's back, two of them grabbing his arms and another wrapping around his neck. Brooke and Zoro reached him first, with the latter hacking away at his legs while the former ran up his legs to leave a long, red smear across the warlord's chest. Moria ripped an arm free and swatted at him, but the nimble swordsman jumped over his hand and ran back down, making an Amy caught up to Coby, jumping into his arms. "Throw me," the blonde ordered, a small symbol of red paint on her arm. Coby shrugged before beginning to spin, launching a less than 1 kilogram Amy at the warlord with all his zone strength. "Yellow meteor," they called in tandem. Moria had just enough time to turn toward the sound before a 10,000 kilogram Amy slammed into his sternum, right where the X crossed. Moria went down with gasp, toppling backwards into a crumbling tower. The brick and stone gave way underneath him, digging into his back as Moria finally hit the ground. Shadows blasted from Moria's mouth like black lava from an erupting volcano, the warlord's form shrinking. The pirates that hadn't gotten there to help deal the finishing blow surrounded him, ready to act if he made a move, however unlikely that was. Amy continued to sit on his stomach, cratering the ground as her weight continued to force the shadows from Moria's body. Nami turned away from them, her eyes coming to rest on the downed form of her husband. Luffy was awake, though he couldn't move, a tired smile on his face. The clouds over Thriller Bark broke, a ray of sun falling on the pirate captain. Nami rushed over, picking Luffy up and holding him tightly. The rest of Moria's victims both on Thriller Bark and throughout the world rejoiced as their shadows returned at long last. Thriller Bark had fallen. However, just when it appeared that the war was over, a new enemy revealed themselves.